But um, squigs, man. I wonder how good the Mangler squigs are going to be because I've always liked those models. They've always been some of my favorites.
People run a couple from what I've seen. You mean the hero, right?
Yeah, yeah, the Mangler squig with the hero on it because you can load it up with a bunch of traits and make it just pop off.
Dude, War Splatter's Fanatics have Bravery 10. What?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
randomly some grot?
They are completely fearless. That's always been the case with them, which is hilarious.
There's
And
literally no downside to taking them. Like, they're not even like a niche unit because you're adding one to the attack characteristic of all Gits units only within 9.
yeah,
Ugh.
and they're so cheap that you can just bring them, which feels good. A lot of times you get
Yeah,
a
you
unit
can
like
just
that and you
bring,
can't.
just bring 3 of them.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're live. Hello, chat. How's everybody
Yeah,
doing
we're live.
today? We're talking about Gits today,
Sounds fun.
apparently. There we go. Switched it over. People can see us. Everything looks
Hot
great.
Chat.
Make
I've already
sure.
got my background set to embrace our new Gits overlords.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Welcome, all the. I can't even see where this freaking thing is. I think it's. Oh, my hand's just not doing it. Yep.
Gits look good. Beast of Chaos looked good too, though, from the previews, and they still look good, but like the point changes are so big for that army, and the fact that they can't summon anymore, like
No, it's just a fundamentally different army. Instead
yeah,
of just being an army that overwhelms you with moving models forward on -2 rend and summoning, it's just an army that is more techy now. You need to know where to go and use resources and be a smart. It's a general's book, what I like to say. It's not just, some kid showing up with like 200 models and then summoning 200 more and oh, look at this. My 125 point unit has -3 rend. It's like
yeah. It's weird that that's a techie army, right? Like you see screaming mutant beasts, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a super hard to play army. Like what?
I actually like it. It's like because it's like they used to be the ambush army, right? It's like
Yeah,
if you look at the lore, this like they ambush people in the forests and then they're mutated by the gods, and that's what they like to like. You might think they're goats, but like they don't think of themselves as screaming goats. So I don't know. I like it. It's like it's adding some flavor to chaos because I was never interested in beasts technically or model wise. I'm still not interested model wise, but tech wise, yeah, I think they're pretty cool.
do you think with Gits and Beasts and Splintered Fang and the infantry meta, this is Karazai's time to shine?
I mean, if Karazai can survive 36 squid herd, which I don't think he can, but
Yeah,
yeah.
survive
I think if
150
you
attacks with 6s to mortals.
You can reduce their attacks, but it's like you need to make them reroll 6s. Remember when
Sorry,
Divine Light
120
used to
attack.
make if you cast Divine Light on
Yeah.
yourself, it made opponents reroll 6s against you?
Mhm.
If they brought that back, I would like that.
I
Yeah,
everybody
that's right,
says
Halo.
we do have Halo. That'll just kill you faster though, because then the squigs run away and then they kill you in battle
Yeah,
shock.
and then they'll mortal wound you to death. Yeah.
I think you can set up choke points and do it pretty well and limit the space that they can surround you. That's going to be the limiting factor on that, right? Like remember when 30 witch blocks were a thing? Like yeah, in theory they could all get in, but realistically with terrain and other units in the way, the targets they wanted to hit weren't always able to get hit.
So okay, here's my issue, right? So it's like I was talking in some few chats about this. Witch elves we always expected them to delete whatever's in front. Always. There was nothing 30 witch elves could not realistically delete in 2.0, sometimes in 3.0, depend if you didn't have a 2-up saber. So I expect that. What I don't expect to happen is them deleting whatever's in front, taking like, I don't know, 10 casualties, 50, because nothing is getting, like people can do 30 damage realistically in a turn. I don't think people can do 72 damage realistically in a turn. There's not a lot of units that can do that in the game. So realistically, assuming you survive with just some incredible toughness, you will do anywhere from like 15 to 30 damage. The other 30 wounds of that army, when it runs away, will do more damage to you,
Yeah.
and then they'll come back to do it again. So for a 360 point, well, let's say that you take the hero, so let's say 420 point investment. That is the most like busted thing I've ever seen.
The only saving grace is that they are so weak against shooting. Like that unit is complete trash if it gets shot. So we're in a decent position to take care of it. But how do melee armies deal with that? Like Ironjaws just lose.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, I don't care. Like, I have long strikes. I can sharpshooter their heroes off. I have crossbow adjudicators. I don't care. But is it healthier for the wider meta? How does any death army in the game deal with this?
It's tough, man. It's really
How does
tough.
Nighthawk deal with this? I don't think they can. Even Nighthawk can't deal with it.
Maybe like a
It's all one damage.
strike last and just kill them before they can battle shock, I guess.
No, it's like, oh, you go in to kill their units, you make them not pass battle shock. Oh, guess what? It deletes your entire Bladegeist unit, and their unit comes back. Yours doesn't, and you're death. So like, okay, have fun with that.
Yeah. Well, at least we found something that can kill Nighthaunt. Finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this stream started. Dan, run us through the Kaiju sponsorship.
Yeah, so Kaiju Gaming Lounge is our sponsor, and they're a really awesome group. Carl, you'll see in our Discord talking chaos sometimes, like actual chaos, not like just making chaotic comments. But sometimes he does that too. But yeah, Carl's a great guy, and Kaiju is one of his it's his store here, and they for support us, and they do a lot of great stuff, and they actually have our official merchandise. So you can see in our picture here. I don't know if I can point that way if it works, but maybe that way. Yeah, we have our measuring sticks. These are really great for if you play Annihilators or any other Thunderstrike models that you bring down with your Lord and Paladin at 7-inch for a 7-inch deep strike, because we do have a nice little cutout for 7 inches. You can kind of see there, as well as being in the regular 9-inch and being a 1-inch on one side. So really usable stick. Love the things. They come in 3 different colors. So you've got a blue, a black, and a clear. The clear looks pretty great. And they can come with the kind of stripping still on them. Do I have? Yep, I do. Basically, they can come with the actual stripping still on them, and you can see here it's not painted, or they can come in gold like you see there. But you can actually just paint it yourself, like literally with model paint, or just spray paint it, and then you take the sticker off, and boom, it's your own custom color. So that's kind of fun. The clear one I think looks really good if you do that. You can kind of see it here. Looks really cool if you go ahead and do that customization. And then our Stormkeep dice, which roll really dang well.
No, they don't.
It's I don't know how. They're regular Chessex dice. Guys, these are just I don't know what's going on with those.
They are below average for me so far. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, your mileage will vary.
Maybe it's different in Canada.
No, they've been great for
That's
me.
probably what it is.
It's the temperature and altitude or something.
Yeah, the metric system probably. But
Once
really cool
you
design.
pass the 47th parallel or 49th or whatever, it just changes.
It's the rotation of the Earth. Yeah, so definitely check them out for all your model needs, as well as cool gaming aids like these. They do other cool measuring sticks and combat gauges. Actually, we have combat gauges as well. Crap, I don't have it with me because I have all my stuff packed for playing tomorrow. But we do have combat gauges with the same cool Stormkeep logo. So really cool. Please check them out. They do a lot to help us.
Andy's
so much to
saying
help us.
the dice roll well, especially on heroic recovery attempts. The one time you don't want it.
The first time I used them, I rallied 2 dragons. It was great. There's nothing like that high. Like, oh man.
Also, the 7-inch stick is going to be good for Beasts of Chaos because they have a 7-inch deep strike now. So plan on playing that
I
army.
thought it was +1.
They get a 7-inch and they get +2 to charge.
I get a command trait to make one unit come in 7 inches away.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so beast players, yeah, buy our sticks. It's like the only stick that does this, by the way. Yeah, pretty cool. Check them out.
All right. Let's move into the January painting contest, which was the Sequitors, because they got a big old point drop, and they're actually going to see the table competitively, I think. And we decided we wanted to see everybody paint them. So here's the ones that I painted up a couple years ago. And we had a whole bunch of entries on our Discord server. People submitted their entries. We all ranked them, and we're going to present you guys with our favorites, some honorable mentions, and then the top 3. We will contact the top 3 privately and get their shipping info and send them the prizes. So first honorable mention from Killmane Knievel, which is a pretty unique green and red Christmassy almost color scheme.
Yeah.
Which I dig. But you guys definitely put up more votes for this one. So what do you guys like about this?
I like how clean it is. I think it just works. I like the almost it invokes an almost older like paint style that just kind of really clean. I see a lot of hyper realistic stuff going on, whereas this feels more like animated in a good way, right? Like not everything has to be hyper realistic. And I think this really shows that it's just clean.
I think this guy plays Dark Angels.
I was gonna say that it reminds me of a 6th edition 40k box, the old times.
Yeah, and I think like this is super clean. Whatever he's done, this was actually one of my top picks, but it didn't make it. But I really like the Dark Angels look. I think it suits Stormcast really well.
Yeah, and Sequitors are a great place to add a third color to your color scheme, or even a fourth color, right? Because you can do the robes in one color and then the cloth in another color, right? And then there's even opportunities to do like the underside of the robes and the underside of the cloth. So these units can get really colorful and expand the palette of your army tremendously. And you can see that here. So instead of just having like green and gold and white, it's green, gold, white, cream, and red. So that's now a 5-color palette, which, yeah, I think the bases on this one are a little bit plain. Like they could be punched up a little bit, add some tufts, some grass, some rocks. I think you could push that a little bit further, something complementary to the models.
Yeah, maybe. It just all looks very clean. It's like a classic style almost.
Yeah,
it lends itself well to the whole thing.
and he does a better job painting eyes than I do.
Oh yeah.
Okay, our next honorable mention from White Paints, who I follow on Instagram. He didn't link his Instagram in the Discord, so I'm not going to put it here. But he does this wicked effect, like a heat, like steel heating up, and you can see the gradient on the shield there on the middle front left Sequitor. The steel is actually like getting hotter, and the heat's rising, and that does reflect how steel would absorb heat, right? The color matches it, the gradient, everything. In addition, he's got a little bit of kit bashing going on here. He's got some extra little bits attached to the Great Maces. So I'm just a big fan of this one overall. And it's got a little bit of source lighting with the green on the grass, kind of making it stand out a bit more. Yeah, I really like this guy's style, and I'm glad he keeps submitting to our painting contest because it's really nice to look at him.
Yeah, these are great. I think I might have placed this a little lower just because, ironically, in contrast to the last one, I thought that the bases like wanted a little bit more. It almost felt like the bases were a little bare, and it was just like the one corner. Like I can see what he was going for, with the like. I assume that this is like kind of a swamp effect, so it's kind of like a foggy ground that they're stepping around. That's kind of the feel I get from this is that it should be foggy around them, and maybe that's what's going on. But I just thought that it felt a little more incomplete than some of the other ones. But holy crap, is this good work? This is way better than anything I can do.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like it. All right, our final honorable mention, I believe. I'll have to double check, but this comes from Windy Sails, which is the classic Stonecast. People have been doing Stonecast pretty much since Stormcast have come out because it's super fast. It's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's like it's definitely a lot faster than like painting the robes and everything separately just to make it all look like stone. But he's actually done a really good job accentuating specific details. Like just having the glow effect on the maces, the head conversion, the visors having a little glow effect on them as well. The placement of the grass seems pretty deliberate. He's got texture paint like crackling on the shoulders to make it look like they've seen some weather damage as well. So a very well done Stonecast. I like this.
Yeah, it's hard to make Stonecast look this good, and holy crap, did you pull it off? The highlights are great. Everything is. And that basing, like this is that hyper realistic style, and this is done so well. Like you can see the movement of the models, and I love that about this one. Great job, man. Or I don't know.
All right, third place. You guys ready?
Yep.
We've got Causalis.
Yeah.
Is like causality. That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm sorry if we got it wrong. So the previous one was Stonecast. We call this like Grimcast. Like it's a very gritty, realistic attempt at Stormcast. People have been doing this a lot since the Sequitors and such have come out to make it more, down to earth. And this was around the time when Age of Sigmar went from like almost being too hopeful and then kind of like, hey, don't forget, everything sucks. The mortal realms are going to kill you in no time flat. Everything's mutated and horrible, and everything's trying to steal your soul. And then people started kind of putting that into the Stormcast models themselves and making them look grittier. And this captures that feeling really well. So I'm seeing like some kind of frontier town in a wintry area. They've been besieged for so long. You can see the rust in the what's the word for the green on that bronze? There's a word for it.
Oxidation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Verdigris.
Yeah, the vertegrate. Yeah, and you can just
Oh,
see that developing because they've just been out there for so long, right? Like Stormcast come out looking pristine when they're reforged, and these guys have been there for so long. I also like the source lighting on the files, which are a lost mechanic now. You don't do anything with those anymore. But I like the attention to detail, just pointing those out. The little blue glow, and then it's the same glow on the maces. I really like this.
yeah.
Did the Wilds do something?
Yeah, you used to be able to whip them on the ground, right? Oh no, that was
No,
the
for
Night
Incanters and Arcanums.
Yeah.
Incanters and Arcanums
Incanters,
used to
yeah.
do that.
I guess it was just
Yeah.
like a detail on all the Sacrosanct.
Still really cool to highlight that. I can see myself sitting around a bonfire here because this is totally the Dark Souls look too. Just
Yeah.
very good. Like, holy crap, good stuff, man.
Yep. Fantastic, Causalis. We will be in touch to get you your prize. Congratulations.
hmm
Second place is Balefire, who is becoming a regular on our painting contests. And Balefire, again, I follow him on Instagram too. He's got a phenomenal style. It's like looking at a comic page, right? It's such a high contrast style. He puts in these super bright blues to contrast with like really hot reds, dusty orange in there at the bottom of his models, and it makes it really pop. Really focuses on all the details of the model. So I really like his style. He's done other stuff for Not Contest before. The Sequitors are another banger. I also just love the flames on the maces. I'm pretty sure, is that Nighthaunt bits or is that like Deus Arcanum? Because I want to do
Might
this.
be Nighthaunt bits. I know he uses them a fair bit in his conversions.
It just looks like Spirit Host bits.
Yeah, like Spirit Host bits or even the Tornado, like the Stormcast Tornado.
It might be that. I don't think so. Maybe, but I love this concept ever since. Who's the first guy we saw do it? Ox King was the first person I saw, and it just looks so cool. It really does fit.
Honestly, I did do a double check because I thought it might have been him because he also uses that similar bright blue sort of.
Yeah.
Same. I thought it was him when I first saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Balefire definitely does that cool, like almost Martian red dust, but it feels like I don't know, like almost like the Colosseum, like it's that dirt.
Yeah, it's like old Greek, like
The pillars in the back really sell.
Yeah, the pillars are really.
He takes great photos of his models, and that's one of the reasons they end up looking so good because they get framed. Like without the pillars back there, you kind of have hints of it on the models. There's little bits here and there, but just adding those pillars with the same kind of dirt on the bottom ties it all together. He's just great.
But he does it really well.
Yeah, fantastic work. And our first place is a regular on our Discord server, Yoji, with a very simple, classic Stormcast color scheme, but executed very well. Very clean, high contrast blues, fading down with dirt into very shiny golds that have nice deep recesses. This high contrast style works really, really well. Just a very well done classic scheme, and frankly, we don't feature that enough on our channel. I'm not even the biggest fan of the classic Hammers of Sigmar, like Gold and Blue I think is overdone, but when it's done well, it still looks really, really good.
Yep.
Yeah, the choices with the leaves, like the dead leaves, just look so good. Yeah, I love the way the dirt creeps up. Like on Balefires, you can see they were really dirty. You could see that dirt. Here, it's super subtle, and I love that about it. Is that all the details? Like the more you look at it, the more things you find, and I think that's the best part about this whole thing. Is I can look at just the shoulder armor and freaking love it. So it's great.
Yeah, very well done. Crisp highlights. Not thick recesses. Like you can have a style of painting where you can have really thick recesses and they stand out a lot. But it's a lot more difficult to have thin but also very dark recesses, and that's a very interesting style. And you've done it really well here, man. So congratulations. Certainly well. I will say this painting contest was incredibly close. Like we haven't actually had. I don't want to reveal our ranking system or anything, but we've never had results this close before. These were all off by like 1 point each. It was really crazy. So they're all pretty much first place. Like, yeah, but somebody's got to be the winner. So Yoji, congratulations. These look fantastic.
The honorable mentions could have been so long. Like,
yeah, I had to cut it down for the sake of time because we do want to get to the main topic of the evening. So congratulations to all our winners. Thank you everybody for participating. And the next painting contest has already started. So if you're watching this right now, our next contest runs until February 26th, and the subject this time is any Galatian champion. If you have been following seasonal rules, a Galatian champion is an unmounted hero that has less than 10 wounds. So pick any one of those in Stormcast. We have tons of them. Pick one, throw it in the channel, and you have a chance to win fabulous prizes.
Locked to Stormcast, right?
Pardon me?
Prize.
Locked to Stormcast, correct?
Yeah, it has to have Stormcast. You can't do like Ideneth. Sorry, James. I know you're on a big kick with them right now. But yeah, it has to be a Stormcast champion. Doesn't even have to be, a currently legal one. If you want to do like a special edition Stormcast model, like Larissa Shadowstalker or something like that, as long as it's a Stormcast hero, it's fine. So yeah, check out the Discord server, drop your stuff in there, and let's move on to the main topic of the evening, which is Season 2. We've had it for about a month now. Officially, we've had it for a couple weeks, right? It's been 2 weeks. I think the book got faded there, James. Got blurred out.
Yeah. I guess the filter, right?
Yeah. So yeah, this has been a major change from Season 1, but it's been a major change because it kind of just brought the game back to where we were before Season 1. And that's not really a statement on how much change we're seeing now, but rather how much change Season 1 brought. And I think it's almost universally agreed it was a negative change to the game overall. So we're taking it back. I don't know if they planned it. I don't know if they foresaw it, this happening, but this was a good move. I like the game going back to a more basic format that's easier to understand. The focus on champions is lesser than the focus on infantry and the changes to the battle plans, but we'll get into that stuff in a bit. If you haven't been paying super close attention, here's the major changes in Season 2. There's 2 new unit types. First one is Galatian Champion. That's all the heroes that are unmounted and have less than 10 wounds. And they can't be shot anymore, which is a big deal because, well, unless you have a specific battalion, but it's not that common, actually. They can't be shot, so all your support heroes are a lot safer than they used to be. There's new enhancements they can take, which can let them teleport around or deep strike into play or do charge mortal wounds. They're all really, really strong. And about half the grand strategies and half the battle tactics require using these guys. So if you have bad battle tactics in your book, like Stormcast, bad relatively, you're going to want to use champions to score battle tactics. And even the good tactics, you might not be able to score all the time, just with the way battle plans are laid out. So you have to get aggressive with your champions. You have to send them out into the midfield, which is not how people have been using this type of unit before. It's always just sat back and done, it put up a buff and then it just sat there for the rest of the game. Now they're more tactically involved. That's been my first impression. The second new unit type is called Infantry, which we totally called on this channel, by the way. And you don't get a keyword or anything, but it's a unit with less than 5 wounds, so 4 or fewer, and no mount. It doesn't have to be battle line this time around, and they can fit into new battalions. They can go into the command battalion, the sharpshooters battalion, or the veterans battalion. Each one of them has different benefits. The command battalion in particular gives you the sworn bodyguard status, which allows you to fight at the same time as a champion, and that includes in the hero phase. So there's a lot of janky combinations with this that you can pull off for Stormcast, for slaves, for beasts. Any army that fights with a unit can now fight with another unit, which is pretty cool. But then it also offers some tactical play against pinning lists, which I think are going to be all the rage. If we're looking at a meta where, monsters are not going to do enough damage to kill infantry, we're going to look at big infantry blocks, durable blocks, pinning you in your deployment. Being able to fight in the hero phase, I think, is a pretty nice advantage. In theory. We'll see how it shakes out. The other major things happening is heroic actions are getting expanded. So if you're going second, a champion in your army can use 2 heroic actions, and that's kind of nice. Sometimes you use it just to get an extra command point and heroic willpower to get an extra unbind. Sometimes you play like Slaves to Darkness, and you can use it to draw on power and revive a unit and Ravagers at the same time, and that's totally amazing. That's just a huge power spike. There's also new heroic actions. You can fight in the hero phase, which is better than it seems for some armies and totally useless in others. And if you're going second, you can do another heroic action where the Sworn Bodyguard fights too. So that's pretty cool. Being able to fight with like 10 Blade Lords in the hero phase, do a bunch of perfect strikes, and they don't have a chance to react to it in any way. Pretty cool.
The trade-off is you do fight less in the following combat phase.
Yeah. For the rest of the turn, you'll have strike last, but being able to fight before you move is a huge deal in this game. Just ask Daughters of Cain players; their ability to fight in the hero phase has always been. It's not been the main selling point, but it's been a good tactical piece. In second edition, when Stormcast had Anvils of the Helden Hammer, they could fight in the hero phase. That was primo stuff. So this is a strong ability. It's not obvious how strong it is, but it is a strong thing to have.
Mhm.
And the last thing, which hasn't really come into play in any of my games, I always forget that this exists, but I have to keep reminding myself because I'm trying to make it work, is the new Realm command, which is called No Retreat, No Surrender. You use it at the start of the combat phase. You can't use it on a unit that is a hero or monster or charged, and you can't pile in, but you get +1 to attacks, but not on mounts. So because there's so many restrictions and giving up pile in, it's usually better to just all-out attack or all-out defense, pretty much almost always. Haven't seen a lot of play with this one yet.
I mean, it depends on if your opponent's multi-charging and if you have additional command points left. It's basically like, oh, my opponent charged this unit on the left, this unit on the right. This pops started the combat phase. So you can really make your opponent think, hey, do I want to attack this unit that is more dangerous because it has +1 attack now, or do I want to attack this unit, which I originally intended on attacking first? So it's like a little bit of techie play, but it's going to tax your command points. So you do it if you have like extra CP and you're not going to realistically spend it anywhere else, like Inspiring Presence or something.
Yeah, and then most armies aren't like flooded with command points. Maybe Seraphon might be the only one if they roll high on the sland that turn, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's like, sometimes I have nothing better to do. I do heroic leadership. I'm not going to pass, and I'm not going to realistically take Battle Shock. So I will use this ability. I'll just be like, okay, if you attack into my 5 Retributors, everything's in range, and I'm going to give myself. I'm already going to all-out defense here, but over here I'm going to +1 attack and make you fight here first.
Yeah. It's pretty good if you're using like a defensive unit that you're not expecting to take a lot of damage with, or if you're getting, like, let's say your opponent charges you with like 5 Vanquishers on one flank and then charges you with Fulminators on the other. Well, like, Vanquishers probably aren't going to do that much damage to you, so you'd pop No Retreat, No Surrender against the unit they're fighting. If you're fighting Pink Horrors, this is great, right? Like, just more attacks. It's just all about volume against some units. So it's good. +1 attack is never not going to be bad. Never going to be bad. It's never going to be bad. It's just niche. I think people need more time to develop. I think we need to see the big infantry blocks that are going to like have big skirmish lines, like a big scrum in the middle of the board, and that's when this is going to start seeing play. When the pile in is not a big forfeit anymore.
Yeah, it can definitely matter a lot.
Yeah,
it could be interesting with like if you're playing like an Annihilator list and you pop this on some Annihilators and charge something else and they want to fight that something else, right? Like, you've got like a unit of dragons or something. Force them to fight the Annihilators first.
Yeah, man, only if Annihilators are cheaper. Yeah, but this could be great. Like, I don't know. Like maybe Annihilators, maybe not, because like they almost always want to kill them. But I could see like like Paul said, like they charge your 10 Protectors, they charge your 5 Inks. And they're gonna take a lot of damage from Protectors, so there's no way they're attacking the Vanks first. So you just pop it on like either a Vanquisher or something.
It is a free Unleash That Hatred for them, but we've also looked at how Unleash That Hatred is basically equal to all-out attack. So, pros and cons. Could be
unless you're using Star Soul.
Unless you're using Knight Azeros, because if you can give something +1 to hit,
it's situational. Good to keep these things in mind, because
Okay, so
use all your tools.
That leads nicely into our kind of freeform discussion here. Just general Season 2, what have your first impressions been? And we've all had time to play a few games. Maybe Morgonk played a bit less because he was training for LVO. I'm sure you've been playing a lot of Season 2, though, as well.
This season. Yeah. No, not this season. Yeah.
So, what are your guys' first impressions? Let's talk first, with the context of Stormcast. How have the seasonal rules affected how you're viewing our units compared to each other and list building? I know we just put out our tier list video and that kind of summarizes a lot of things, but even since we've put that out, and it's been a couple weeks since we recorded it, I've already had to change my mind on a couple things. Like Tunnel Master, we definitely underrated just the utility of being able to teleport a hero anytime.
I think in our context it's a little weaker because we start a lot of lists with translocation, but it really means our non-translocation lists get a lot better because putting a Castellan into position is really, really useful.
Yeah, it's that, and I think. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say like it's funny you bring that up because I think that even in a translocate list, I think it's pretty important because I think Castellan got a lot better this season. I think that we might have underrated him. I think we've talked about that a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I think Castellan will be a lot stronger since we'll be a lot more skirmishier of a map. Like you've probably seen some other, content creators talk about a similar thing. All of our maps seem to be a little bit more focused this way, and the fact that we have more maps than ever that seem competitively viable to be putting in packs, um, it's pretty good. So I think, having that extra option to get something like a Castellan or any other, buffing unit out to an objective without taking up a translocate, because sometimes we're running translocate battle, relic or battle mage for the translocate wild form combo, for example, or you just want to translocate somewhere else. It's good to not have to waste that on your
Yeah,
little
yeah,
hero.
yeah. Is this at the end of the movement phase or is this zero phase?
It's anytime you would make a normal move.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. So we'll say
It-
movement phase then most of the time.
It's ride the winds of Theric, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh,
It
okay.
is
I like
instead of-
that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
It's
perfectly
instead of
fine. I
making a
think
normal move.
No,
it helps Knight Azeros is get into position or something. I don't
I
know.
think you can ride the winds out of combat because it says instead of moving or retreating, but you can't
Oh,
do
no.
that with Tunnel Master. I
Yeah.
think Tunnel Master is
Yep.
just movement.
Yep.
Yep.
Instead of normal move.
But yeah, the C tier is too low for it. Like it should have been B or A.
A tier.
Maybe not
I think
S,
it's A.
but A sounds about right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very strong.
It's very usable. Very
Yeah.
good
So
consideration.
going off of that, I think this season, because of how objectives are this season, how close you deploy, I think shooting, although it'll be really good because some armies will need shooting to get rid of other factions, Galatian champions. I think the main season boils down to projecting a lot of killing power or toughness in the center of the board. And this can take a lot of different forms. This can be, if you're the kind of guy, or sorry, kind of person who's interested in Stormkeep Guard, sure, Stormkeep Guard can do it. Protectors can do it. 10 Protectors can do it. 5 Retributors with a Knight Azeros and a Quicksilver Drought can do it. Annihilators, I think, take a back seat because of this reason. Because we don't project a lot of board presence in the center. We just sort of surgically take the army apart. The Annihilator builds anyway do. And I think those will, for that reason, I think, and also like I think with how many books have come out, this list is just too expensive. We'll see a drop in play. But I expect tough infantry that can reliably occupy board center positions to be very popular this season. So Fire Slayers, Night Haunt, Slaves of Darkness,
Thralls.
Thralls, yeah, sure, all good options.
So what I'll add to that is on the topic to round that in with the Tunnel Master. I was building my first Stormcast list last night, and what my goal here was to essentially save stack onto a Paladin unit that can't really move 4 inches, so you want to translocate into that middle of the table. Now, it is going to be a Sworn Bodyguard, and I have the Castellan to be the Galatian champion to go with that. How do you get him up the table with them to do a quick silver draft combo? Tunnel Master.
Yeah, it's the Tunnel Master. The Tunnel Master Castellan is so good because he's also a really good bearer for the Arcane Tome. Since he's a Lord, he'll get bonus range on whatever spell you want to cast. He'll have higher range on Holy Commands. Once per game, being able to buff up a unit and then shove it in the middle of the board immediately. Whether that unit is going to be 10 Protectors, 4 Fulminators, 4 Storm Drakes, 6 Tempestors, Karazai. Take your pick. We got a lot of units that can do this role, and they all have pros and cons. But the Castellan is the piece that makes it all work. So if we had to go back and edit, like initially, like right now, I'm thinking Castellan's going to be S tier because it just like the core of a Stormcast list this season seems to be pick a hammer unit you like with a 3+ save, reinforce it or double reinforce it, stick it in the middle of the board with every defensive buff we got. Guardus, +2 to saves, all out defense.
I've actually been considering Envoy of the Heavens. I'm not even joking.
Maybe. I think the Translocate reroll is too important.
Does he not also have them?
Yeah, I like. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the High Priest or Master of Magic, but a very specific kind of list. If I build like the 15 Vindictor list, which I think is somewhat playable,
I would
maybe
try
not
that.
a 5-0, but yeah, maybe not a 5-0 list. Maybe like a good 4-1-3-2. But I think the 15 Vindictors really, really benefit from Envoy of the Heavens because they will get multi-charge. That's just our nature. Like we're just so elite. Like the chances of your opponent also having 2 units to charge with that just like kill at something on, at the start of combat with and then, wow, you're on 2 up saves against everything all day around, which is pretty great.
Is he not also the most durable Galatian champion?
The Castellan, 8 wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Castellan, Veritant, any of the
Veritant.
old heroes of the Gryph-hound.
Yeah. I think because they have the bigger Gryph-hound than the Paradin.
Yeah, the Imperator has the tiny Gryph-hound.
Yeah, he has
so
the
it's
tiny.
less.
He has the puppy.
And yet he costs
Especially
more
red.
than the Castellan, who has a big grown-up dog.
That's a different episode.
I don't know why. I guess it's a way to extend their range. We don't have a lot of good aura abilities, but the Gryph-hound's a good way to extend the range on an aura ability.
I'd
helps.
rather have a model of one. As a
Yeah,
total
no,
unit.
I'd rather have Warning Cry. I would rather have Warning Cry.
No, not even Warning Cry. Just make it a blank war scroll with no save, one wound, 6
Yeah, they
inch
realized
wound.
people were.
I'd rather have one model than 2 wounds on that hero.
So on the note of Tunnel Master again, then, and Warning Cry at this point, how do you guys value that? Because
it doesn't work. Warning Cry is the first time the unit is set up from reserve.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you deploy,
it doesn't work
that's
with teleports. It works with summons and reserve deployments.
Yeah.
So sorry, I might be thinking of another artifact or enhancement then.
The Nightflyer Cloak. That could see play. There's a Gaunt Summoner combo that we're going to talk about in our Slaves review, which is coming soon, by the way, if anyone is curious. And Slaves, I'm just going to leave it at this. They're not as good as you think they are. They're okay. They're not great.
It's Zinch that really wants the Nightflyer Cloak. Because,
and that's really good.
They can deploy like 20 pinks in your face turn 1 and be like, all right, go.
Yeah, you just got to cut through it. There's nothing else you can do about it.
Yep.
So I don't know. They can just play around the Gryph-hounds. Like, you have to bring a lot of Gryph-hounds so you can fully surround your army with that. Otherwise, it's like you put 2 Gryph-hounds here from a Night Judicator, they'll just teleport on this side instead. Like, they don't care what side they're on, really. Like, it's hard to force one side being good because the battle plans are so symmetrical. It's like there's almost no downside.
You had to be like abusing terrain or something.
Yeah. It was just something I overheard in conversation at a RTO I was at recently. So I was just curious what your guys' insights were.
It's an interesting option. If Deep Strike ever gets too popular, we do have the Gryph-hounds that can help with it, and maybe Night Judicators might see some more play. But we'll see. Yeah, I think Margong, touching on a point you mentioned earlier, the way out of this meta isn't through fancy movement tricks, although they still are useful. The way out of it is just damage. Like, long strikes are going to still be really good because they could pick off key targets, but if you run long strikes and, let's say, dragons, you're not going to have the damage needed to kill the stuff that's going to be in the middle of the table. Like, we don't have the bodies to contest objectives. Even if we do have good shooting, we can shoot stuff off. But then, we don't have the bodies to just contest these objectives against 60 zombies or 30 Hearthguard, whatever we're going to be facing. So we need just raw damage output. And then, because we can only realistically melee with 1 unit at a time and shoot off 1 unit at a time, we're going to be taking a lot of damage back. And that's where the defense comes in. That's where the Gardas and the +3 to saves comes in. So that's kind of warped everything I'm thinking about Stormcast this season. Most of my lists start with Gardas, Castellan, Relictor, and then it's just a matter of, do I want the 1-drop, or do I go, 3 or 4 drop with, command using an Incanter or an Azuros. And that's a big chunk of the list. Like, bringing 4 support heroes when they cost like 150 plus each is, it's the worst. It feels so awful. Spending so many points on these heroes.
Yeah.
But there is another list I've been trying out that's completely different from this, and that's just going back to the 2nd edition style, where you forget about Stormcaster ability because they weren't durable in 2nd edition, and you play Evocators, Dracolines, and Long Strikes. And you just take really good trades. You hit where you need to hit, when you need to hit. You avoid damage is what you do. So you just have Vanquishers and Aether Wings to screen stuff out from charging. You have Incanters with the spell scrolls to just stop spells, and Scions to avoid shooting the best you can. And I'm going to keep
Pterodons.
Terra Wings. Yes, that is going to be a fun unit, and I don't know if we should even talk about it because it might get nerfed.
Yeah, we'll do that later. But yeah, like, it's a very interesting unit for 10 points more than an Aether Wing.
Yes,
it's basically the Mindstealer's Pharynx, but even better because if you succeed that bravery check, they can stop Inspiring Presence, which is huge.
It stops everything. It's so good.
It makes for a more potent shooting phase. It's another war in the combat phase.
Yeah.
Plus, they actually have a save as opposed to Aether Wings.
Oh yeah, that is true. They have a 6-up. So
And they
can't
have
survive.
like real damage. Well, not really. 4 attacks with force 4s. I guess we're
yeah.
talking about
They're only-
Terrorwings.
Yeah. So it's like it's actually I have been considering that. I mean, if because I mean I use Raptors usually, but I can see like because we were talking about hey, should we take some Castigators? And I'd rather take like Terrorwings.
Yeah.
Just like try to get a roar off for combat, and the minute you get that, like it's over. Like your units will just destroy them if they don't have all that defense.
Yep.
All right, hold on. I'll just bring up the War Scroll. This is you guys
Oh,
are
goodness.
gonna hate this. So Terror Wings, what they do, and I'll put this up on the stream in a second. They have an ability in the shooting phase, not your shooting phase or the opponent's shooting phase, just the shooting phase. So it's
Shooting
both.
phase.
Yep. And just trying to find it here. Okay.
I remember seeing a lot of buzz about this War Scroll. I think it was leaked a little while ago.
Okay, here we go. Got it up on the stream. Sorry, guys, you might have to find it yourselves. So it says, in the shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit and roll 2d6. If the roll is higher than the bravery characteristic, that enemy unit cannot issue or receive commands until the end of the turn. So my first thought when I saw this was, bravery check. That sucks. That's just useless. But there's so many good things about it that I don't even mind that it's a bravery check. First off, it's both players' shooting phase. Your shooting phase, their shooting phase. Imagine you're playing against like snakes in like the melee snakes, and they're trying to use the run and charge command in the charge phase. Oops, I just shouted at you, and you can't issue or receive commands with that unit. So you just can't run and charge with that unit. Same with Slaves to Darkness. They're trying to use the Slanesh mark to run and charge. Nope, can't do it. You're trying to all-out defense against my shooting. Can't do it. You're trying to unleash hell. Nope. Inspiring presence. Nope. Just like it's so
Wait,
good.
I thought it was in the shooting phase. So wouldn't the Slanesh one happen in the movement phase?
No, it's in the charge phase because you can run 6 in the charge.
Oof. Oh, God.
Yeah, so they'll run
Okay.
they'll run, and then you just can't charge. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's
Only
nice.
we get the bad movement phase run and charge. Don't forget.
Oh, shut down the Maw Crusher. Shut down the Maw Crusher from issuing his commands.
Yep. Can't issue triple.
yeah.
I think Malkrusher Bravery is what, 9?
It's low.
It's.
Like 8?
I think it's an 8.
I'd be
actually.
surprised.
I think
It's one
I
of
want
the
to say
higher
it's,
ones.
it's an 8. It's an 8. Yeah,
There's
you need
so-
to roll a 9.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
one of the higher
not
ones.
impossible, but
But
it's hard. But
But
hard.
here's
I'd rather
this
issue
ability.
it on like a Gorgrunta.
The secret with the Terror Wings is that there's no limit that you can only do this once per turn on the unit.
Yep.
Every other
Yeah.
ability, like the Mind Stealer, Spear Ranks, all of these say you can't pick the same unit more than once. This ability doesn't say
course.
that. So you bring 2 or
Yeah.
3 of these units, pretty likely you're going to make at least one of those 2d6 rolls over a 7 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah, you still
Yeah,
want.
you'll feel bad against Nighthaunt. Like, yeah, you'll feel bad against Nighthaunt, which is probably the worst matchup.
Yeah.
But it's gonna feel real good against Destruction. Against Chaos too. I mean, Chaos Warriors with their banner and Chaos Knights with their banner, I think at Bravery 8. So if you have a couple of these units, you might actually make the 9-inch roll, and instead of saving on 4s, because a lot of your hammers have -2 rend, they'll be saving on 5s, which will basically kill them.
Yeah.
And these guys are 10 points more than Aether Wings. So squeeze, baby. Like, find the points. Replace your Aether Wings with Terror Wings. They're better, it seems. They're 12-inch flying move, 6 wounds. They just seem to do the same thing, but a little bit better.
And with that, Sundered Fate was sold out everywhere.
It might be too late for them to change this rule. I'm sure the Seraphon Battle Tome is already being printed and
Yep.
distributed, so it's probably too late to change it. But the point cost could change, and that could be a big deal. Like, if these guys were 100 points, that's a bigger consideration, right? But at 80
I have
points,
decided that I will be collecting Seraphon when they come out. The models just look good.
great.
They finally look good. I wanted to, but I was like, man, these Saurus look derpy. But now they look good. So.
That's great. You can join me and unspecified guest host on our new podcast, the Starkeep.
Yes.
So yeah, that's Terror Wings for you. They're a ridiculous unit. They've also got this thing where they can, if you have Chameleon Skinks, they can jump into play with the Chameleon Skinks. Stormcast are not going to use Chameleon Skinks, so we don't care about this. But Terror Wings are real. They're scary.
Robert said it's a very short range. It's a 24-inch threat range because it's
Yeah.
regular within 12 inches, not wholly within.
And it's
gotta
more than
tiptoe
that
in
because you
there.
can run as well. So if you really
Oh, yeah, you
wanted
can
to in
run
a
with that,
pinch,
yep.
this unit could run 6 and then have it within 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really key unit.
12 is also like people might do deep strike charges and use a reroll on that with a command point. This can just stop the reroll potentially. They're so versatile. It's completely random, but when it happens, it can win you the game. I think. Crazy. Okay,
Might be
so
worth including one.
Stormcast internal balance. What else are we liking? Annihilators lists are a little bit worse for purpose. Big durable blocks seem really good. High damage. That's where I was at with this. 10 squad adjudicators with crossbows, I think, is going to be a staple in a lot of lists because everything's so centralized in the middle. There's just a big scrum happening all around, more or less a 24-inch diameter. 18-inch range is not a big deal. I've, in previous seasons, there's been times where like, okay, well, you have to drop them to one side because that's where the fighting is happening, and they're not going to get to shoot the other side of the table by the time the game's over. So that's like you're dedicating all those resources, and they're just stuck there. But now between Tunnel Master, you can send the Lord Relictor to wherever they are, and then next turn be able to translocate them immediately. That's a big deal. And just how centralized all the combat is, I've never had a turn where I don't shoot with crossbow adjudicators. All of them. Really, really
I love
strong.
crossbow adjudicators. I just like Slaves of Darkness makes me nervous because as we're gonna come out with our review, but I will tell you it's like a very easy army to collect and start playing. It's a Timmy army in a way. And like it's gonna go into 2-up saves and it's just gonna feel bad.
Yeah.
It'll feel bad.
Yeah, that's
Like
that's
you
the
almost
downside.
need like if you're having crossbows, you have to support it with like a Geminids, I think.
How about Terra Wings?
Yeah, I mean sure. Well, I mean, Geminids might be slightly more reliable than Terra Wings trying to pass a 9 Bravery, yeah. But yeah.
You can use both. That's an option.
Oh, geez, that seems like a lot attacking.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Actually, 130 points. I'd normally be taking Aether Wings anyway. Yeah, it's doable.
I think
I think it's
15 crossbows might be too much because there is a lot of 2+
No.
save in the game.
Yeah.
But 10 crossbows and then maybe like 3 long strikes using volley. I think that's going to be a good combination because you can always just bring Aether Wings to make the long strikes always hit on 2s anyway. And then you all out attack your crossbows, so you're still running at peak efficiency there. So that could be a pivot, right?
I think with that, having run 10 crossbows a lot with dragons, it's an extremely effective combo. That and dragons being able to use their breaths.
Well, yeah, because you have mortal wound shooting to
Yeah,
get through armor.
we have mortal wound shooting that helps quite a bit. Helps get on top of that as well as a lot of Ren 2 attacks. I think that's going to be like my go-to play this season for sure because like everything's going to be brawly. The list doesn't even run a relictor because like crossbows, it's going to be reinforced. I think Constantine was asking. Reinforced unit of 10. And yes, you will put the Thunderbolt crossbow on the hero. On the the leader units or the I don't even know what they're called. Champion units. Thank you. Yeah, the champion prime, whatever you want to use. Yeah, you'll put the special crossbows on them for the Ren 2. Which is nice. It's nice when that goes off on the higher armor targets, but definitely going to be pivoting to like that Gardas Dragons grindy style because that's what we're going to need is be able to grind things out. Because here's the thing, like also with seeing a lot of these bigger blocks is a lot of the biggest blocks don't necessarily do that much damage. So it's going to be a lot of the medium-sized blocks that probably give me the most trouble. But even then, like save stack, wards, like there's that's going to be my go-to list for the season is probably the Dueling Dragon style with the crossbows and the dragons. Because it also allows me to run a GC well that list has Nazros and a Castellan Tunnel Master. So flying 12-inch guy, teleporting guy. Right? Like we've got the full package. That's probably going to be my go-to list just because it covers all the slots. Dragons open up two tactics for us, which is another great option. So that's going to be what I'm pivoting to at least looking into the new season.
I've been really liking Karazai, and I think he's a solid consideration. I think he's better than the B tier we gave him. I think he might be A tier just because of this like super durable style, and he's comparable to running a different hammer unit. He's comparable to running 4 Storm Drakes or 4 Fulminators. His damage against infantry is phenomenal. He just clubs monsters to death with his Twin Galmaraz. That -1 attack is just amazing.
It's huge.
He's also the fastest hammer at 14-inch move, right? And he's got a huge body, so he takes up all this space. Yeah, I really like Karazai, but I'm also really, really liking running a double reinforced Tempester block. I think there's serious consideration in that list as well. I just got to put the rest of the list together and optimize it. But both of those look really good right now.
Karazai one's probably the easier one, just because you literally can just do the like Dueling Dragon style, but he's cheaper. So like you actually get some points to play with, which is
you
kind of nice.
You get a Foss protection on him, which is great.
Yeah, you get an yeah, exactly. That's your bonus. Is you get a Foss protection, which is super nice, and 80 points on top of that. And you know what? 80 points.
Terror Wings.
Right. Oh yeah, so a Foss protection, a Battle Mage, and Terror Wings. Boom, easy. List done. I do find a little bit. I'm hesitant for Karazai just because the Gargants exist. To be honest, that's one.
I thought so too, but I don't.
Effects.
After playing Karazai, like Gargants get reduced down.
I feel like I'll risk that matchup
attacks.
now. I feel like they're not as prevalent anymore as they used to be, and they especially won't be this season because they just can't do the battle tactics.
Yeah,
okay, you can do like 3 or 4 from the list of the ones the GHP gave you, and you can do the ones you have. If you can get unlucky with that matchup, sure, but it's not like a save stack Karazai with -1 to hit, +2 to save. I think can survive a Gargant realistically.
+4.
+2 is the conservative one.
Minimum +2, right?
Yeah.
Your minimum +2.
Yeah.
Usually +3, sometimes +4. Usually -1 hit. Finest Hour.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
He's the only hammer that can Finest Hour. It's so good.
I was gonna say because like dragons can do +4 because of cover, but okay, Finest Hour is best. You can just activate that.
-1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded. Roar on top of that, so he's and Light of the Young Stars, so they will be -1 hit, right? It's not even like you're canceling AOA. I think he's fine into the Gargant matchup. Like their damage gets cut so low, you still save on 2s against most of them. Like Ren 3 is when you might take a wound, and then you've got a ward. You've got a 5-up ward on top of that. It's crazy.
I don't know if you take the Drake Sworn on that list. I still think it's a little too expensive, but
try it. That's all I can tell you. Just try it. He fits perfectly.
Drake Sworn.
I know 4+ save sucks, but think of him like more like a cat, like a cannon. He's just a support piece that just happens to have a dragon, and then it clicks. Karazai does all the heavy lifting. Karazai and the crossbows do it, and then you're fine.
All right, fine.
Okay, let's talk about our external win rate. Going into this season, Stormcast were below 50%. I think that's across the board. Different people collect stats in different ways, but we were pretty much like a 48-ish% army, right? Like on the cusp of being too weak, right? Under 45 is the cutoff. 50 is where you want to be. Early data that I've seen from like Wohammer suggests Stormcast are doing quite well. Do you guys think that's accurate? Obviously, you haven't enough time. It's a small sample size. But do you guys get the impression that Stormcast are going to be a stronger army this season?
I think it's easier for
it depends, like how you. It depends on how you look at it. It's like, okay, so what were the Stormcast players at LVO, for instance, from? Well, other than my list, the next 2 popular lists are like the ones that did well are like I think the Astral Templar 8 Dragon Double Castellant or Castellant Relic pair.
I don't think any of those got 4-1. I think it was just the Vexillor list that did.
No, Bill Sousa got 4-1.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah. So it was like I think he came at 36 or something. But so I think that list like it's just like the thing is it projects the kind of board presence where like either you will lose or you will like succeed and you'll just kill everything with Dragon Breath. And it's at that position where it can easily go 3-2-4-1 and that can pad the stats. So even though we're not a 5-0 army, we might not be a 5-0 army in terms of how those lists are played. We will appear like good on the board just because of the raw power of that list.
It's a little bit like Nighthaunt last season, where they were always just like a 4-1 army. They never really
it's like
5-0'd a lot.
Yeah, it's like Aina Deepkin. Like if you look at the stats, like it's like they have a 50%, 51% win rate, and that's because they're consistently going 3-2-4-1, but not 5-0.
Yeah.
At least like last season. So I think that's the thing.
Well, those Stormdrake aren't. I don't
do.
That's season 1 with Bounty Hunters, right? So that really helps specific matchups. Like against Nighthaunt, Stormdrakes don't cut it. Not on their own. Not anymore. Not Drake spam. Fire Slayers, they don't cut it. Against Beasts, they don't. They certainly don't cut it before, but maybe they won't now either.
No, they do.
Maybe, yeah. Because they have to wait till round 2 to get rend, which, oh man, what a big nerf. But yeah, Stormdrakes spamming them is not going to cut it. It already wasn't working at the end of the first season, right? We were seeing people like, was it Yuri or Levin that was bringing... I always mix up those two brothers.
What army?
Sorry.
Levin is the taller one. Yuri's
Levon,
the
yeah,
I guess,
sorry.
older one.
Yeah. So they were already teching in like 180 wounds worth of zombies and mega gargants, right? Like
Oh yeah,
people,
you're not
people
gonna.
were already adapting to what the third edition looked like. Like, oh, we've got these monsters. Well, what beats monsters? Tons and tons of wounds because monsters don't deal mass damage, with the exception of
Yes.
Karazai, right? Karazai is like the one that can do mass damage.
Yeah, I mean, and then you just like I don't know, take Storm Drakes and Tempest Eye or something, and it's like okay. And guess what does mass damage? Like 30 like human crossbows.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be
Like
interesting.
I think like that list has serious teeth. Like if we're in a mass infantry meta and you can just bring cheap as dirt shooter units who have +1 to hit and wound, which is extremely rare for shooting of all things.
Yeah.
And then just bring like fulminators, Stormdrake Guard that have +2 to move round 1 when the board like all the objectives are so close to the center. Oh, you're Gucci. You're good to go.
Yeah, and the Tempest Die +1 save is also really good. Really, really good.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
+1 to save.
Yeah, so fulminators potentially on +2 or like so already with an all-out defense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, sorry. Back to my question. Stormcast. Where do we think in terms of win rate? You think we're going to be like below 50, above 50? How far?
Be in the middle again.
Around.
We'll be 45 to 50 unless they decide to reduce our heroes, and it's mainly what I've been asking for. I think our units all feel perfect. I mean, there's a couple of changes here and there, like the Redeemers, but it's the hero now that the hero tax is really starting to be felt because they're making more and more interesting heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And the more they do that, and then you see like a Chaos Lord, you know, he might be really basic, but he's really interesting in what he does, especially with this season. The one on foot you get in the Vanguard box. And then you look at his equivalent in Stormcast, like literally the equivalent, a Lord Celestin on foot, and it's like, well, this guy's useless.
Yeah, he does nothing.
Completely useless. Absolutely useless.
Yeah.
Like, what is he here for? Why does he exist in this tone?
Why does he cost 120 points?
Yeah, why does he cost like 135, 140, something like that? Maybe 130. But I'm like, yeah, why the?
He's like
why the points difference? Yeah, he's like 110 point hero. Like all our heroes, I think that aren't starting with the name Gardas and aren't already 120 points need to go 10 or 20 points low. Like, cut up.
I agree. Yeah. All of our heroes are overcosted.
Yeah.
It's like
anything that isn't already 120 or isn't named Gardas Steel Soul. I think Gardas is the only hero worth 170, and that's because he projects his buff in an aura, which is really a good aura to have.
He might be worth 170. I think we may get to a point where we need so much damage output, our durability is less of a concern, and then we'll run a triple threat list without Gardas instead of running him with 2 healers.
Sure, but I'm saying like in terms of defensive boosts, right? He's one of the best things in the game. So I
compare that to
agree
like
with him
a Night Cruciator. Like it's so much better at that same defensive role. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it's just like for because we're like a very stay stacking defensive army. I think he just accentuates what we want to do, and he does it really well. So I think he belongs at 170. I just don't think anything else belongs up. Like anything else that is above 120 belongs at the point level that it is now, and that includes literally everything that isn't 120 already.
And asked in the chat opinions on
like
special heroic.
I look at the Relictor and I'm like, why is this guy 150 for like one prayer? Like assuming like because we can't like think of Arcane Tome as an enhancement every time we think of the Relictor. As a priest, as just a priest, why is he a 150 point priest that has like 3 attacks or like 4 attacks at 2 damage? Like there's hack queens in this game. There's hack queens in this game that do 2 up prayers now for like.
It's purely for external balance reasons because the Lord Relictor is a staple and his point cost helps nudge the win rate down by being so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I just it like boggles my mind.
Yeah,
like no other abilities other than that 2 up prayer. At least the hack queen has like the Had Brew and the prayer that she can do, and she's 120. Just like Lord Relictor should have just been 140 or 130. Like I don't know why they keep doing this to Stormcast. Just like
what's the theory I had the other night where the only thing that determines hero point cost is like their stat block and their weapon profiles, and then none of the abilities are factored into the point cost.
Yep, they don't look at anything. Yeah, the team that does points, I have a like firm feeling they don't look at anything that's like left of the War Scroll, like our War Scroll section.
It's like, ooh, 8 wounds. All right, add 20 points.
Yeah,
4 attacks. Okay, give that.
It's like they looked at the Lord. They looked at the Lord Veritant because he used to cost more than the Relictor. I have a firm. They looked at him and they were like, oh, this is 8 wounds. He should be more than the Relictor.
How many 80-point heroes have like the best ability, absolutely essential for their army? You got like the new
Yeah.
squig guy,
Like it's book.
hags. Like
Yeah.
there's so many cheap heroes.
And yeah,
And
Pack
like,
Queens used to be 70 points when they first came out. It was insane.
is a 3+ save worth that many points on a support
No.
hero?
On a 5 wound, 6 wound hero, probably not.
It's tough.
They'll just die. They
James,
die
what's your perspective on that? Because you're playing Ideneth a lot lately, and they've got different ways to keep their heroes alive, but they're also a lot cheaper at the same time. Right? So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, yeah, the biggest thing with my heroes at the end of the day is the fact that you're not going to shoot at them anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to say for me.
I think so. I kind of also played IDK, like sort of dabbled in it because I got that free army for a bit from a friend of mine. I think IDK hero costs, unless you're looking at maybe some of the Eidolons, I think they're perfect. I think like all of their heroes, they're like us, but with an extra ability attached on top that makes them really good. For instance, and it ties into what the army wants to do. So like a Tidecaster, a 140 point one cast wizard, which is basically Lord Arcanum, doesn't seem that good. But then you see that it gives you 2 rituals. If the Lord Arcanum said something like you said, like how we talked about, like it literally prevents a unit from dying, but a unit can only be affected by it once per turn, it would have been actually worth like that 150 point mark. But because that Cycle of the Storm is useless, it feels more of a tax than a Tidecaster does for like say an IDK army. Our abilities on heroes, the secondary abilities, are just not that good. That's the problem. Like they're and that's what makes us support characters just one-trick ponies. Like, oh, this is my Unbinder. This is my Teleporter. This is my, +1 to hitter. That secondary ability does nothing.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot more freedom in the Ideneth lists, I'm finding. Like what you said, Mergunk, and on top of that, they still fit the roles perfectly. So yeah.
Yeah, and they're costed well while doing their roles well. While Stormcast heroes are like overcosted, maybe good at one thing, and no second thing. They just don't have a second thing that they do. But yeah. Dan Sasala in chat asks, opinion on the new books getting special heroic actions. Should other 3rd edition books get updated in this manner?
Yes. I've actually written to GW about this. That's a good question. One of the things I asked for was sort of like a variation for the heroic action we have in this season, which is, I think, like all Stormcast heroes, first of all. First of all, any Stormcast hero that is on -1 rend, that is a Lord, at least, should be -2 rend. That's just something we said should happen. If you want to make the heroes warriors and not just like support dudes. The other thing I said was all of them should have an heroic action to where they can pick a infantry unit with them and fight with them, or if it's a guy on a mount, he can fight with dudes on a mount.
Do you mean fight in the hero phase or fight in the combat phase later?
No, combat phase. Sort of like how the Chaos Lord on Character Direct or Chaos Lord activates with his retinue. Like all the art we've seen of Stormcast is our heroes aren't support guys who just sit in the back. They are frontline heroes. They literally fight in the front lines, and they don't have any rules to support that.
Yeah, their damage is not good. That could be the niche that justifies their point cost. Like, I'm fine with our heroes costing as much as they do, but they're just not worth it right now, right? In terms of like,
why would I ever charge in a Lord Castellan, But, it's like, why would I charge in a Lord Castellan? I would never, because if I activated him, my whatever unit I charged with dies. Or if I activate the other unit, my Lord Castellan dies. But if I can fight my Lord Castellan at the same time as, I don't know, for the sake of argument, 10 Vindictors, well, suddenly I'm adding 5 2-damage attacks that are also simultaneous.
Well, I like the idea of expanding heroic actions and making them, flavorful for each faction. I kind of also like doing that with monstrous rampages. Like, I think it would be really cool if every army had their own rampages for their monsters and their own heroic actions for their heroes. There is, a sense of balance that can be reached when you design the whole game around having 4 heroic actions for every army, just like the same 4, and like the same 4 monstrous rampages. And the game can be more balanced, but is it more fun? Because some of the fun of the game is the models doing cool things, the army playing the way that the army looks like it plays. Like, it's really cool that Beasts of Chaos can pull you 2d6 in the hero phase and then deal a bunch of mortal wounds. That's very fitting. They're an ambush army. They're pulling you out of position. It feels cool. It's cool that Chaos Wizards from Slaves of Darkness can cast on 3d6, and sometimes their heads explode because they miscast, right? It's cool. But the game needs to be cool and fun first, and balanced second.
Yeah, I don't. That's where I'm really starting to feel that now. Like the missing out part. Like I'm starting to feel like our book just isn't cool, because we had some cool things, and they keep like our enhancement sections generally suck, and whatever we do have, they keep nerfing again and again. Like Menagerie took a hit, Thunderbolt Volley took a hit. If Arcane Tome somehow gets hit, because right now, oh boy, the usage is like off the roof. Like
yeah, almost half the lists in the game are using it in tournaments.
More than half. Yeah, more than half. Anytime you take an extra enhancement, most people almost always take Arcane Tome because it's so useful. And if that gets hit, it's just like, what do we do? Like, we don't have enhancements. It's like, how was somebody paid to write these lines? Like, come on.
Well, we don't want to beat a dead horse, right? We've talked enough.
Yeah. But to reiterate, I think like I see ourselves, like, to go back to our original point. I think I see us becoming a good, solid, like 45 to 50% army. I don't see the potential for 5-0s without a bit of luck. I don't know. It's really tough now because it was easy to build take all corners lists when the meta was new. Like, I usually try to take tech lists. I feel like now we have to gear into skew lists, and sort of, if you have a bad matchup, you just take it on the chin. Just move on. Unfortunately,
go ahead.
And unfortunately, like, the more and more books come out, and I guess the more tools that other armies get, we can't just counter everything. We need to choose what we counter. So
yeah, that's different than second edition. In second edition, we had the points left over after taking, the 9 long strikes and 10 evocators. We could bring enough screens, enough support heroes that we could just cancel everything. The game's gotten more complicated since then, right? Heroic actions we can't really stop. We can't stop. Well, we can with rampages, but Astral Templars is just okay. So I see your point there, but I think we could end up being like a 50 to 52% win rate army overall. Because no other army can drop +3 to saves on a big hammer unit in the middle of the board. Nobody else can do that.
So I don't know about that. So toughness comes in different ways, right? It doesn't have to be a +3 to save directly. It can be an indirect way of just stacking defenses on a unit.
Yeah, it could be.
Slaves of Darkness, it could be you cast Mystic Shield, you cast, you take the Eroding Icon, right? And you take, what's it called? Mark of Nurgle. -1 to wound,
Sure.
+1 to save, +2 to save, and reducing a rend, which is basically like +1 to save. That's what that is.
That's a tough unit, right? But
and plus a 5-up Mortal Wound Ward. Right?
There's counters to that. Mystic Shield on can be unbound, right? We do have a Knight Incantor always.
Mm-hmm.
So even against that matchup, I'm feeling okay. There's nothing like the Lord Castellan that pushes you that extra level to be, 2+ ignoring Rend 2. That's a huge deal, especially because we can also get a -1 hit from Foz Protection, right? I think that's going to become a staple now. The need for wild form is lessened.
That's diminished.
Yeah, and Foz Protection is looking really good, man. Really, really good. Like that's a nice little piece of there.
Which one is that?
-1 to hit the unit.
The Hish Battle Mage.
Battle Mage.
Cast value 5.
I think it goes off on a 5, range 18.
Within 18.
And it's not even wholly within 18, it's just within 18. Yeah.
Very strong spell. I've been really enjoying it on Karazai so far, and I'm thinking about expanding it to other hammers as well.
Consideration for my IDNF at this point, just because my thralls have the -1 to wound from the Thrall Master.
Better yet, you take a mage of Shaiish and you Paul Doom them, and then you Terror Wing them.
Unironically, yeah, that's what -2 bravery, right?
Yeah, -2 bravery. So everyone's bravery, like all the good units have bravery 8. Basically, that's the unless you're deaf, but like you have bravery 8 for the most part, and then you just.
Yeah. The problem with that one is I think it's 18-inch range, right? So you'll be in unbinding range. But that's a fun idea.
Yes,
fun
idea. It is a fun idea.
The other consideration with allies in Stormcast anyway, and it's the 1 to 4 rule, right? So for every 4 units of
that's
in your
coalition.
army,
I think that's coalition.
Coalition
I think
is
allies.
Allies
is
are
what?
1 to
I think
4.
it's
Coalition is 1 to 2.
Allies is
So-
400 points.
400
Allies is
Allies
also
is a point
1 to 4.
limit. Coalition does.
Oh, is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You need
Interesting.
8 units to take 2 allies.
Yeah.
but Coalition makes it 1 to 2.
Coalition depends on the army. Some armies are 1
Sure.
to 4, some armies are 1 to 2.
Yeah, but it's strictly speaking from a Stormcast perspective. I'm just saying trying to fit in those fit in the Battle Mage and the Terror Wings is going to be a little difficult in most lists, I find.
Yeah, the problem there is once you start bringing cheap allies that fill slots and battalions, you move away from the 1-drop.
Yeah.
And 1-drop seems really good. Okay, so we can move on to this because this is a discussion I definitely want to have with you guys. The battle plans are way more different than even initially suspected by people like Jeremy, who put out that great video analyzing how central they are. But the combination of the battle plans, the number of objectives, how close they are to the center of the board, the shape of the territory, and the way people are scoring battle tactics this season, you have to force your champions up the middle of the board. You're not sitting back and hanging back for the most part. Like, you want to score cunning maneuver, you got to get out of your territory, right? And not just like a little out of your territory, wholly out of your territory. It's a big change. You want to score desecrate, you're going into enemy territory, right? Usually, you're getting close enough to it. The whole game is funneling you into the middle, and it seems like going first has a strict advantage in terms of tactics. Of course, the downside is you can potentially get doubled, but if we can go first and slap +3 save on a unit out of unbinding range, and Castellan's guaranteed, Mystic Shield is pretty close. It's pretty reliable with us, even if you're just sitting on Arcane. Foss Protection is really reliable. Yeah, you just sit in the middle of the board, you can weather out the double turn. So that's one of the reasons I think we have the potential to go higher than 50% is because we do this thing that the battle plans are pushing everybody to do, and we just do it better than everyone.
I definitely think we're in a better position to take advantage of something like Sword Bodyguard and Galatian Sharpshooters.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of armies that want that. Like Idna Deepkin, for instance, do not care about sharpshooters. They just don't have they used to have long sharks can't go in it, and the Leviathan doesn't go in it, which was their long range. I'll pop some support heroes with this mass fire. They could go Sword Bodyguard, but I don't think it's worth it. None of their heroes really want to be in combat. None of their foot heroes want to be in combat. I mean, they're tough relatively. Like
you might put like a Soul Render in it with 20 thralls just to have like a hero phase fight against pins.
You could, but it's like
Thrall Master, yeah.
It's like, do you want to be? Because so it's like it's a good little balancing point because it's like I see an army like Gitz and I don't think they ever want to be more than a 2-drop. Like 2 battle regiments, I think is what they're gonna do because they need to get under all the sharpshooter armies because if they don't, their heroes just shot off the board. I guess they have the Spores Fanatics or whatever. But
that does depend on how many sharpshooters people expect to see, and I think a lot of people are gonna go for the 1-drop and skip sharpshooters. I think it's going to be, at first, you're going to see a lot of battle regiment 1-drops and then 3-drop veteran lists. And that's going to evolve from there to be also including sworn bodyguards because those counter the pin type lists that are trying to go first with the heroic action fighting. And then from there, you might start seeing sharpshooters to kill the champions, and the sworn bodyguards can activate and killing other heroes as well. I think sharpshooters is like the last thing on the list for people to focus on in terms of battalions.
Yes, I think, I think Galatian veterans first, Sworn Bodyguard second, Sharpshooters third. I mean, for us, I think we have to take
Warlord
Sharpshooters
third, frankly. I think Warlord's going to be more popular.
Yeah. I think we have to take Sharpshooters, though. Like, just personally. Like, there are some times where you're going to have to kill a Galatian champion especially if they're a list with 2 of them, just 2 of them, in order to stop them from getting battle tactics or something.
It can make some matchups easier. It depends on the units you're using, though. Like I wouldn't take it if my only shooting hammer was a crossbow judicator. But that's why I like just having 3 long strikes in a list. Just having that squad of 3 with volley is really, really useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the battle plans. Some of them require you. If a champion is contesting it, no other models can score it or can contest it, which means the first champion on it, you control it until the opponent kills your champion on it, right? Like you control objectives until you lose control of them. And even though it doesn't say that you gain control when you kill the enemy, that's pretty much how it functions, right? So you get on it first, you have a huge advantage. It's really hard to shove all that stuff off. There's some that you score extra points if you have champions contesting objectives. So if you're the first person to use a Tunnel Master or get a champion onto a flank, like you can score faster than your opponent. Like there's a lot of things pushing you towards going first.
Lore Seeker's rude with that, frankly.
Yeah, Lore Seeker seems very good. I like the Lore Seeker very much. You just
Yeah.
toe in an objective and then you throw a purple sun out there. The 6 Tempestor list I'm running. I'm gonna proxy a Lore Seeker and see how it does. And if it works, man, I'm gonna finally buy a Lumineth model, I guess. Yeah. So, what do you guys think about the battle plans this season overall? How many games have you had? How's your experience been on them?
I've only played Jaws, and this is a little fun observation, but Jaws of Gallet is literally just the inverse of Prize of Gallet.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And if you rotate it like, I don't know, say 90 degrees, 45 degrees, instead of a cross, you get an X, and your deployments are shifted as well.
What did you think of the battle plan overall, though?
It's fun. Yeah.
The way battle tactics interact on that one is very interesting because there's like cunning maneuver, which has to be you score the one wholly outside your territory.
Which
So
there are only two of.
Sorry.
There are
There's only
of
two.
in that one.
There's the opponent's home objective, right, tucked away in the corner, and then the center. So everybody's going to fight over the center in round one, and then like if somebody burns it and you didn't score cunning maneuver yet, you're screwed, man. Like
the incentive they'll go second in that battle plan is so huge too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can build a list that can survive a double turn, going first, positioning aggressively, potentially winning the roll off and saying like, no, I've got all my buffs up. You go ahead, right? I'm going to burn the middle objective. Good luck scoring cunning maneuver this game,
Yeah.
which seems to be like one of the top 4 that you want to score, maybe even top 3, right? Like sometimes it's easier to do than eye for an eye.
Yeah. Just one note of cunning maneuver for anybody. It does have to be a Galatian champion that is on the table.
Yeah, okay, so you can't score it out of reserve. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Battle Master.
How about you, Dan? You played a lot of games. What do you think of these battle plans?
Not a ton, but I am seeing the obviously been playing a lot of dragons, and it's just really good, right? Like save stacking something, putting it in the middle of the table, and going, "Hey, come at me." Like if you didn't get first turn, or you didn't get turn priority, and they made you go first, great. I'm gonna just walk up and stay here. If they gave me second, great as well. I hope I get the double turn. It's really nice playing a list that is like turn agnostic, where it really just doesn't care what your opponent is doing. Like, not that the game plan is always the same, but it kind of is, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm gonna have to go meet the opponent, and these battle plans are extremely conductive to that, right? Like, it's just like, hey, I need to go up there and do my thing. So it's been a lot simpler of a season than last season. Last season had a little bit more like objective play. It feels like.
Yeah.
Than
I'm
this
definitely
season.
noticing 10-inch move models are not the liability they were before. 10 inches is fast now. Like you cross the battlefield and charge turn 1 if you're 10 inches.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Um, Definitely grindier, which is like fine. I actually found that the damage needed isn't as much as you might think, just because it's more about doing enough damage and being able to last while doing that damage. Um, which is kind of interesting, especially playing against something like Gitz, pre-book, but something with like a lot of wounds, where you're dealing with a whole bunch of models. It's actually not quite so bad. I mean, Gits are a little more expensive now, and thankfully beasts are more expensive now. I mean, I think it's like a 25% increase on points overall, but the army looks a lot smaller. If you saw the game on the GW thing,
Warhammer TV.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller of an army. That's not necessarily like the lists, right? Like you're not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna see that list topping any 5-0s here, but it's really nice to see a lot of these armies getting more elite. We'll see the return
I
of.
think the OS is a skirmish game, and like it just didn't
Yeah.
feel right when people were putting like 300 models on the table and summoning more and whatever. It's just
Yeah.
keep it neat. I think Gits though survived those points increases. Like they're
A little
basically
better.
kept the old points with all the new stats.
Yeah.
Let me run a scenario by you, Dan. You get charged by 36 gits or 36 squigs. They've been buffed up. They have +1 attack and they have hit 6 mortals. So they're gonna have 4 attacks apiece times 30 squigs. So it's 120 doing hit 6 mortals. Your drakes will survive that, and then they have to attack back if they're in range, and they will kill a whole lot of squigs because they're trash. But then they all run away, and those mortal wounds are what's going to finish off your drakes.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's Also, not quite as like doom and gloom as that because it's not quite as simple as like they just charge the drakes,
Oh
right?
yeah, you're
'Cause,
gonna have to
you're
put
gonna be
screens away,
screening out.
right? And that's
Yeah, like
but the
it's
mortal wounds back still they hit the drakes, which sucks.
yeah, like there's gonna be that kind of play. I don't see it lasting that long at those points. Obviously we're gonna see it for like a good 2 months, 3 months.
At least two.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think about 2 months before they see a good little increase to help curb that. Um, and then the other thing is like, what do they do against other mass wound armies? Is
They
going to be the
just do
other side.
that.
Die
Like
and
that's
do
the
mortal
thing.
wounds. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
They're
I
a
don't know.
super high damage unit.
That's the problem, right? They don't have any real opportunity cost. That entire combo is less like 420 points. So you still have like 1580 points, but the rest of the army to do even more crazy stuff like that.
And when they die, you 4-up reroll to bring them back at the end of the turn. Like you want them to die
Yeah.
on your turn so you can bring them back immediately.
I mean, I also see them being curtailed by a lot of other parts of the meta. So especially armies that can do, like Tzeentch, for example, that can do, and Tzeentch is going to be pretty common as well. That can do mortals to those heroes and buff units. That's going to be pretty key as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it, being. I think they're an issue in that they're way too cheap, but I think that the rules are okay. If that makes sense.
Well, we'll see how that specifically comes out. I want to sink my teeth into the Gits book a bit more, kind of like what I did with Beast of Chaos, where now I'm not, up in arms because they have such ridiculously cool abilities. But then once you see the points and you start building, it looks fine.
Yeah, Beast looks more balanced
Yeah.
than anything else.
Like
I was surprised by Beast actually. I was like, yeah, this is fine. The whole time like we were looking at stuff coming out, I'm like, I want to see the points first.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it, it's not like whatchamacallit, weak by any means. Definitely gonna be an A tier army, but I think it's fine. The Gits one, definitely want to like keep an eye on, see just how much, because we're not the only part of the meta. See how much that helps to curtail that style. We'll see. Just because it does hinge on a bunch of buffs.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, those buffs don't even have you don't that's the thing. Those buffs aren't like you have to roll for them or anything. Or it's not like a spell.
I'm just saying like you can get rid of the other armies have ways of getting rid of those buffs a lot easier than we do. Definitely going to be harder with this season though. After this season, that'll be a lot easier to take care of because you'll just be able to shoot stuff.
I don't see. So I thought that, but then Paul pointed out like they still have ways to protect their heroes from ranged and all range, and that's like the what was he talking about, the spore splatters or whatever? They basically have units that act as wildwoods that are like 80 points.
Yeah, you just stick them in front of whatever you want to protect. The Gobblepalooza, the whatever shaman, the new squid guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly possible, and like maybe they could ring them around even with like deep strike shooting. I mean, there's that also doesn't is it visibility? I think it was just blocks shooting.
Blocks line of sight, yeah.
Is it line of sight? Okay, so that could work against magic. We'll see. How much they can do. I'm not quite on like, holy crap, too busted.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do think they're way too cheap.
Yeah, but we'll see where they land ultimately. They're so weak to shooting. Like crossbow adjudicators are going to have a field day against that army.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they
did get rid of the auto pass battle shock near the shrine or whatever. So
and the squigs can't get inspiring presence. So if you hit them 1st and you're not within 9 inches, they just die. And then
they'll start running.
With bravery 3, everyone you kill is another one that runs away.
Yeah. It's not great that Horgas is going to feel a little more like needed in the meta than it used to, especially with its points increase, freaking 75% point increase. But I think like it's an easier fix to fix Gits with points rather than like, holy crap, why did you do this? You know?
I mean, I also think it's a points issue. I think if you're having a crazy combo turn 1 in your face like that, you need to cost for the amount of output you can generate. It's like
that or just
a Stormkeep guard problem, basically.
Yeah. The other thing is like the mortals being out to 9 inches is probably the worst part of that design.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why?
If it was 6 or 3, nobody would care.
Yeah, it would be a lot better. But 9 inches is really far. Like,
yeah,
like if you're in a Dawn of War deployment, you literally cannot screen from this unless you're on 35mm basis.
Yeah, as far as the mortals go,
6 would be good. 3 would be okay. 6 would be good. 9 is really good. Maybe that might be what is convincing.
Yeah,
that's too strong.
That's probably the only mechanical thing I see that's an issue with that. Besides, obviously, the points. The points are definitely too low. But
Mhm.
mechanically, I think that the 9-inch is probably the worst thing, and the only thing that needs to be changed at all with that,
Well,
if
we'll
there
see.
is mechanical
I
changes
want to give
needed.
it time to shake out. Like I was on,
Yeah.
like
Oh
don't
yeah.
nerf translocate, don't nerf cycle, see how these things play out, then
Yeah.
make decisions. And I'm
It
gonna
turns
stick
out.
that way with Squigs as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not particularly worried just because I played like Dragon Lists before in like previous seasons. I've been played against 60 zombie lists. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff we have to deal with, and it's not necessarily about dealing with it in one turn that ends up winning the game. It's also like them having to deal with you in return, which is another part of the equation. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Mergonk,
confident.
Spagwag in the chat wants to know what are you building?
Dracothian Guard.
Are you trying the 6 Tempestor list?
Well, I have to magnetize this one, but yes.
Yes. Good, man. It's gonna be a good one. Okay, so we've got a bunch of other topics here. If we want to hit a specific one, we can. What I really want to talk about is the impact, not just the seasonal rules are having, but the addition of these 3 army slaves, Gits, and Beasts of Chaos to the meta, and what we expect to happen. Because let's break, like, they're totally different armies, right? Slaves of Darkness are an armor faction that also has hordes of reviving stupid Splinter Fang that are just gonna. I hate them. But slaves are an armor army, right? And it's not like a Stormcast armor. It's more like Storm Drakes when they were like they had the hero phase move. That's pretty much what slaves are bringing back to the meta. This alpha pin armor type, but it also has a 5-up board against mortals, so they're even more durable than we were. Gits are just bodies and bodies and bodies and throwaway bodies that are getting revived on a 4-up twice per turn potentially. Beasts of Chaos are a null deployment army that tries to pull you apart and then beta strike you on at the top of round 2. Ideally, that's what they want to do. And those are 3 completely different styles. And this is what you were talking about, Mergonk, where you just can't counter everything. Like you have to start leaning into one of these things. But the thing is, Stormcasts have the tools to do that. Other armies don't. Like, what do Ironjaws do against Beasts of Chaos with a null deployment?
They just run forward and smash the shrine.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what I would think
they just put
Stop
enough
run.
doors in the way to stop you from doing that. Everything else in reserve.
Yeah, I mean, they'll basically destroy your whole army if you don't deploy enough screens in front of your thing. You're fine. So you can't null deploy against someone like Ironjaws.
How do they get through like Gits with the?
Oh, nothing. I mean, I don't know how anything does. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest, the
I
only
think
list that I can.
I think they can chew through enough like wounds to where they don't have to worry about the mortals coming back. They really can chew. They can throw a lot of raw damage out.
Can they do
It's not-
72 wounds?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
No, like seriously, they can.
Who's doing 72 wounds?
Oh, dude, a Maw Crusher and a block of 6. Pretty sure they're
Is that
doing
assuming?
You have to
Assuming they
assume you
take
get your
first
smash
turn,
and
that's not
back.
going to happen. Assuming they take first turn, which I don't think they will. Like, if you saw the top performing list at Ironjaws, it's not a 1-drop. I think it's a 2-drop.
Well, that has a story behind it.
LVO.
That was Cody taking a bet more than anything.
Well, sure. But what I'm saying is, like, a Gits player can reasonably go first, attack an Ironjaws list, attack like 3 pigs, get in combat with the other 6 without the War Chanter buff on, lose like maybe like 30 wounds, let's say, and then just kill the 6 pigs with the other 30. It's I don't think Gits are gonna have a problem against Ironjaws of all things. Like, that is not a problematic list for an army with endless recursive screens.
Yeah, and slaves are kind of in that camp too, right? They can put marauders up front and then just revive them with a heroic action, move normally on their turn, strike first, cast the spell to make you strike last. Like, the stuff that's currently doing well in the meta, I don't know how it's going to deal with this stuff. Like, I can tell how Stormcast are going to deal with it because we're so experienced with that army. But thinking through how some other factions are going to play.
Slaves could do it, but they would have to like really tech into it. Like, they have, like we said, like their cabals and their cultists are really techy, and Mind Stealer's Pharynx is very techy. So if a bunch of Gits charge you in the combat phase, now if they're engaged with your whole army, expecting half of them to die and the other half to run away doing mortal wounds, you can make them fight last. On 2d3, you have to roll a 3 or more, and then you maybe can do enough damage to where the mortal wounds from them aren't going to be as bad.
Pharynx is going to be good against Squigs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Gloomspite in general, or their Reary is completely really bad. But yeah.
James, how are you feeling about Ideneth against like slaves? Have you played that matchup yet?
Once, but the list wasn't too great.
Okay, because like Ideneth are not a high rend army, right? It's rend 1 across the board pretty much. Very few rend 2 attacks. So I'm wondering how that does into a 2+
Yeah.
save army, basically.
Well, you
know
bring
he's
the
gonna
Eidolon for that
counter.
aspect.
Oh, and to improve your rend against this 1 unit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have good unbinding, so that's a good tech choice.
I mean, you also just have such a huge, massive attacks with Thralls and Reavers. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'd just chew through people with volume. It's like you're
Yeah, the
still gonna be
damage
putting up saves, but how many are you gonna make, really?
the damage on put on Thralls is insane on its own, frankly.
We got to play a game, man. As soon as I'm back from Mexico,
No,
Yep.
you can't
I wanna
blow them
play
up
it.
anymore. I don't know. It's still something you can definitely deal with because they still blow up in turn. Like they don't blow up as hard as they used to, obviously with bounty hunters around. But oh, that was another thing though. I was gonna say with Gits, it was gonna do really good into Gits, Luminath.
Yeah.
You think
You're
they're gonna
gonna
do good
now,
indicates?
yeah. You just hit him
Wow.
with you hit each block with the whole bravery thing, and good luck moving. Good luck
they
moving,
have
bud.
to be within 18 with that spell.
Yeah, it's. I
Oh, I mean
don't.
they take spell portal with Techless literally all the time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I think
standard.
Sonar. Yeah,
That's a
Cathal or Techless is a
that's a
pretty
standard.
common,
Yeah,
common standard. Yeah.
that's a standard in a Techless list.
I
They'll
Yeah,
literally
you're
just
not.
I
make
don't
it so
You're
you
not
can't
tough.
move.
I don't know if Techless is going to be good enough. I don't know. I think that army needs more
I mean,
damage because like you can bring Techless and then you'll do okay against some techie armies, but then like you'll play against like Stormcast and they just kill Techless off the bat.
well, I've seen them go Helon, and instead of taking like Wind Charge, they just take Techless, and then they
Yeah,
just have their
they
yeah,
take Techless and because Umbral
and
Spell
Sentinel.
Portal with Searing White Light of Hish is actually
Mhm.
really good. You get two
Yeah.
turns of that,
Oh
you
yeah,
basically delete most Gloomspite heroes without because they don't need line of sight. It's just like an aura
yeah.
thing.
You just do it. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, I see Lumineth doing extremely well into Gits.
I was thinking,
But
yeah, which is weird because I think non-Lumineth lists probably suffer more than Lumineth Techless lists because they don't have area of effect damage.
How do they do
Yep.
against slaves though? Because they don't have super high volume of mortal wounds like against the 5
They
up
just
ward.
they just total eclipse like they usually
yeah,
do.
you total eclipse and you try to kill like buff pieces where you can, and you
Yeah.
know
I don't know if they have the damage to play like against a good competitive slaves list, which is like, that 10 block of knights charges in, pins you down, and then splintered fang, splintered fang until the game's over. Right? Like
I think
that.
Splitter Fang have low bravery. They could deal with that too with some movement.
It's
4
I think the
squads of
Vanguard
20.
lists are probably going to give them the most amount of difficulty
Yeah.
with the 4-up ward. Yeah.
Where they don't really
Vanguard,
care
yeah,
as much
those are
about.
tough. Just chewing through warriors, they're gonna have a hard time doing that. Like Nurgle marked
Mhm.
warriors, what's gonna kill that in Lumineth?
Just they have to shoot them and hope like you don't pass saves or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Because
crazy.
you're not going to have, if you're a Slaves of Darkness army, you're not going to have enough points for Inspiring Presence and Rally and all-out defense. Maybe one of those things.
Yeah, total
Yeah,
eclipse is
total
going off for
eclipse.
sure. Their
Just gonna-
unbinding is terrible, and that's definitely gonna hold them back. Okay, well, you know what? We can just go into the next one. We're kind of on this subject here. Let's do a tier list for this season predictions, and then we'll compare it to how it turns out, and we'll see how terribly wrong we are. It sounds like fun. Get that set up. Bam. All right, so that's on the stream now. Sorry if you don't see it in the chat here, guys, on the Discord call.
Oh, that's good. I have the stream up.
Okay, cool. So we'll start with Disciples of Tzeentch. Just we're going to go left to right, no particular order to this. We've got the same tier rankings that we always use. Like S tier is going to be consistently 5-0, right? Like more likely to 5-0 than the A tier armies. A tier is like 4-1 and then sometimes 5-0 if you play well and get the right matchups. B tier is like consistently 3-2. Some has potential to go 4-1. C tier is, 50-50 roughly. You're going to win about half as much. And then it just gets worse down to F tier. So yeah, Disciples of Tzeentch. And this season, with all the jank they've gotten, dropping a whole bunch of pink horrors right on your face with Corvus Cabal allies dropping into play, and then a Night Flyer Gaunt Summoner with Silver Portal, and then all their usual Tzeentch nonsense on top of that. I'm tempted to slam them into S tier. Summoning
I'd
champions
agree.
for battle tactics is so dumb. I can't believe it
Yeah.
doesn't say starting army.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. At least some of them have like James pointed out that they have to be on the battlefield already.
Yeah.
Actually, is it no, it's during hero. So yeah, no, you still gotta do that.
Yeah, so but you'll have enough champions to do cunning maneuver, And then
Yeah.
other ones I don't
Right.
think require picking the champions. But
Yeah, most of the other ones
stupid.
don't. I like that we have the fancy tier list now.
Yeah, look at this. Isn't this nice?
No,
There's
I
so
think
much...
I think it's worth noting though that I think anything we put in the S tier is really just A tier, and we're thinking it might be S. I don't think it's still too early to safely be like, yeah, this is definitely S tier.
Oh,
I don't know if I could
there's no
safely
definite
put
here.
anything.
It's all predictions, and we're wrong about everything. So it's just
I mean,
fun to
that's
see
fair.
how
No,
wrong we
Zinch is
are.
okay. I'll be honest. Zinch is already S tier, and like this
You
is
think?
after bounty hunters existing. If bounty hunters goes away, can you imagine? All they
Well,
have to
that's
do
what I'm
is
saying.
drop
Like
that.
I thought they
Yeah.
were A tier with bounty hunters, and I think
No,
that
man, they have
that's
65% win rate off of like bounty hunters existing. I'm like,
Crazy.
come on. Once that goes away, they're S. Easy.
We got to do a how to counter Zinch video. That's what I'm hearing.
No, seriously. 'Cause, like all they do is they drop that because they've been taking the incarnate still at 480. They just drop him and start putting things back into their list again. It actually makes
Yeah,
them
they
better
definitely drop
because
them.
my annihilator list could actually have a decent chance against them because I could like blow off a Carrick Acolyte screen, put in annihilators, and just try to kill the bird. But now I can't do that if they have pinks on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Pinks are
Okay. Yeah.
balanced and fun and
Balanced
interactive.
and fun.
Very interactive for
Very
the enemy
interactive
player
indeed.
to
Hey,
count.
you know what's
during
really
one
good
turn.
against pink horrors? Drakesworn Templar.
You say so, man.
Cavernous
say so.
Jaws. You just eat the guy with the banner. +1 save is gone.
Yeah, man. Let me just spend 400 points on a.
Well, it's
Or
worth it because
save
you have
is gonna be-
Karazai in the list too, man. And his tail kills them all. It's great.
Ugh.
So the Star Drake attacks, splits all the pinks into blues. Now Karazai has double the attacks. Synergy.
Yeah, sure.
Here we go. Mic issues.
Okay, Incanter obviously looking good, right? Like Incanters,
Yeah, Incanter, yeah.
I think like our top 3 heroes are going to be Gardas, Castellan, Relictor, not necessarily in that order, but then 4th is like Battle Mage or Incanter, maybe both.
I've honestly been letting go of the Battle Mage. Like, I used to take him like earlier in the season, like the last season, but like the more and more I play, I think Incanter is just invaluable.
The wild
Incanter's good.
form's not so hot, but Foz protection is
Yeah.
juicy, man. I love it.
Sure. But I think this
Foz
specific
protection.
list that'll want that.
Picture playing against Lumineth, but you also have really high damage on top of it. It's crazy.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
All right, Sons of Behemoth. They can't score any of the champion tactics. They still have a ton of wounds. Their damage is not high enough to kill infantry reliably. They can't throw rocks at heroes anymore.
I'd put him at C because I think they're still going to stomp enough to be a 3-2 army. Right? It's still really hard to make them like a 2.
Yeah, they can go. If your army becomes too techy, they can just put really solid, honest damage into you and just win on primary points.
Yeah, it kind of feels
I
like
think this
Iron Jaws
feels
in that
scary.
way. It's like if you start teching for the rest of the meta a little too much, hey, guess what? First round, Gargants.
I don't know. I think you still underrate Iron Jaws. Just saying.
They're
You underestimate the power.
I correctly estimate them, I think, and they are exactly as good as they need to be like this. They're almost like Locust. You just stop paying attention for a little bit, and they'll just come in and eat all your crops, right? Like if you're not careful, if you don't tech properly, if you haven't prepared for them, sometimes you just they can still win. Like they can still pull 5-0s. They're not a bad army by any means. It's just like, have you tried playing Iron Jaws and playing against a player who knows what to do against them? It's so demoralizing. It feels like you can't do anything. It's awful. And they gotta like pull crazy stuff out of their hat. Get the right matchups in the right order. Like they're not bad. We're talking about Gargants.
They can never afford to be doubled. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's also not a lot of armies that can say that they can win as hard as they do, and that's the thing. Is like you'll get those matchups every once in a while, but it's like not as, I don't know. It's still something that every army has to deal with. That you're gonna find counters. We'll get to Iron Jaws.
I will say I think Iron Jaws are harder to play than Slaves. Slaves are a little more effective though. Anyway, we'll get there. So we have Gargants C tier. Okay, we'll stick with that. We might have to adjust it depending on where we put some other stuff. I can definitely see Gargants going like 50% win rate because the people who play them are going to be really good with them, right? Like talking to Bear in our review, like Gargants are not at high levels. They're not easy to play. They're not easy.
No, I think they're C tier for sure. I don't think they fall into the D tier because like we're calling C tier similar to our uh our War Scrolls, right? We're
Yeah,
kind of talking,
competitively viable.
yeah, competitively viable for sure.
Yeah.
In that 3-2
Okay.
range.
How about ogres? S or A? That's the question.
No, I think A. They
I
don't get
think
to take
A.
advantage of sharpshooters, and that's actually
Yeah,
going to
the
be.
artillery goes down a notch, but they can just still kill everything. So they don't
Yeah,
really
they can still
need
kill
to.
stuff, but they've
Yeah.
taken a hit. They've definitely taken a hit. I mean, they didn't get to top 8 at LVO, you know.
They
A.
Yeah.
they do really
Was it
well
one?
against armor.
Yeah.
Really, really well. Like the more elite you are, the better they look.
Yep.
Yeah, but then they run into pink horrors, and it's like
Right.
I can't chew through all that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
They
I
run
think
into
they're A
horrors,
tier. If they don't,
splintered fang. Gosh, what else is on the list? Thralls, they're gonna have a tough time chewing through them because they can't
yep.
do anything except shoot the thralls. Lumineth with the hit negatives. There's too many bad matchups for ogres, but they're definitely like that kind of gatekeeper shooting army. Like if you can't deal with them, and there's a specific way you deal with them, then you just
Are they
you're not.
ranged iron jaws? Is that what you're saying? That's what it's sounding like.
Yeah, basically.
Is that they're
And
ranged iron
they
jaws?
are Iron Jaws if Iron Jaws had ranged capabilities. Like they'll sweep you if you're not ready for it. How about like the Beast Claw stuff? Is that worth consideration, or is it just the shooting build we're talking about here?
No, there was a lot of good 4-1s from the beasts. No, it was
Yeah.
they were
These
doing
are
better
the
on points actually.
yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
monstrous rampage they have on those guys is pretty insane. So
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
that
think
monster
that list
truck.
will always do well.
For
If you were
for
following LVO, the top spots were like the beast's claw guys, not the iron blaster guys.
for people who aren't familiar with the Rampage, what does it do?
When you charge, you can move 3d6 and then across enemy units. It's kind of like just like moving over them as you can fly, and then whatever you flew up against, I think you can end up anywhere you want, and you do 3 up d3 mortal wounds or something. And it just gives you free movement, which I think is really good.
Very good. With their large bases, though, there's ways to play around it. But if you're not prepared for it, if you're playing something really elite, then yeah, it can be tough.
And you play them with Kragnos, so it's like, oh, 3d6 charging Stoneheart, so have impact hits. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will take that.
The only saving grace there is they can't fly. If they could fly, that would be a nightmare. Just the worst thing to play against. 3d6 flying charges into 3d6 flying Passover monstrous rampage. Okay, I'm alright with ogres at A tier. We'll have to slide stuff around in A tier to figure out what's the best. Beasts of Chaos, new book, first impressions, first predictions. I'm leaning towards a B because I think the fact that their Ren doesn't turn on until Ren 2 really limits their ability to get on the table early, which seems to be very important. They do have they have very reliable charges out of Deep Strike, more reliable than Stormcast even, with multiple units, and they can even fight with multiple units using gores to make you strike last. They can do all kinds of janky stuff, which all sounds good. But the fact that their damage just doesn't come on board until round 2, like what do they do in round 1? And if they don't win priority, they're so far behind after that. So my first impression is like a B tier type situation. But it's hard to predict that army, right? Because they're so techy. You have to just play a lot against it to get a good sense of it. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's B tier, but it's because so when I rank these armies, I'm thinking of ranks in terms of like what the average player can do with them. Because I think Beast of Chaos is what I call a general's army. Like there are dedicated Beast of Chaos generals who I think can play very techy and will do really well with this book. Because it like forces you to innovate and like play this like ambush sort of movement play style.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were a player who sort of picked them up because you liked them and you enjoyed pushing, I don't know, like your 125 point models on -2, -3 rend and rallying them back and then summoning some more and just overpowering your opponent with base mechanics, you're gonna have a tough time. Like you have to know how to commit resources in Beast of Chaos now.
Yeah, and that's not a skill you would have learned playing them before because you just had constant resources. You never ran out. And that's not a slight against Beast players. It's just like this is a skill that gets developed through playing in a very particular way. Like Stormcast players, I think, will learn this over time is how to accurately and efficiently predict how many resources you need to commit.
You know,
Yeah.
what to protect, what to commit, what to trade. I think like that's actually an important skill set to have if you want to make beasts succeed with Beasts of Chaos.
Chat, what do you guys think about Beast of Chaos? Give us your takes, because I kind of just want to get many opinions about this as possible with this one and with Gits. But for now, just put your
supplement B for now. Yeah.
yeah, we'll put him in B for now. I want to know what you guys think though. Cities of Sigmar. There's always just some jank with this army, right? It's either Hallowheart or Tempest Eye or Living City. One of these three is always super janky. Can't be any lower than B, surely, right?
I think I would put it at B just because most cities lists are probably sitting at a C tier, and then you have some random S tier ones.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I
put
overall
it in,
the army itself is a B tier army.
the overall is a B. I would say Tempest Eye is an A, like definitely, like, and it's because they can use Stormcast scrolls. And I think if we're an army that's good purely off of our war scrolls, and you give us actual allegiance abilities, hey, we're actually really, really good. So I think like the default city is always going to be Tempest Eye or Hammerhall. But even in Hammerhall, we're not bad. Like Battleshock immunity in our own zone, being able to fight twice if you're in the enemy territory, with all the territories being so close together now.
Well, not all. There's a lot of battle plans with a big empty square in the middle, and everything's on the corners of that, right? So Hammerhall.
Well, what I'm saying is like if you can make the Celestin Prime fight twice, that's a good
Yeah.
city. That's not a bad city. It's just not ideal. You'd rather take Tempest Eye and like Tempesters or something.
You can make
Yeah,
Karazai
Tempest Eye is
fight twice.
100% the best way to do it.
Yeah, you can make Karazai fight twice. And I think they have an artifact that gives a +1 to hit and wound aura too in melee, unlike Tempest Eye, which is shooting.
Yeah. If this is a more melee focused season, and then you just bring crossbows to shoot stuff, I could see that.
Yeah.
So you bring Lord Castellan along with Karazai just to give him a constant +1 save, and then you fill the rest out with cities.
Mm-hmm.
Like just crossbows and screens and objective grabbers. I can see that.
I just don't want to buy cities right now because Dawnbringers is like this year, and anything you buy, all the humans are getting squatted. So you know.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I want to nuke the current book into orbit right now. So.
Yo,
it would
I've been
actually
saying
make
this.
more sense for them to release Dawnbringers early, so people don't end up buying more cities models. But
I've been saying this for a few months now. Second edition battle tomes should not be legal in match play. For the sake of everyone, they should just not be legal.
Well, you know.
nah.
How many armies does that affect now? Like cities.
But it doesn't
Slaanesh,
affect people. That's the thing, though.
Slaanesh.
And
Yeah.
KO players would be glad not to have to play their army. And Slaanesh too, like it's so janky. You use so much neutral nonsense in those armies.
Oh man,
is that fun?
The problem is the only
hottest
only other way KO is good is if you play them in Tempest Eye, and that is also a second edition book.
That's also second.
And nobody would lose sleep if Seraphon just weren't at tournaments anymore, right?
Gosh.
I know
Alright,
a few
well.
pros who might be salty, but yeah, let's not do that. I mean,
Look, this is what GW should do. Next time there's an edition, put out an index, like a mini battle tome for every army. They did it in 40k 8th edition. Do it again. Just update everyone to new stats and new points and give them some basic battle traits or whatever. Everyone's on a level playing field, and as battle tomes come out, these armies get updated to their full potential. But nobody gets left behind with like 2nd edition janky rules and a White Dwarf update, and just their points keep getting cut down to the point where they become Beasts of Chaos again. It's like, just never want to see that again. It was so awful.
that's fair.
Ideneth. What are we thinking for Ideneth? They're going to pivot into Thralls and Reavers, I think. Sharks are not going to cut it. Morphan,
No,
yeah.
Sharks are still good. No, Sharks are still good because you need that fast flanking unit that can do mortal wounds. And
it's like Dracolines.
Use this movement.
Right?
Yeah.
The thing is, Sharks are not as good as Dracolines. You got to reinforce the Sharks to be as good as Dracolines. So that's a pretty big investment. Does one
Eels
shark
also
cut
went
it?
down. I think eels are popular.
Well,
choice
each
there.
shark is actually more comparable to a chariot or dragon.
It's like a
They're also
Tempester.
pointed the same way, actually.
It's like a Tempester unit.
Yeah.
Well, they're a little better than that. They have better melee.
Well, 2
and,
Tempesters
better,
are
like,
definitely
quality
better
in their shooting.
than 1 shark.
Well, yeah. That's what I said. That they're actually costed at chariot and dragon points. That's the best comparison. They don't compare to Dracos very well. And they're fine. They do their job. They're a good flanking unit. They're a good unit to add. They're literally more like a chariot for that army in the flavor of that army, in the sense that their profile is a mixed profile of shooting. They're a hybrid.
I have the opposite opinion. I think sharks get weaker because their main thing used to be, and like we've talked to Carl, who's like locally from here. He's like, and he used to use sharks to pop support heroes. Like the main thing his sharks were doing was just
Oh,
putting
yeah.
like 8 or 12 shots into like a wizard and trying to kill it or something.
No, I'm saying like
And now they
they're
can't do
fulfilling
that.
more of a chariot role rather than
Yeah,
being
so they're not
a-
doing that role
That's what
now,
I
so
was
their
saying.
shooting is greatly diminished because they're forced to shoot units.
They're gonna play flanks like a Dracoline unit, right? They're gonna shoot
Yeah.
screens and charge screens and kill lighter things that are holding objectives,
Yeah.
and they're very good at that with their high threat range.
My problem is IDK is like one of those armies that can basically never be doubled. Like if it gets doubled, you're dead. And they're kind of elite, so it's like they can't really compete with any of the summoning armies because they almost like when they commit to a position against like a really tough army like Nurgle, they end up losing a lot of units because they're relatively fragile when people hit them back.
I think you're gonna start seeing
that's
like
the way to get more.
70, 80 model lists out of Ideneth
Yeah.
soon, maybe more, maybe even 90 plus.
Yeah, the Morpen builds are definitely going to lean into large blocks of Namardi.
Yeah, you're gonna see a 30. You're gonna see a block of 30 trolls for sure.
Yeah. I
Probably.
do think they're B tier now though, because they don't have the ability to deal with everything enough to be A tier. Like A tier is definitely ability to take all comers.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think Magic is very, very popular right now, and I think IDK cannot deal with Magic at all.
Yep.
Like,
the only
that is
thing
their
I,
one.
yeah, the only thing I can think of with Magic and IDK, like anti-Magic tech and IDK, is bringing in an Incantor.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
they can
that's-
do that, and then having the ward. Actually, is the ward only in combat, or is it for the
No, it's
thralls?
the ward is permanent.
Okay, so
It's
it's just
like
always
it's for
around
the
the boats.
turn.
That's
Yep.
like the best thing they have versus Magic.
You
is
have it
that 5
anytime you're
ward.
near the boat and anytime you're in high tide.
Yeah, but you're still
And
gonna
low-
If you
lose your
take the
heroes
ritual,
that
yeah.
you
If you
need.
take the ritual, which you would.
Yeah.
But
Low tank can also just give the
True.
unit
Yep.
a 5-up ward.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, he'll be doing that. It just sucks because your heroes will die, and you kind of need those. Without the
No,
support
they can't be
heroes,
shot.
No, you're gonna pop them in the boat.
No. With Magic,
No, I think
that's what we're talking
shooting.
about.
I think high B tier. I think I would put them above beasts maybe
Okay.
because one of their main weaknesses.
Oh, are we
was
doing that
beasts.
too? Are
Yeah,
we
yeah,
actually
left-
like?
Yeah,
Left
yeah,
is
sure.
better.
All right,
Left
yeah,
is
we can do
better.
that.
Yeah, so I think definitely IDK is above Beast of Chaos.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
they
they're
can handle
close.
Beast of Chaos.
They're really close. I think
Yeah.
they could definitely surprise us in BA.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. They could be low A. I don't see them being S. If we're
No.
like blurring
No,
the lines
no.
here, they're somewhere between
No,
A
no,
and
no.
B, closer to B.
I think a good IDK player is definitely high A, but
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
army
With
itself,
its variants,
it's still
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Fleshhead Courts is F.
No, are they
No,
that
but,
bad?
No, they've gotten better. They really have.
They've
the
gotten
points
better.
are really good.
The points,
I
yeah,
think-
it's like they're cheap enough
Not
to where they
F.
can spam things, but they can't project toughness ever. They're just not
No, they can, but they're definitely not F, man. They're really not. They're definitely better than F. Like they're at least D. I don't think they're C, but they're definitely at least D. Like I don't think they hit the F tier ranking here.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
don't
don't
know,
think they're gonna
man.
hit that like 40, like sub 40% win rate. Like if we're talking like F tier, that's like sub 40%, like really bad.
It's like
You know, like,
Gits
I think
before
they're
their new
here.
book bad. That's
Yeah.
the F tier.
Like a really good Feck player could definitely 4-1, and then like a decent one could maybe like 3-2 sometimes. You
Well,
know,
maybe they can feck off. No, okay.
Yeah.
But
but like they're not like they're not as bad as Gits were pre new book with bounty hunters, for example.
I mean, they're not bad. They still have the Terrorgeist. They still have like their Crypt Flares or whatever. But the thing is, like, all their hammer units are on 4-up or 5-up saves, and it's just like if you can't project toughness in the center, you will most likely die. That's
I
the
can
problem.
definitely see the new book having a lot of like keeping bad saves, but having a lot of defensive tools. I could see that kind of happening in the new book.
Yeah, like -1 to wound nonsense or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm thinking it's gonna be is -1 to wound like somehow army wide, which would be kind of terrifying.
Dan
I'm
and
surprised the Beast Aura radiates outwards because or used to, I guess.
Mhm.
Like
it's just table
yeah,
one.
Feck should have that because that's
Yeah.
literally what they do. It's like as you approach them, you start
Yeah.
seeing them as like royals and nobles or whatever.
Dan and James, you guys are too young in this game to know what it was like living through when Flesh Eater Course got their second edition battle tome.
Oh
Um,
Jesus!
It was awful. It was legit just an awful time to play the game because second edition came out and the first 3 books were all trash. Stormcast was a bad book, Night Hunt was a bad book, Beast of Chaos was a bad book, and people thought, "Hey, you know what? Okay, we're taking a big hit to power, right?"
Yep.
And then Flesh Eater Courts came out with Skaven and Fire Slayer shortly after, and suddenly the game was just all about fight first, fight twice, with like 14 plus run and charge, with a 5-up board. So like the game just evolved into like it was so easy to collect this army, and they were so effective until you knew exactly how to position against their double pile-in, because the Terrorgeist also has a 3-inch reach. So in addition to fighting twice, it has a huge range. So like it just immediately devolved into this, and it was just an awful time. And I really hope in a few months I am not looking back at this live stream and being like, "Yep, I knew that would happen again." I really hope it doesn't happen again. I hope they expand the army in a completely different way than what we saw before.
Well, I mean, we've already had a plethora of fight first, fight last abilities. I don't think it's been any.
No, I mean fight first, fight twice.
Okay.
No, it was fight first, fight twice, and then fight on death.
Yes, it was
So
so
it
degenerate.
was fighting you 3 times, and then like
Yeah,
this was
'cause there
when
was no
command
limit
points.
before.
Yeah, there was no limit on command abilities, and so like you could literally you always took the
I'm
battalion,
not on fighting
and then
too, but yeah.
yeah, and your guy is like doing 9 attacks, 6s do 6 mortal wounds flat, and re-rolling those attacks because of amount.
Yeah, you're just trying to fish for 6s.
Yeah.
And then they were also playing a 2,600 point game while you were playing 2,000 points, because they used all their summoning in the first turn, and then just bodied you. Like their defenses didn't matter because they had so much stuff that you had to chew through, and then the Terror guys would pick off a few things at the start of the game. It was not a fun experience. I hope their new book is good, because they are an interesting army. They're kind of Iron Jaws-esque, right? Where it's like an aggressive, fast melee army. There's a very particular way to play around it, and as soon as you do, your win rate skyrockets against that army. But it's definitely like a newbie stomper. So we'll see how the 3rd edition book turns out. Blades of Corn, they got a White Dwarf update, and it was good, and their points keep getting cut. So we're just going to assume this is old book, right? Blades of Corn, old book. We're not assuming a book update comes out in the middle of this. It will at some point, but maybe not before the battle scroll. So let's just look at Blades of Corn as they currently are. Not as bad as Feck. Not as good as Cities. C tier?
Yeah, C tier. 100% C tier.
Worse than Gargants, I'd say.
Yeah.
Got him.
Gotta love family members. Okay. Thanks, Lewis. Appreciate you, man.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's yeah, if you can if you know what they're trying to do with like Blood Tithe, then you know how to counter Scarbrand and like the Bloodthirster nonsense. Like you'll win, otherwise you'll lose.
Well, hold on a second. Dan, you want to read our very generous super chat?
He said that Daniel needs to shave for $50. Thanks,
Wait,
man.
what?
I appreciate you. Yeah, that's our super chat for $50. Thanks.
Oh my
Lewis.
god.
It's my cousin Lewis. Hi, Lewis. No, I mean Blades of Corn is literally just worse Iron Jaws. Like, they just do the job worse. So
I hope the new book is good for them.
Yep, I think it will be. Yeah, considering the way everything else is going.
World Eaters got with Blood Tithe, and you're looking at Blades of Corn. If they get similar effects, that's gonna be juicy.
Yep.
All right, let's talk Fire Slayers, because I am considering not selling my Fire Slayers and just playing them for one more season.
No, I think they're A tier.
I think they are A as well, but it's a low A, because
it's a low A for sure.
If people aren't running monsters, Fire Slayers are super hard to deal with. But as soon as you run monsters or Terra Wings, secret tech, Fire Slayers are not that tough.
Well, Fire Slayers don't like monsters too much because it'll just roar them and stop them from, attacking on that. But, Fire Slayers, I could definitely see them as low A. They're always kind of the, they always seem to be the army that counters the top of the meta, which is kind of interesting. I've always seen, some of the best armies, bitch about Fire Slayers, if that makes sense.
Well, let's think
Counter-Strike is an incredibly powerful mechanic, and if you're using, honest-to-God units to charge instead of monsters, or if monsters fail that 3-up roar, because you can't fail it, it's a good chance you might fail it. They will just demolish you. That's the thing.
Well, what's even better than countercharge is because the Flamekeeper and Battlesmith can't be shot off anymore, it's totally viable to run a whole bunch of Volkites in Vostark, 20-man units, right? So you get them all in combat with Gallivats. Flamekeeper and a 4-up rally brings your unit back up to pretty reasonable strength, and the Flamekeeper uses the ability in the enemy turn to charge, and then because you charged, you get +1/+1 from Vostark. And because it's the enemy turn, and if something charged them as well, counter charge, because you charge one thing, if they charge into you, you can counter strike Oh no, you wouldn't be able to do that because you're within 3 inches of a unit that did not charge. That's okay. Never mind, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But the counter charge thing is really, really strong. People are not going to expect that from Flamekeepers. They think you're going to save it for +1 damage, and you just whip out a counter charge in their turn. Really good tech.
It's cool.
Really good ability.
Oh, it's a really cool army. They're definitely a little underrated, but they also didn't get the best 3.0 book, I'll say.
It's not the best, but it's good. It's solid.
Yeah, it's
Hearthguard are
decent.
good. Volkites are good. Magmadroths are good. Priests are good. They got tech
points
for.
cuts too,
Sorry,
right? I think they got points cuts too.
probably.
Recently,
They did a
the new
little
Battle
bit, yeah.
I
Probably.
think they got a little
they
bit.
did.
That's pretty nice.
They did. All their foot heroes got cheaper. Magmadrots
Yeah.
got cheaper. Volkites got
Tactically,
cheaper.
they're looking really good. They've got like Fabian and.
But you need a
Yeah.
good player to pilot them because you need to be able to account for their like slow movement. I think any player who doesn't do that is going to have a hard time.
If you
No,
are
But
very
Hearthguard Berserkers are one of the good units to project power in the
yeah.
center. The problem is Fire Slayer hero slots are just so in demand. You just kind of want everything.
Yeah, you want everything. I think that army is especially like it's important knowing which units to run 6 with.
And well,
That's
also
always
consider
been the
that
big
you can
one.
retinue Sworn Bodyguard now with 2x15 Hearthguard. Can you fit that many Hearthguard in range? I'm thinking it all through now as I'm.
Are we
talking
getting
live.
15 Hearthguard? Oh no, yeah, that would.
Yeah,
Double reinforced.
Yeah, reinforced. They're 5.
Yeah, so you just Sworn
Yeah,
Bodyguard
and
one
like the
unit.
Auric
retinue the other.
Father is actually one of the tougher GCs. He hits like a truck too. So.
Yeah.
That grand strat, by the way, Fabian, is not guaranteed against Stormcast. We have a Lord Relictor. The keep an endless spell on the battlefield because no one runs priests.
Everyone forgets that we can dispel endless spells with Lord Relictor.
Yeah. Well, no, it's their
Invocations.
The
invocations.
prayer. The invocation,
They have
yeah.
their grand strat is keep an invocation up, which like no one ever like gets rid of their invocation.
Yeah, but no, this season's really good for them. I think I might once I get bored with Stormcast this season, I'll probably get my Fire Slayers out of storage and give them a try again.
Or Stormcast? How?
Well, there's only so many times I can throw a 0+ save unit into the middle of the board and then watch my opponent fail to kill it.
Hey, you gotta try different 0+ save unit. You know, foam riders,
different
dragons,
flavors of 0+.
protectors.
Yeah. Give yourself some challenges. Put Sequitors and be like, oh, I'm gonna.
I'm playing Drakesworn Karazai. Isn't that challenging enough?
No.
The Drakesworn part, yeah. The Karazai part, not so much.
I'm playing a Stormkeep list when I get back from Mexico. That's the first thing I'm
Alright,
gonna do.
sure.
15 Vindictor Stormkeep list. It's gonna happen.
All right, we got to it. Here we go. The Overlords.
The Gits.
15 Vindictors and run Cometfall. Just destroy Gits all day. With like,
Well, yeah,
multiple
but you know.
First impression is hard here because I haven't gone into detailed list building. Like, I haven't done like a review of the book. Like when we do reviews of other armies, that's how I get a pretty good impression of them. My very first impression is that they are S tier because the squigs are just really good. Yep. They have so much good stuff going for them. Even pivoting out of like just mass squigs, the Boingrot Bounders look good. Mangler squigs look good with their ability to, charge in, jump over the screen, fight stuff, and then 3d6 retreat or 2d6 retreat out. Like they just can't be hit.
I like the fact that their heroic action can issue 3 4-up rallies.
Yeah.
And then you have recursion on top of that. I think that's
their abilities are so good, but I just wonder if their stats are enough. Aside from squigs, like it could be a situation where it's like Beast. We saw Bestigors and their War Scroll looks good, but then you see it's 220 points, and you're like, oh, hold on a second, that's actually really poor for what you want to do. Or you look at like Gores, and they're like 110 points for 3 attacks apiece. So you reinforce or double reinforce, and you get the 5-inch charge with them out of reserve. And you're like, okay, cool. But that's a whole bunch of trash attacks on 0 rend because it's not round 2 yet. So like that's the kind of analysis I want to do with Gits, and I just haven't had the time to do it. But my very first instinct is that they look really strong. Maybe the weakest of the S tier armies, let's say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think they're still S tier because they'll be able to play the game very well as it is for this season. Right, so the whole like having to shove everything in one area, they're going to do that really well, right? They're going to skirmish.
Extending objectives to 9 inches for them.
Yeah, extending objectives to 9 inches, like they can do a lot of things. The heroes not being able to be shot unless you're taking the tax is going to be big. the fact that some of their only counters is going to be like spells, for example, that can wipe them out, stop them from moving, for example. Like it's really going to be like magic armies, which yeah, Tzeentch is S tier. So that's why I was talking about earlier how I think that the some of the top tier armies could be able to take care of them so enough where they might fall into A tier, but I don't think that they're quite B tier. And I don't think they fall into the category that I really saw with Ideneth, where everyone was like, holy crap, Ideneth does all this stuff, but they don't have the stats to back it up, which is where kind of gets are right now. But right now the points are enough to back it up, right? You have enough stats.
Yeah, you can
because of the
just
amount of
yeah. The thing is like okay, so the things that have stats in that army are like spiders and like squids and I think troglodytes.
But
And
you
the thing
need
is, the
stats,
things are
you
so
know,
cheap.
stats
You
and
can
points.
you can bring all three.
Exactly.
It's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, IDK, they're actually very elite.
Yeah, you have
It's
to like
weird.
know what you're bringing in IDK.
Mhm.
Like the points get really awkward, but like Gits, I don't feel like the points get awkward at all. Like you can bring
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah, so they're
Mhm.
able to get stats in a different way than like on the war scroll. Like, okay, why? You know. So that's why I think that Gits are a tier above something like IDK, and I think they're in the same vein as IDK as far as army design goes, where they have a lot of really good rules, but not so great stats.
But then
Yeah,
the
it's
points are the
It's
last
the
piece.
points.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the points make up for the stats, right? You have stats through having more things, right? You don't have the best save, the best bravery, but if you have enough wounds and enough units to keep the gas going, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'll see. The fact that you can only resurrect units on your turn means if they get shot in the enemy turn, you can't bring them back until the end of your next turn. So they just do nothing, even if they do get revived. They're just a screen at that point. So if you play, if shooting is prominent, I think Gits are going to struggle. I don't know how prominent shooting will be. I think it's going to be leaning. More
this season,
towards
I think
melee.
shooting's going to be diminished a little bit. It's still
Just a bit.
strong, but not as strong.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how Gits play against like Stormcast levels of shooting. Frankly, like they're key units because unless you bring 2x30 squigs,
No,
they're just gonna
Stormcast
shoot
shooting,
it
they're
off.
fine. No,
Yeah, they're
Stormcast
fine.
shooting is fine because we're elite. It's
Yeah.
IDK
we're high
shooting
quality.
that's a problem. It's
Yeah,
IDK shooting that's
exactly.
a problem. And like Tempest Eye shooting with like a bunch of like trash crossbows and like
Yep.
I don't know, like 4
Yeah,
Tempesters.
volume fire, like
They
we can
don't-
do that. We got Tempesters, we got crossbows, we
Well,
can do volume
yeah,
fire.
we can.
Sure, but we
But-
give up like other elements of the army. Like if you look
Yeah.
at Gavin Grigar's list, that's putting out like 20, 30 shots from Arcanauts, 60 shots from crossbows. He has 2 units of 4 Tempesters. We're putting out 24 shots, which multiply into 48 hits.
Yeah.
That kind of volume fire, there's no chance. But against us, since we have to take opportunity cost to be able to handle other melee lists like screens and other stuff, elite screens and stuff like that, we're at somewhat of a disadvantage compared to like that list.
I think
But Gits will be
we
able
can
to
pivot.
handle something like ogres.
We might drop from 6 long strikes. That might be the pivot for us, but I think we can bring in volume shooting to deal with stuff.
I really wish our ballista was more reliable, like
Yeah.
the close range fire. I wish it wasn't 2d6 shots or whatever it is.
If it was
just
like
8
the
or 10.
anti-armor shooting unit, that would be a perfect niche for it.
Like 8 or 10 shots, just average it.
Ren 2, Ren 3, but like low max damage. That would be really cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl from Chicago.
Literally just giving us a thank you.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Okay, Nurgle.
A.
A?
A.
Nurgle is
Okay.
really good. They have volume of attacks to deal with mass wounds.
Yeah.
They're tough.
They have tough.
You can sit in
they
the middle
can
of the
spread
board.
disease because they want to be in the center of the board. Bounty Hunters
Okay.
is gone, so Blight Kings are back on the menu. They have problems against armor, but that's nothing that disease can't handle. And that 7-inch turn off command trait is still like one of the best traits in the game, I think.
That is really strong. Yep. That's a very strong ability. In a centralized combat, you get a lot of stuff within 7. They can also go, if not null deployment, they can go really low deployment on the table, right? So they're not super vulnerable to alpha strikes.
That Sloppity Bilepiper strategy becomes a lot better, and you just make them not pilot.
Mm-hmm. How would you rate them compared to Fire Slayers and Ogres so far?
I think they're below 5. I think they're definitely
They're in
one of
the
the
middle.
weaker A armies. I think they're weaker than Fire Slayers and Ogres.
Do they have like super high
tier.
volume damage to deal with Gits?
Yeah, they do. Have you seen how many attacks?
Yeah,
those
Blight
guys
Kings have like 5 attacks.
Huge
each.
amount of attacks. Yeah, it's they deal with mass wounds very well.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting, and they don't have to move fast. Like they can be like, okay, yeah, come at me. It's fun.
Asterisk of Doom in the chat asks, I just got here. Gits are S tier now? Maybe. Maybe. The book's not out yet, so it's hard to tell for sure. But
Asterisk, I'll put it this way. If you're an army that can't deal with 72 wounds in your face, it's going to be a 2-for-1. Because they're going to kill something, they're going to take a little bit of damage, and they'll run away, and they'll kill something else, because they have a 9-inch range, and when they run away, 2 up is a mortal wound. They'll kill 2 things, and half of that unit's going to revive. And if you can't deal with that as an army, or if you cannot account for that or can't come back from that, then you've lost.
Well, it's a 2 for half.
Yeah,
you revive half the
It's a 2
unit
for
back.
half. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I said 2-for-1. It's 2
Yeah.
for half.
So I guess 4 for 1.
It's, it's probably going to end up being A tier, but it's looking really good, especially at the current points. I do think that
But
there's
my issue also is that hero, that 80-point hero that they have, that applies the 6s to hit mortal wounds on any squig unit.
Yeah.
So you could have squig hoppers, you could have squig herd, you could
Bounders,
have
Rounders,
rounders, anything. Yeah, like it's insanely good. Like imagine if we had like a hero that applied, I don't know, shots to our crossbow adjudicators, just apply it.
Dude, I will say the idea of like you're facing off against Gits, and the first thing they do is just unleash a swarm of gibbering squigs. Then there's dudes riding squigs.
No,
I
don't
that.
agree.
That
I don't
visual is
disagree with the
awesome.
mechanic. I think it's like really
awesome.
fun. I think
It's
it's
cheap.
awesome. They should do crazy, stupid balls to the wall things like that. It should just be pointed correctly for the output it has.
I can agree
Because
with that.
when 36 Squid Herd is going to have like 90, 100 something attacks, 6s to hit mortal wounds, 4s and 3s, they have -1 Ren. God knows why, but they have -1 Ren. And on top of that, they have when I run away, I pick something with a 9, and on 2 up, I deal a mortal wound.
It's that thing that pulls it apart, right? So if you're not able to do the full damage to wipe out the unit, they just battle shock and do all this damage to you. Like the Gits player is going to assume they're just going to die. In fact, they want it to die so they can resurrect.
No, everything is suicidal in that armor.
Yeah.
Literally everything.
And that flavor-wise,
it's
that's
thematic.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Nail the flavor, nail the fun, keep that mechanic exact. I don't even want it changing. Like
Exactly.
maybe you can move it to from 9 to 6 inches, but it's a points issue. Squig Herd probably shouldn't be 120. They should be closer to like 160, 170.
It's a lot, but maybe you're right.
It's a lot, but
Like, and maybe like the
definitely
hero needs a 20
closer
point
to
increase.
150.
I think it's the
and,
hero.
and the heroes. That's the other thing.
It's
is the
everything
hero.
surrounding the squigs that seems like too much.
Mhm.
Like if they had 170 point heroes like some other armies, maybe it wouldn't be so oppressive.
Anyway, we had a whole hour of that. Let's.
yeah, let's move on. Okay. So Nurgle, we're saying lower end of A.
I think they're going to end up in the middle of what our A tier is going to fill out to be,
Okay.
but
You think
lower
higher
than
Fire
what we have
Slayers?
right now.
Okay. So Fire Slayers are
Yeah.
then mid to high A.
Yeah. I think
For
Fire
now,
Slayers
for
are
now.
kind of in the mid range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Pull from the
Nighthawk.
back. Pull from the back. Pull from the back.
Okay, sure.
Change it
Slanesh.
up.
Okay. Sure.
You guys are
Slanesh is
Slanesh?
A, I think. Okay,
No,
there's a distinction
it's
here.
not
We
A.
need to be very clear
It's not
about
A.
this. Slanesh, if you play it competitively, before the Beasts of Chaos Battle Tome, where you would bring a ton of coalition and allied units and neutral in the spells and hurt yourself and farm depravity for days, that, I think, was an A tier build. However, the Beasts of Chaos changes are going to completely change that, because everything's being thrown out the window here. That playstyle still exists, but
They used to depend on cockatrices a lot. And
Yeah.
now that's a little different.
So Slanesh is this. It's like another KO army. It's been so janky and reliant on neutral and coalition stuff for a while.
I think it's a B. I think it's B, and if you're Bill Souza, it's an ATL.
I think good players can do really gross things with this army.
Yeah, but I think it's
Well, yeah, but that-
really good play.
I'm taking the average good player at a tournament, not the pro. A pro
This-
will go for like easy 5-0 with this, but
This
I
army
think they're
might have
B
the
tier.
biggest difference between like newbie playing it and pro playing it. Like the win rate is
Yes.
going to be
Yeah.
wildly different.
yeah, like
It's
if
a
you're,
lot
if, you're
like
like
City.
if you just enjoy some Slanesh units or whatever, like if you enjoy bringing Painbringers and Simbaresh Twin Souls, this army is a 3-2-2-3 army. If you're an army that really ties into just Bliss Barbs, the Archer, whatever cavalry they have, Sigwald, and then just like a bunch of coalition and ally stuff, then this army is a 4-1-5 army. So it's like that.
Yeah, it's definitely B tier. It's just like cities. It's the same scenario.
Relative to cities, better or worse?
Worse, definitely.
Yeah.
I think Cities has the tools to deal with Slanesh
Yeah.
pretty handily.
Okay.
And the general field as well. It's not just the one-on-one matchup, but it's also the general field. Cities can deal with it better.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I would have personally ranked Cities higher because the only way to really play them is Hammerhall and Tempest Eye, and that's like A tier stuff. But yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's how we want to rate stuff off their potential,
I mean,
I'm okay with that.
I don't know. I don't know if that's really that.
So
indicative.
there's army potential and there's player potential, and I think those are different things. I think Cities of Sigmar's army potential is really high. I think Hedonist Slanesh player potential is really high. Does that make sense?
Yep.
They're
Like, I
B
don't-
tier for different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, they're beat like I think Cities of Sigmar better than IDK personally. Like the way they are currently. With like just Phoenicium is like an excellent thing. Tempestai is excellent. So it's like they're
Mhm.
definitely like at the A tier level. It's just you have to really spam us into a certain kind of unit,
Let's-
but you can build that army though.
Look, we're more competitively minded here. I don't want to say we just care about GTs and whatnot. That's not true, but like
Yeah, but it's
we
like
are
with Heat
optimizers.
Knights.
So,
Right. But Heat Knights is a resource allocation thing, right? It's like how do I maximize depravity? How do I maximize what this army wants to do? Which makes it tough to play, which makes it harder to succeed with. With cities, like the combos exist and they're fairly simple. It's just about having the right units, which a lot of people don't have. So you don't see them as much.
But let's put it this way: when we get to Stormcast, we're not going to rank it based off Anvils of the Helden Hammer. We're going to rank it off the good Stormhouse. So why don't we do the same
Sure.
thing with cities?
Sure. Then cities is higher than IDK in my opinion. It's a higher end of B tier, low A tier.
I just put cities at the top of B just to make
Okay.
it easier.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just want
I
to I want to create a framework just for the rest of the conversation.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. You guys pick one now. What do you want?
Let's pick Daughters of Cain.
Yeah. Let's
Oh,
do dog.
Yeah.
All right. Bottom of A is my initial guess.
Yep.
The
Bottom of
Marathi
A,
point
yep.
changes have been significant.
Yeah, the 15 Bowsnake Marathi lists are dead. I saw them getting destroyed at LVO. Like, season doesn't even matter. That list does not have enough Galatian champs. It cannot project any real power outside of Marathi in the center. And the Bowsnakes, they have to be one drop, and they can't shoot your Galatian champions anymore. And they have no screens. It's all gas. So it's just like snakes, Marathi, and you have no screens or nothing. So you just get destroyed. If you face even a slightly maneuverable army, you'll get destroyed. So
With that being said, they're still really
Witch Elf
good,
build
and
is
the
still really
non-Marathi
good.
builds are still really good. So they're still A tier, but they're the bottom of it for sure.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to make new categories here: A tier top and A tier bottom.
No, you don't have to do that.
No,
But,
that'd be
you know,
nice. I think
no,
ranking's fine.
it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, don't worry about it. Delete
Yeah,
it.
really, don't worry about it.
All right. Okay. How do we rank Daughters of Cain? Because I think they might start finally pivoting into. We've been predicting this for so long, but the potential's been there the whole time. Draichi Ganeth or the Kraith are both excellent sub-factions that just spit out damage. Is this finally their time to shine? This battle plan, this meta, is it? Can we do it?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
it's possible. I think it actually might be better than Nurgle.
Okay.
I think that list with the Blood Sister groups, the Witch Elves, either in Hagnar or Draichi, it's up to you. And Sisters of Slaughter, Heart of Fury, Avatar Cain, a single Cauldron, Hag Gladiatrix, Melusa Ironscale. I think that has more potential. I think that actually has the potential to beat Nurgle because you are faster than Nurgle is, and so you will always get your charges off against them, and you have the mass sort of like stab attacks to get through like their 5-0 ward and 4%.
Mhm. Yeah, Nurgle might, fly up into the middle of the board and then you charge into them, or if they try to pin you, you just have cheap disposable Witch Elf screens that.
And
are
you don't
always
care
effective.
about that 7-inch aura of corruption because
Yes.
you are Hagbrute up, so you are 2s and 2s regardless.
Yeah, you lose your all out slaughter, which whatever. No, that sucks.
Whatever.
But it's not the end of the world.
I mean, I have 30 attacks. Have fun on like a 120 point unit. So
Okay, how about relative?
And
to Fire
it gets
Slayers?
better because one of the biggest problems of the High Gladiatrix was that it's a beautiful hero, great buffs. Used to get shot off the board. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yep, that is a huge deal. That was always limiting that potential. Okay, so I guess we rank A tier armies relative to how well they compete with other A tier armies, B tier armies, and then the S tier armies. Witches kill squigs before the squigs can die, or battle shock. I mean, right? They just wipe them out.
Oh yeah, so Daughters is in a really interesting position because if they deploy Witches as a screen, the squigs will wipe them out and the Daughters won't do anything to them, which means you are safe from that battle shock mortal wound stuff. And when the Witches swing back, they will most certainly wipe out the unit.
Yeah.
So they won't take that many mortal wounds back. So yes, I think they are slightly better positioned into Gits as well.
Okay.
But
Okay, that's
that
good.
doesn't mean they are better than Fire Slayers because
Fire Slayers
again,
can
if
do
they
that
don't have
too, though.
lore. Yeah.
Fire
What?
Slayers can do that.
Do
can
what?
take the squigs and then kill them back.
No, because Fire
Really?
Slayers live. That's the biggest problem. You don't want to
No,
live
but, like,
on the 36.
You
No,
get
I'll tell you
charged.
what. I've
you
literally
fight
seen this
first.
game. No,
That's the
I've
thing.
seen what happens with this game. The 36 clicks charge. The Heartguard Berserkers fight first. They take out literally half the unit.
Well, not just
And then the
Hearthguard.
Squigs.
There's also Volkites. They become a very high volume unit that can deal with
Yeah.
Sure, but they're not doing 70. They're not doing 50 damage. Or 72 damage.
Not on average. They'll do
No, they're doing 38 to
on
40.
2s and 2s.
Yeah, they're doing 38 to 40. Same with Heartguard. So I saw Squigs charge, counterattack from Heartguard. They kill half the Squig unit. Squig comes in, hits Heartguard, takes like 5 or 6 models out, and then the rest run away, and it takes out a Magma Drop that's behind the Heartguard.
I mean,
So,
It depends on how much damage you do, because the more damage you do,
Yeah.
the less run away.
Yeah, the
so-
less that run away.
So if you're only getting hit by like 5 mortal wounds, let's say at the end,
yeah,
that's okay. That's not the end
not
of the
that
world.
bad. I think they handle them fine enough. Like I don't think it's that bad.
I don't think so. I
No,
think because
I
I think
think-
Heartguard fighting first is good. I just don't think like when you fight the Squig herd, the problem is you either have to get wiped, your screen, whatever thing is, it has to get wiped, or you have to wipe out the Squigs. Or at least like do 75% or more damage to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think
75%
Fire
of 70.
Slayers do that.
Yeah,
Hearthguard
they can do
Berserkers
that.
definitely do that.
Yeah.
Because they fight first,
I-
right? So the Squigs don't have a chance to attack into you.
How many Heartguard are we talking about? Are we talking about 15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
15 with the broad axes on 2s and 2s probably. With Rend 1, sometimes
2s and
Rend 2.
2s. What?
Yeah, all out attack and you get +1 wound from the Rune Smiter.
I thought you couldn't do that if you issued the Counter Strike to them.
Oh no, you can't get all
Oh,
out
they
attack.
can't
that's
all
right.
out attack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. What's the other
Yeah,
source
it
of
would be
+1
3
hit then?
hits.
There's another one. isn't
Nothing.
there? Okay,
No,
so
they
3s
don't have
and
anything
3s
Because
and
of
2s.
prayer. Oh well, how are you getting the 2s off?
Runic Empowerment. From a Rune Smiter.
Is that a
+1 to wound.
prayer?
Yeah.
Well, okay, assuming I'm saying this is like a turn 1 combo for Gits.
Oh, okay.
So that didn't happen.
I think Fire
That's
Slayers
all.
go Bat Reg. Gits aren't going 1 drop, they're going 2
No,
drop at least.
Fire Slayers won 4 heroes, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You won
for
4.
sure.
You won Battlesmith, Priest, Father, and Flamekeeper.
True.
Yeah,
At the moment.
they do want a bunch of heroes.
So it's a
Yeah.
dice roll then.
So-
2 drop versus
They
2
might-
Yeah,
drop.
so basically, I mean, yeah. What I'm saying is, Heartguard do not wipe out 36 square. Is what I've seen, because Counter Strike exists, like you said, and Counter Strike does not allow you to all out attack.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think you can do enough damage that you'd survive it with the 4-up ward.
Yeah, the 4 board is the other thing too.
Okay, I mean, well, we
Yeah.
can keep talking about Fire
Anyway,
Slayers
fair, fair.
against everyone.
Okay.
Next,
No,
let's
so,
go Nighthawk.
well, I just want to kind of daughters. How do they do against ogres? Because they don't have armor, so Ren doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think they're lower than ogres. I think ogres just have like, because the thing is, daughters want to get close. Ogres just put up like a lead belcher or Noblar screen, and then they just shoot
Yeah.
them off with the 10 damage thing.
Yeah, because they got
And
the
the thing
mortar
is-
shot.
Yeah, and the daughter's got to run the cauldron, and the cauldron is very much shootable.
Yeah, the
So-
cauldron dies.
That is
Cauldron's
very
dead top
Yeah.
of round 1.
Yep.
And then they don't have any anti-magic, so Zinch just bodies them, waste
Yeah.
their time with pink horrors while they nuke them with
Oh
spells.
yeah.
Not even pink horror, just spawn. You just create spawns. in the
Yeah,
room,
you
and
just-
it's just
Yeah, they
Okay.
deal with them very well.
So a little bit higher than Nurgle, but a little bit worse than these other armies so far.
ogres and Z. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Cool. Who picked that one? That was Murgonk?
Yep.
James, you go.
Nighthawk.
S. Done. Next.
Maybe
Hey,
it's really
Okay.
close. It definitely I would put them at the top of it.
because, if you face a Nighthawk player who likes making 4-up saves and makes like more than half of them, they just feel like you can't kill them. And then you have the bad days on the 4-up saves, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. I think Nighthawk are definitely A. They're not quite as oppressive as I think like Zinch can be.
I think Nighthawk can beat ogres very reliably.
Oh yeah. And
I think it can beat Fire Slayers very reliably because they have fight last.
I think bottom of S. I just think any army that has substantial recursion probably deserves to be in the S tier at that point.
high defense, high wounds.
High defense.
Um,
Yeah. I'm actually putting them at S. They're actually, yeah. If I because their main thing was like bounty hunters and like there's a bunch of like missions that reward keep
Yep.
killing GVs, and now that's gone.
They have
Their only
the-
weakness is they are no longer a 1-drop army like they used to.
They have to
If
take
you're-
the GV
if
battalion.
you have
They
to take Galatian veterans to
Yeah.
make it play against it.
Yeah, to play
So
Scarlet.
your
Fury, you have to-
minimum 3-drop, maybe 4, depending on how you structure.
And given how strong their reactive defenses are, I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be okay doing that. I think they'll survive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the fact that you just, even with Sharpshooter, can't kill their heroes is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm fine with them bottom of S.
I hate how they have the best bodyguards in the game, pretty much.
Oh yeah, like literally what they'll do is take one, put Spirit Host around it so you can't get to the objective, take Stubbornness or Rhinox on like a Cruciator or something, and just good luck taking that objective from them, I guess.
Well, you have to put a champion on it to cancel out the Rhinox, but yeah. Okay, Dan, your turn to pick one.
All right, I will take Iron Jaws because I think Iron Jaws are A tier.
Ooh,
Bottom
like
of A, but A tier.
It looks like Orc War clans actually.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. True, it's Orc War clans. But I mean, I would still put Iron Jaws at bottom of A tier.
We should have split this up.
We will. This one, because it's an Iron Jaws there, we will judge this as Iron Jaws, and then we will explain where we would put Bone Splitters and Cruel Boys. And
Iron Jaws, I think bottom of A. Yeah.
I think they're bottom of A. They can 100% like 5-0, but they won't.
Anyone who knows how to counter them can counter them. But
yeah.
Like if you're not prepared for it, if you start teching your list too much, and they will just come in and smash you. So
yep.
It seems like they have the tools to have an, I don't want to say easy time against every army lower ranked than them based on this. But every army below this has a hard time fighting Iron Jaws, and every army above this has tools to deal with Iron Jaws.
Mm-hmm. Like I thought Cities would have a good time against Iron Jaws, but nah, Iron Jaws get the double, it's over.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, ogres just punch through it. Fire Slayers countercharge through it, unless they get roared by the Mock Rusher, which is tragic. Daughters of Cain has cheap screens, and they smash and bash, but you just deploy out of range.
I mean, obviously at the highest levels, all these matchups are fairly equal because the players are all good, and it comes down to like dice rolls.
Yeah, there's minor advantages. If I had to guess, it would be like maybe 55-45 for one of these armies against the other. Right? I think. Oh, except Nighthawk. I think Nighthawk's like a 70% win rate against Iron Jaws. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy how heavily favored.
Yeah, because your WA doesn't do anything.
Yeah. WA doesn't do anything. War Channers don't
do
anything.
Your Cruciator doesn't do anything. Your War Channer doesn't do anything.
And you can't smash and bash because good luck getting through 30 wounds on a 4-up, 5-up.
Yeah.
Unrendable.
Yeah.
-1 to be wounded.
Yeah, I think bottom of A, they're just plain good. Skaven, let's talk about Skaven. I want to pick Skaven next.
Okay. I don't know much about Skaven, I'll be honest.
They are high A.
Yep.
Okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear why.
So much better now.
So Bounty Hunters being gone means they can spam the shit out of Clan Rats. A. All their melee units, like Plague Sensor Bearers, whatever, became really, really good. They have Thankful, which is a horde killer. In an infantry meta, he's just solid option, always.
But let's, hold on, because I hear this a lot. Infantry and horde are not the same thing. Right? 10-man squad of Protectors is infantry. 10-man squad of Chosen is infantry. That's different than a 30-man squad of Bladegeist Revenants. That's a horde.
Oh,
right?
sure.
I just want to make sure we're clear about this.
Right, I'll clarify. They have enough infantry to be screens, have hammer units, have shooting, have good magic, and they have good artillery. The Jezzails are actually really good. Sure, they're not sharpshooters, but they're actually pretty good units. And they have things like Rat Ogres, hitting on 2s and winning on 2s with the Packmaster with recursion. The only thing holding back this army this entire season, because the book came out in this season, was Bounty Hunters. Just killing all the rats. Skaven is, I think, equal to Ogres. I wouldn't put it up to the left of Ogres, maybe, but it's about the same ranking as Ogres.
Yeah.
They have tricks up their board that they can do with heroes and magic and shooting and just having bodies upon bodies upon bodies, and then having just insane, like, hammer units hiding behind them where they can just go and hit you with, like, insane Plague Sensor Bear damage. Skaven is going to be scary. Like, people aren't realizing this. They could very well pop into S tier, in my opinion.
I'll have to wait.
They're one of the few armies that can actually also deal with Nighthawk, for that matter. Because they just have, like, the massive attacks. They have Thankful. And Thankful against Gits? Oh, baby. You want to charge 36 Squid Herd? Have 4 Warpfire Flamers ready for you.
Unleash Hell is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they got the tools. I think the struggle is going to be putting it all together and having a take all-comers list. It's kind of the same problem that Stormcast
Chase,
has. How efficient
they have Thankful counts in any meta. I disagree. I think if it was like a monster or a cavalry meta, probably not. But when you are specifically pushing infantry, or when armies like Gits become really good, when projecting numbers and toughness in the center with infantry counts for a lot, Thankful goes from good to like excellent. And I think that's what's happening here.
You know what's really good against Skaven? Terra Wings because they have garbage bravery.
Well, yeah, I mean, why not?
Just go on eBay, Terra Wings, all sold out. Oh damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have a Thunder Fade box at my store for 150. Anyone want the Zinch part of it?
There's like 4 at my store. I'm not going to disclose where that is, but people can figure it out.
Okay, Murgonk, that's your take. Dan, you were also pretty interested in putting them in A tier. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, I think that they can 100% fit all the tools they need in one list. I think they can fit enough screening to deal with pretty much anything. I mean, if you throw all the squigs into their screens, like what's really gonna happen? You'll kill like a chunk of their screens, and then you just kill them back. Like they'll be fine. Into elite armies, those warp fire cannons are really good, and the rat ogres. Like you can put so many packages in this army. That's the thing. This army, like, it feels like you can. Where like in Stormcast, you might be able to fit like a package and a half. It feels like they can fit like 4 in the same list.
Nothing. Even the Storm Fiends. If you run the classic Storm Fiend build, it's really good into like solid infantry builds. It just wasn't good for a bit because we were seeing safe stack dragons and like Iron Jaws and things way too much. But like and Nikon, like they can handle Nikon. No problem.
That's my question. How does Skaven deal with mass high armor like Stormcast and Slaves, especially Slaves because they also ignore mortal wounds on a 5?
They generally don't.
Cannons
And
they don't care about Warfire cannons, Jezzails, or well, not Warfire. I would say Jezzails more than Warfire cannons. But what happens is here's what happens, right? Previously, any army that bothered to take bounty hunters just demolished Skaven.
Yep.
Plague Sensor Bears, who are actually battle line, are really, really good into like armor. They just have like a mass of attacks coming at you at like 2s and 3s. I don't know what rend they are. I want to double check that actually. They might be -2.
But they're like fragile. I recall playing against them and just
shooting.
Oh
yeah. But that's why you just have endless levels of. Okay, so they are -1 rend, but add 1 to wound rolls. So all out attack, you can put them on 2s and 2s. They're 3 attacks apiece. If it makes a charge, 4 attacks apiece. They're 90 points for 5, so 180 points, 10, 40 attacks when you charge. They will deal with armor, just the sheer volume.
Skaven also really good casting, and they can Purple Sun extremely easily.
40 attacks on 2s, Rend 2 is not enough to deal with the armor I'm talking about. I'm talking about like 36 wounds on a 0+. That's the kind of armor I'm talking about. Like you just ignore Rend 2 and still have a 2+, and you have like almost 40 wounds to get through it. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking. How do they deal with that?
Got cannons.
I mean, they can just outnumber you too.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing is
they'll outnumber you.
If you have like,
they don't.
Yeah, you can chip them down, and elite armies suffer way more from losing models than Skaven do. Because if you're bringing 10 Chaos Warriors, they're bringing 30 Clan Rats. So like, all they need to do is pull back, and they bring back D3 Clan Rats every Battle Shock phase. So it's like, I'll just keep playing the numbers game with you. And Skaven, there's very few armies that play the numbers game as good as Skaven does.
Yeah, that's the other thing, Paul. They don't have to kill you in one turn. They don't care to kill you in one turn.
Okay.
They will.
They don't have to kill all. They have to kill 5, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, and that's
they'll kill half your unit. They'll kill a third of your unit.
And then it's like, okay, you killed 10 rats. Cool. I'll still outnumber you on objectives and take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they don't have to kill in one turn.
I'm definitely looking at that matchup from the Stormcast perspective, and I feel comfortable playing against Skaven. Stormcast have really good tools to deal with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of warping my perspective. I think other armies may not have these as easy of time.
Yes. You are not scared to fight Skaven as Stormcast, but you are wary. And I think an army that, like Slaves to Darkness, for instance, which is basically armored like us but no shooting, they might have a tougher time. They're far more.
They're going to have a lot tougher of a time.
Unless they're spamming Splintered Fang. I mean, we talked about how they're going to. We're going to talk in a review about how they're going to spam Splintered Fang.
Yeah.
But even then, you have Thankful. You have shooting, and they don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I'm seeing it. I think other armies are definitely going to struggle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think James is up. No, you're up, Paul.
I want to talk about Slaves to Darkness. And how they are a B-tier army. Even if you go with what I think is going to be the best type of build, which is Ravagers, using a big block of Chaos Knights as a pinning, Nurgle, Eroding Icon combo, spamming Splintered Fangs, probably 50 to 80 of them, let's say, depending on how much other stuff you want to bring. Even if you go that build, I don't think it's A-tier material, because they just move worse than Iron Jaws. and the recursion is good. It's maybe one of the best abilities in the game to be able to revive 10 Splittered Fang at the top of my turn or your turn or whoever's turn, because heroic actions are busted in that way. Man, that's strong, but it's not enough. I think
I'd have to agree with you there.
They don't have the movement shenanigans of Ironjaws, so you can outmaneuver them. I
think they're
a
still
gatekeeper.
Stuck playing good, honest Warhammer. That's the problem.
Yep.
They have very cool defensive abilities and cool marks and customizability, but at the end of the day, they are playing honest Warhammer.
I honestly think they might be worse than Cities as well. If we're talking about the Cities builds that we're talking about, I think they're worse than that.
I would say yeah.
Yeah, I think they're better than IDK and Beasts, though, for sure.
But what
I think they can stand IDK, yes.
Oh yeah.
What slaves add to the meta is such an oppressively strong element that it warps the meta. Even though they're not the strongest army, they are going to warp the meta, because you can't just ignore the fact that they can have a 1+ save with a 5+ rune ward, 6+ ward, for regular damage, and very reliable casting to pull that off. And you have to be able to deal with it.
You have to be able to deal with Archaon in your face turn 1 with Marcus Lanesh on a 0-up save.
You have to,
because that's what's happening.
If you can't kill that 10 block of Nurgle Knights, or 15 block, let's say, if they double down on it, charging into you, pinning you with the eroding icon, you're not gonna go more than 3-2.
Yeah, it's the Gargants. They've become the new Gargants in a way.
But they're armor Gargants, which is
yeah. It's in a different way. They project armor and just toughness.
Some armies, ironically, the way to deal with them isn't through mortal wounds, because they have a 5+ ward against specifically that. The way to deal with them is just mass damage, but not Renless damage. You need mass Ren 1 damage with a way to shut off commands, or you need mass Ren 2 damage. And
Ren 2 sometimes, because the Nurgle icon will be reducing.
Nurgle icon.
Yeah. So it has to be the right kind of Ren 2 as well. Shutting off commands against them is huge. So armies that can do that are going to have a great time. It just seems like they are going to struggle against every army that's higher rated than them. Yeah,
I can see them really struggling into DOK, Ironjaws. Yeah, definitely, because Ironjaws will just pop the wall and just go all in with -2 Ren on 6 Gorgardas and 9 Gorgardas and a Maw Crusher. I agree with this ranking. I think they're slightly worse than Cities, not by much, slightly worse. They are a B tier army.
I have my reasoning, but somebody in the chat asks, Fabian asks, I don't see how they're worse than Ironjaws. So why would, if you had to explain why slaves are worse than Ironjaws right now, what would you say?
So Ironjaws have better speed. You can put demonic speed on 1 unit of knights. Ironjaws can move 3 units really fast in your face. The turn that Ironjaws goes off is when they pop Law, and that's when they're -2, -3 Ren across our army, which cuts through that, which is that nice special point that we were just talking about, the having -2 Ren, and a Roar from the Maw Crusher, which is critical in just chewing through that. And Ironjaws snowball very well. Slaves are slower, and they don't snowball as well. That's the problem.
Yeah, Ironjaws have a way to give themselves a path to victory that is much more consistent than Slaves. Slaves has to play, like we've been talking about, honest Warhammer, right? They're not doing, they have tricks, right? And it seems like, oh, well, Chosen can fight twice. Here's the thing. Chosen need to fight twice to do the amount of damage that they need to do, right? They're not doing, our Paladin levels of damage without that fight twice. That's the weird thing about Chosen. It's oh, these units get to fight twice and do all this crazy stuff. They need that to do crazy damage, right? They don't just do that.
Yeah. So Chase is asking. So follow-up question: Alpha pinning instead of Alpha strike is the way y'all are seeing Knights played. Yes, the way we're seeing Knights played is we actually aren't seeing that many competitively warriors with Nurgle Mark. What we're seeing is Varangard, 6 to 9 Varangard, and then a block of 10 Chaos Knights to just with the Nurgle eroding icon to just pin opponents in place with the long basing, and Varangards hit the flanks. And basically that's how you sometimes have to win with them, because Knights of the Empty Throne, I think that's the list that Ridge Hanna ran at LVO, and it's the fastest thing they've got. And that's a very important distinction, because you have to be fast to be able to achieve a strategy like that. Now, I don't know how important that strategy is going to be in this meta, because all the objectives are really close to your deployment. So you could run warriors, but ultimately the problem is they are running honest. They are playing honest Warhammer, and they are very prone to being outmaneuvered or out-tricked.
Their speed build, let's say the Knights of the Empty Throne build, right? Not the Host of the Everchosen, which I do genuinely believe is a trap. It's not a bad trap. It's not like one of the worst traps you could be in, but it is a trap build. Knights of the Empty Throne doubling down on all their speed isn't good enough because the huge size of the units you bring in that build get in the way of your own units and terrain. And if the enemy is deploying properly, you won't actually be able to charge with more than one unit. Like you'll be bogged down by the terrain in your own units. Maybe 2 units will get to charge, right? And
you also outrun your support a lot.
Yeah,
like this season is going to be about maintaining your support for multiple turns near your battle line units, so they can't be shot. And often that doesn't happen in Knights of the Empty Throne list.
For Vanguard, have a big problem that competitive players, let's say like really good players, are going to be able to take advantage of, and that's that they need a unit within 3 inches after they fight in order to use their fight twice ability. So if you see where the Vanguard deploy, you more or less know where they can be based on terrain and the other units on the table. You can just be like, oh, they're going to go this way if they want to charge turn 1. And if they're not charging turn 1, you don't have to care about them, right? They're not a threat. Like, that's the only reason they're a threat is because they can charge turn 1. So you just figure out where they're going to charge turn 1. And because they're going to be a 1-drop list, just by virtue of just having so few units, you will have more drops. You can be like, okay, here's a screen in the way of that unit, and there's nothing within 3 inches even after he finishes a pile in. I've created a choke point around terrain. There's no way for him to pile in within 3 inches of another model. So after he fights and kills the screen, that's it. Vanguard are now just an expensive Gorgrunta unit, and you just kill them. They do die to focus fire. Especially, this will happen all the time if they also bring that unit of 10 knights that's going to pin, trying to just tie down as much stuff as possible. Just don't put stuff within 3 inches of the front line. Like, it really is that simple against knights, because they're trying to pin you. Just don't fall into it. Just outmaneuver them. So that build's not going to be, I think, like, it's a threat because it's so easy to build that list and it's so fun to play it, and people are going to really enjoy it. So it's going to be present. You're going to have to deal with it all the time. But it's not like, it'll be meta, but it won't be like meta because it's strong. It's meta because it's popular, which is a very different thing. I think the competitive slaves list will be spamming Splintered Fang and Ravagers, but still also bringing that 10 block of Chaos Knights. And that build has a lot of significant weaknesses that a lot of other factions can take advantage of. So the big reason I would say they're worse than Iron Jaws, one thing we always talk about on this podcast is always assume your opponent can neutralize one of your threats, right? And if your only threat is a big block of Nurgle Knights on round 1, your opponent's going to neutralize that because their whole army is in range to neutralize it. Neutralize doesn't mean kill, it just means make it not effective. Put a chariot against one flank and then move the rest of your army away from it so that they just pile in towards the chariot for the rest of the game. And Knights won't kill a chariot, man. They just won't. Off the charge, they don't do any damage. They hit on 4s. It's pathetic. So you can neutralize that unit. And when and that's kind of how Slaves to Darkness plays. They throw in one unit at a time. They buff up all their knights. They send them in. By the time you're done with the knights, they've buffed up all their chosen. They're sending them in. That's how they want to play, and that's easy to deal with. Not trivial, but it's doable.
Iron Jaws is also a really easy roar army. Like, Maw Crusher is like one of the most, and once you roar them, it's one of the main weaknesses of Slaves. They don't have Astral Templars available to them. So.
Yeah, and compare that to Iron Jaws, who are not throwing one threat in your face. They're throwing 3 in your face, and they're all fighting with Smash and Bash. So the positioning requirements are totally different. They're also way more unpredictable because of the way Iron Jaws can teleport around and then move in the hero phase. You have to play a lot cagier. And because you're cagier, Smash and Bash gets more powerful. Iron Jaws, their movement shenanigans just allow them to take advantage of any weakness in their opponent's deployment. Like, you made one mistake, Iron Jaws players finds it and smashes right through it. Slave players can't do that.
Basically good at Iron Jaws is really good against honest Warhammer armies. That's just the truth of it. If you like straightforward Warhammer,
imagine Warhammer Fantasy, and then a big Iron Jaw just comes up and clubs it in the head, right? Like, they're not playing Warhammer Fantasy anymore. Slaves to Darkness are trying to play fantasy. We're over here teleporting around and doing crazy stuff. It's not going to work. That doesn't mean slaves are bad. Slaves are a fine army. They're a gatekeeper and they warp the meta.
Yeah, so like he said, so Ramon I think says alpha pinning sounds smart. Flies were like that. I think the problem with flies was they just projected a lot more wounds, wards, and disease points, and they still had summoning available to them to just cap everything else.
And decent volume of attacks.
And they were turning off commands, and they had just a really high volume of attacks. I think Iron Jaws don't have the movement across the whole army that way. Because the thing was that all the plus 5 Blight Lords moved 8 at the start of the game or whatever. I don't think they're doing that with all their knights. I think everyone has to play Honest Warhammer there.
It's the one unit of knights. The one unit.
Yeah,
of
it's
knights
the one unit of knights with Nurgle. They have to cast. They have to cast in 1 speed, which can be denied, right? If they're in range, because otherwise they'll have to do it from really far up the board. Yeah. I mean, you have ways to like. I'm saying like, there's a lot of ways you could like.
Yeah.
Roll a shit roll. You could, it has variants, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, that's slaves. To hear more about them, check out our review. It should be out in a couple weeks. Unfortunately, we had to break up the recording over 2 nights, but it'll be done in a couple weeks. And
I'm not saying it's a good army. Like Beater isn't bad. I just don't think it has like the finesse tools to like go up against the A-tier armies. I think like the A-tier armies are perfectly capable and well incapable of beating slaves armies.
Definitely, it's the matchups that like objectively they're not bad. It's just like the matchups are not favorable. Okay, we're going. Your turn to pick an army.
Well, I'll pick with what I like playing, Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Let's do that.
All right.
Ossiarch Bone Reapers is a B tier. No, actually, it's a low B. I think it's like below Beasts.
Very low B. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like below Slanesh even, I think.
Ooh, okay. You don't think
and
so?
The reason is
I think they get a little better to where they can be better than Slanesh.
Galley Vets.
Well, no.
Without
No. Okay. Okay, so it's not even bounty hunters. That's the problem. The problem with that army is it's not playing 3.0. It's just not. You're not even playing the same games as everyone else. You're not using any of the commands. Whoa, you're not using any of the realm commands. You're not using any of the all-out defense, all-out rally, whatever the crap people are doing these days. You don't realize it when you play this army. You really, really feel that. I think and now that Hunters of the Heartland is gone, it's been gone for a while. Mortec Guard are bad. Like we just talked about how a roar will absolutely ruin Slaves to Darkness with a Mock Russia on -3 run. It will absolutely kill Mortec Guard if you just roar them. And you can have a cheap monster to do it too.
What about like
the other issue?
Sorry, like the heavy infantry. Aren't they like?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So now we get to the good evening, General Kenobi, whatever, the big stalker guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're great. Don't get me wrong. They're wonderful. It's great that they're battle line. You can put them in collision veterans, and it's great. However, that makes the army incredibly elite. And while it's great that they can reroll save rolls, they can only do that in combat, which means shooting absolutely ruins them. If you have any amount of range projection, magic projection, it kills them. Those things in the army don't have any recursion. It's only the Mortec Guard and Cavalos Death Riders that have recursion.
I always forget
so
you can't rally in that army.
Yep. And once they're dead, they're dead. And the other thing is, how you ran that elite army of like 18 models was Expert Conquerors. You put all your stalkers in Expert Conquerors. That's gone. And that makes the army, I think Ossiarch Bone Reapers are going to take a huge hit from not having Expert Conquerors.
Do you think B tier is even appropriate then? It's starting to sound more like C.
Yeah, I would say like, let's just put them in high C. I think they are better than Gargants. I think Ossiarch can definitely beat Gargants. I just don't think they can beat like a techie army.
If the Mortec walls aren't durable enough and the stalkers aren't, well, like, they're super killy and they're great and they're cheap, but they're not enough bodies and there's just killier stuff and it's all melee, like that faction. Like, is there any potential with their magic and shooting?
Their magic is good. I'm not saying you can't pull off end victories against like B tier armies or even sometimes like an A tier army. It's just like you're not playing the game. You're not playing 3.0, and that really hurts you. And that'll hurt you in ways that you don't realize. Where it's like they'll do some stupid 3.0 command ability that you can't use, and you'll feel really bad about it.
So what you're saying is we should ban second edition books from match play.
Yeah, the fact that like they can't reroll charges. The only things that can reroll charges in the book are stalkers, and you have to declare that in the hero phase. That this guy, when it goes later into charge phase, will be able to reroll charges.
Oh, and then they redeploy away, and you're super sad.
Yeah, it's just like, ugh, bro, come on.
Rough.
Yeah,
okay.
that is kind of rough.
Okay.
They should have also like not. The thing is, this book is also designed kind of like Flesh Eater Courts, where it's like it's designed to spam command points, like or Relentless Discipline points. Like you want to be able to fight, then fight again. Fight when you die with Gristlegore, right? That's 2 CP on the same unit. You want to be able to do that in Ossiarch Bone Reapers. The 3.0 rules prevent it, so.
Okay. Fair enough, man. I trust your judgment on that army. I haven't played it before. At all. In fact, in this edition, I haven't played a single game against them in third. So
I've had a couple. It's been a little bit sad.
Yeah. James, take your pick.
Soulblight Gravelords.
Okay. I'm gonna say B.
Oh,
That's my guess
B.
here because
Yeah,
they
I
don't
think they're
have the
high B,
damage to
though.
kill armor like we're talking about. I think they're a little bit
Yeah.
worse than
I think their magic is weaker than the dedicated magic. Their melee is weaker. They have recursion, but their recursion is weaker than Gitz or Nighthaunt, I would say.
Yeah.
They always sort of won the game by like a weird one-trick pony thing. Like, I have a bunch of Direwolves and Expert Conquerors. I have Blood Knights that are unrendable, but they just don't have the rend and armor to cut through really good armor or tricky armies. So I think them, Iden and Deepkin are about the same level.
I think they're above Ideneth. Their magic is better, and their board.
Oh,
control is
that's
better.
true. Okay, yeah, sure.
Their magic is very good still. I think their magic is still A tier good.
I mean, it's at this point, it's like very small differences. I think I could safely put IDK Beast and like Soulblight at the same level and feel good about it. Like, whatever.
Okay.
I think they'll do.
They're just not great. They're not great though. Like B is probably right, lower end of B. I just don't know where exactly, but lower end of B sounds right.
I really like the 60 zombies. You get on an objective early with them, and even if opponents try to move, the classic strategy was always move 6.1 inches away so they can't pile into combat, but they just redeploy into range. You can't get within 9 inches of zombies. It's such a huge threat denial. They're so weak to shooting though. It's hilarious. I played a game against, I think it was a 40 zombie block. It wasn't even like a max 60 squad. But I just put Vanquishers on an objective. He charged in. I had 10 crossbows behind it. On my turn, when I shot, I killed like 10. He had to Inspiring Presence, so that burned his command points. He charged in. I killed like another 12. He activated another unit. My Vanquishers killed like another 10.
My issue with zombies is like now that magic and shooting have come into their own, once you shoot their heroes off, it's over.
How many people are going to take sharpshooters though?
Yeah. It'll be common enough, I think. Like I think like we'll take it, and then who else?
I don't know. Like I don't think they can beat cities, so I think they could beat Slaves of Darkness realistically. But then again, if you are bringing Splintered Fang and Chosen fighting, I think fighting twice is great into them because you just like go boom boom.
Yeah.
And you have and zombies are not doing damage; they're doing mortal wounds. So if you have rune saves, you're good. You're not taking that much damage, so you fight.
Zombies just get hit so hard by fast units. Like they're so pathetically slow and predictable. That you can outmaneuver them, hit them first.
I think that was caught everyone off guard back when I went to LVO last year, is because everyone was focused on elite armies, like monsters and like just low body count armies. They do really well in that now.
Aside
when
from
everyone
zombies,
is bringing bodies.
Aside from zombies, what is this army doing?
It's casting spells, turning things into wolves. It's taking Kastelai Dynasty and putting Blood Knights to a 2-up unrendable save. Yeah. But Blood Knights are like -1 rend 2 damage. Like, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah, they're not a threat. Just not that scary offensively.
Yeah, they're not doing anything like that. I would say it's like super spicy or I thought they were a good book when they came out because it looked like the first sort of 2.5 book rather than 3.0 book.
There is something against anti-horde now that I think about it. Legion of Blood has they have a built-in horror ghast. I don't know how the effect works, but they can make an additional D3 models run. You can stack that with horror ghast for 2 D3 models.
I think they have good magic. It's just not great. It's just like they have +1 to cast and a reroll for all casting. But is that good against like how much does that really matter? Like,
I mean, they're not S tier casting. They're still A tier casting though. They're still really good.
I think their
They have
stats,
good spells too.
their stats and movement are so poor that I'm considering C tier for them. If it was just up to me,
because B is so good really because they do have. So they still have Graveguard. Graveguard are still a good unit, right? Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of attacks that do mortal wounds, and they do have recursion. If they kill one of your units, they kind of have the Gist recursion where it comes back on a 4-up, and they can try every turn. They don't have a reroll for this, but a unit can come back. It's just.
They seem like bad gits. They just seem like bad gits to me now.
Yes,
for looking at the gits book.
That's still B tier.
That's basically but that's B tier. Like because if we're talking bad S, then that's 2 tiers down. Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's B tier for sure. No, they're really good.
It's B tier. But you're exactly right. They're bad kits.
They're bad kits, but it's still.
Yeah, Ramon Silva saying they still have too many bodies to be C tier. I can agree with that. I think that's enough to keep them in B.
Yeah. They're really good.
All right.
Yeah, they can definitely play the objective game better than Slaanesh and OBR, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Dan, you're up. And I think we should
I
save
don't like any of the
Stormcast for
remaining
last, right?
armies, but
What do you mean you
I was
don't
about
like
to say-
Seraphon? What's wrong with you?
Take Sylvaneth and be like, John Redka, your army was ass. Okay.
well then, anyway, I think I will go with. I think I'll go with the Lumineth here, actually. If
All
we're
right.
not, if
Ooh,
I'm not
okay.
allowed to pick Stormcast, I think we'll go with Lumineth then.
D, right? Obviously.
And I think Lumineth are where to put them because this tier is super like stacked.
Hey.
Yeah, no, I'm putting them. No, yeah. Sorry, A tier, but I'm still trying to like where to put them because this tier is so stacked. It's like
So now that everyone's realized our review was right and Helon is where the power is out,
Nailed it.
so
I
vindicated.
think they're better than Fire Slayers, worse than Skaven.
The Stormkeep has been vindicated because everyone was like, "No, man, Zytric and Metrica," and we're like, "Nah, bro, Helon."
But dude,
You play
Banner
Helon.
Blades. Think about how great that unit is.
Yeah. I don't know who said that. I was like, what, Banner Blades? But anyway, I think they have to go. I think they are above DOK.
No,
but
I think they're
maybe
better
lower
than Fire
than-
Slayers, worse than Skaven. I think that's where they belong.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't think they're worse than Skaven personally.
I would
think they have some
put
Skaven
really
have a
effective
lot of
cards.
tools.
Bruh, oh, come on, let's not argue about these fine points. I think it's really close there. I think it's fine. if
It's
you just
definitely
put it
close.
there.
I do think Skaven can handle more armies than Lumineth can, to be honest. Because Skaven just have
Yes.
so many packages.
Like a Lumineth list probably can't handle a Gits list very well. Like maybe some tech list build can if it goes first, but
Yeah.
it doesn't do well with a lot of things pinning you in place because they're efficient damage, but they're low damage. And Helon definitely pumps that up, which means we finally might see like 15 wind charges on the table. Because my god,
They're
you
so
need
good
that
in a
ball of
Night
fire.
Hunt.
I think
It'll
Lumineth,
be so funny to see him in a Night Hunt.
I think Lumineth are
Yeah.
top of S. If we agree that ogres are currently the top of S, I think Lumineth are better than ogres.
Well, we did say ogre.
Wait,
What do you mean? Oh, you mean
Top of
A?
A. Top of A. Sorry.
A.
Not S. My
Yeah.
bad. Not S. Sorry.
No,
top
I
of
think
A.
I think
Top of A.
ogres can deal with more things than Lumineth can.
I think so,
ogres
too.
can deal with more. Yeah, they can deal with more wounds. Skaven can deal with more wounds. The thing is, like Lumineth deals definitely the best with elite stuff, and they can't deal with the wounds as well as those two armies.
Wind Chargers. And
Dude,
Blade
it's
Lords.
just no. It's not going to be take all comers enough.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it's like gonna be.
that's
My
the trick
problem
with
is
Lumineth.
it's one unit.
Okay, you take
Yeah.
wind chargers, and then what are you doing to slaves?
Okay. My thing with Lumineth is as soon as people figure out how to make a good non-techless list that has a squad of 10 Blade Lords, a squad of 10 Wind Chargers, the right amount of Sentinels, Ballistas, Wardens, and Heroes, that's going to be the list to beat for a lot of armies. I don't know if the techless list is going to be as good as that.
I feel like we said that every season, and techless list is what it
Yeah,
all
still
ends up
good.
evolving to.
Too
But
good.
however, no, I will say, it might just be because people are too scared to try anything else, or just like doesn't like we saw like the non-Marathi list actually do quite well in GTs. It's just that maybe nobody tries the Helon non-tech list.
Look, I'm telling you, I was right about that. I was right about Night Haunt. I do think it's better. I think it's better than all the AT armies we have here.
I
I don't know. I don't think they can deal with the whole board as well as.
I just think they're so utterly reliant on their spells.
Yeah.
Like overwhelming heat, like total eclipse, like empower,
Siege
like
doesn't
speed
give a
of
crap.
wish. Like yeah, like
Even we do well enough with an Incanter.
Yeah, the thing is like, and then Techless just guarantees that those spells happen at a cast of 10.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difference because he does that every turn. Plus, actually, Dan, I'll actually say this: Techless can actually beat Siege,
Yes.
Interesting.
which is weird because I think Lumineth are an A tier army. They are not an S tier army, but they actually beat the highest S tier right now on this list pretty easily.
Yeah, I think they have good matchups into all three of the S tier armies.
Yeah. It's just that they. I think top of A makes sense in that perspective because think of it this way, Dan. All of Zinch's magic is offensive magic, right? I'd say 90% of it, and then all you have is a 4 of ignore around your whole army, doing mortal wounds to them as that goes off. You have unlimited unbinds with Techless, so if they want to summon by casting spells off of 10 different units, only like 3 or 4 of those are going off with like Kairos or something. And they have things like Total Eclipse to really shut off command points. And, like we said, Wind Chargers and Sentinels, when they get close, they have volume fire.
I think there's potential here to have a Helon build that adequately utilizes the Deep Thinkers, like 3 Deep Thinkers, to either total Eclipse or Hish each turn, depending on what you need, and and get past it without having to take Techless. And I think once we figure out the details with that, like I think that's going to be the good list. Techless is
my
fine,
only issue is, but outside of Helon Sentinels within 6, Sentinels can no longer shoot your heroes off the board. And that sort of weakens them in this meta a little bit.
Yeah, that's gonna take them out a lot. They can't take sharpshooters, and I think, like Andrew's saying in the chat, tier rankings aren't 1-to-1 in the sense, like, I don't think it's. I think it's great that Lumineth can have great matchups into the top 3, but I still think they don't deal with the rest of the board.
I think of it as a numbers issue. Like, I think of it as a numbers issue. Like, sure, they can beat the top 3 armies, but what happens if they face one of these other 6 A-tier armies?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that they are under Skaven and Ogres, because Skaven and Ogres have the best all-arounders, all-around all-comers.
Well, Lumineth just rip apart Doc and Fire Slayers.
Yes, and they can Nurgle. Actually rip apart Skaven too.
And Nurgle and Ironjaw's bounce off.
Well, Lumineth,
actually, Dan, hold on. Do you think it's a good matchup into Ogres? Mm-hmm. Sorry, do you not think it's a good matchup into Ogres? Because all the Iron Blasters hit on 4s, and Lumineth will make them
because you're not shooting heroes or monsters. They'll be on 5s. Yep.
They'll be on 5s.
That's... Yeah, I mean, like, that's fair. That's a little
and
better.
You can shoot them off. Artillery can easily be shot off by Lumineth. Like, that's not a problem.
I'm telling you guys, Lumineth have the tools to beat every army we put in SNA. Where Lumineth will struggle, ironically, is the big pinning stuff. That's going to be a
think, like, it takes so many different builds of Lumineth to do that, though. Like, I think you really do have to
I mean, okay, think of the standard, like, 30-40 Sentinel build.
Like, yeah, but then, like, how are you fitting all of these Wind Chargers and Sentinels and, Castiers?
Techless. You probably drop Techless. I mean, I saw the list with like 10 Wind Charges and 30 Sentinels.
It's taking like 2 minutes.
We're talking about how like Techless is like their best matchup into Tzeentch. Like that's the thing is like there's so many different and yes, Ogres will just shoot Techless down to death, but I
mean, not necessarily because Techless will come with a 5-up ward because you will always outdrop Ogres with their artillery.
I don't know. I think Lumineth has the potential to beat all these armies, but I think that all the army builds are different. There's at least 2 to 3 army builds.
Wait, people will figure out the right Helon build that will be the build to beat.
I'm just not seeing it yet, and we're seeing the experimentation. I just
everyone's
don't.
Just stuck with Techless. They got to get rid of that.
We'll just put them in A. Stick them in A. I think this will go around in circles.
So we'll say like there's a top of A, which is like Ogre, Skaven, and Lumineth. There's a middle A, which is like Fire Slayer, Doc, and then there's bottom A, which is Nurgle, Ironjaws.
So far, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. My turn. Seraphon. The point changes hurt.
We saw that coming.
They are not S tier anymore.
No.
But they might be S tier because skinks are so busted. They always surprise you. It's either Fangs of Sotek doing stupid things or Dracothian's Tail doing stupid things. There's always stupid things happening with Seraphon.
If you can't shoot that Poison Priest off or get rid of it,
yep.
Your army's going to have a bad time.
Real bad time.
What are the armies here that can't shoot that little thing off? I think everything after like Fire Slayers can't.
Yeah.
So like I think they're probably A tier.
Coalesced is still good. The problem is there's going to be a lot more damage 1 stuff in the game now than there was before. So I think it's going to be Starborn, and it's probably going to be Fangs of Sotek, just because shooting it, like Unleash Hell and then a 4-up to run away is dope. And then you can unleash
they're higher than Lumineth. Do you think they're higher than Lumineth?
I just kind of put them there temporarily. We can discuss it. Sure. I think they're a top of A type, like top or mid, somewhere like that.
They are top, but I think they are closer to Skaven.
No, they're I think they're under Skaven even.
They're top of A, and that's fine. That's enough for me.
Sure.
Always got some jank with that army, and I can't wait for the new book.
Well, let's hope it's a good one, because let's hope they don't pay too.
It's not Slaanesh, please. It's not Slaanesh.
Yeah, I think Artorias is right in the chat though. Like Seraphon doesn't have as much.
Yeah, I think Artorias. Oh damn, I think I know him from the Necron chat too.
He's in there. He's a local of mine. Actually,
the Seraphon thing is because it was bounty hunters. Bounty hunters was keeping skinks down. Skinks, horrors, that kind of unit. They're all being oppressed by bounty hunters. Bounty hunters is gone. Skinks are back. You have to commit serious resources to kill skink.
Poison is still super good. Salamanders are still good. Like what was good is still good. It's
Yep.
just Bounty Hunters is gone, and that's just gonna decimate some armies that can't deal with the Star Priest quickly enough, and that's it.
Curse, poison, so hit and wound rolls of 6 are all dealing mortals.
Mhm.
It's silly. It's a silly army.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can realistically drop below A. They also have some of the best tools against
No,
GCs, which is you drop a comet on them every turn, and that's it.
Okay.
James.
No, James just went. I
Oh.
went.
Okay.
Oh, it's
And
me
did.
again?
Yeah, it's back to McGonk.
Yeah.
Oh.
KO or
Are we
Sylvaneth?
saving Stormcast or last? Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. I was gonna pick
Yeah.
Stormcaster.
Oh,
Later, 'cause I
let's.
think that's a good time.
I'll pick KO, and this will be short and sweet. I think they're in C tier.
Okay, bottom or top?
Yep.
They are
Uh,
below
top, I
Corn, in my opinion. No,
Really?
they're absolutely correct. Oh yeah, who's taking the objective in a KO army? Please tell me.
Okay, that's fair.
They literally cannot play the objective game against anyone realistically.
Not that well.
Try and
Objectives
shoot
aren't
Karn off,
spread
Karn
out
will
as
just
they
summon
used to
more.
be.
Their
Yeah.
champions have to
Everything's
get
in the
boats.
center. Everything's in
Okay.
the center.
That's
They
fair.
go to the center, they die. That's it.
Yeah.
Their champions have
I-
to be in boats, and the boats specifically say you don't count towards objective, right? That was a
If the
recent
battle
thing.
Yep.
plans.
They
Looks
just
like-
lost the ability
yeah.
to fly
Sorry.
out of retreating.
I should
'cause They
clarify.
used to take hits. and fly
Units
high.
units inside boats don't count towards objectives, right?
Right.
That's
Boat
a
counts
recent
as
thing.
2. That's it. Boat
Yeah.
counts as 2.
So your champions cannot be contesting objectives. You can't score battle tactics.
Yep.
Mhm.
And once you get engaged, you cannot fly high. They
Yeah.
execute that. So
It's rough. Maybe
they'd be, honestly, like they'd be D tier. Like the way they win is by killing things, and they have a reasonable chance of like actually deleting Flesh Eater Courts just by shooting and like a purple sun in their face or something. Which is the only reason they're probably not in D tier.
I
But
don't
they're
think
at the
they kill
bottom of
armor.
the-
They're going to struggle with armor because
Yeah.
they don't have super high rend.
Nope.
They can have high volume if they pivot into that, but that list is not.
Yeah, but everything hits on 4s in that army. Like who cares?
Yeah.
Well,
Like half
high
of the
enough
things hit on
volume.
4s.
4s don't matter if you're high enough volume, but I don't think they capture objectives while having.
Artorias, what does KO list even look like? I think it's you take like a boat or two and then you take a Kron Spine. As bad as that sounds.
Yeah.
You gotta take a Kron Spine because it has a really low chance of affecting your army because everything's in like a boat that can like teleport around. And you just send the Kron Spine in people's face and hope that distracts them long enough for you to shoot them down.
Caradron are the neutral army that sometimes plays Caradron, similar to Cities of Sigmar, which play Tempest Die and sometimes play Caradron, but you have less useful abilities.
Actually, no, you take Caradron in Cities of Sigmar because then they're on 3s and 2s, which
Yep.
is excellent. Yeah.
Tempest Die.
All right, Sylvaneth.
Default. Yeah.
B. I don't think
Yeah,
they're
I think
B.
B. Yep.
I
B,
think they're-
unfortunately.
I think they are around the same as Slaves. I think they
Yeah.
just rely on like -3 Rend 2 damage from Karnat sides, and that's their only thing they have going for them.
Yeah.
I think Ren 3 is very, very good in an armor meta. And I'm not saying we're in an armor
Yeah.
meta, but if you fight against a lot of armor, the Ren 3 is very good. However, their max damage is not. So
Yep.
if you take, and you have to bring a reinforced unit of sides because just 3 is not enough. And if you're bringing 6 sides, you just lose to hordes because Kurnoth Hunters
Yep.
don't do volume. Well, the swords might, but I mean like the bow guys don't do volume. The glade guys
I
don't
think
do
the
volume.
biggest,
Seekers
I think
don't
the
do
biggest
volume.
problem with the biggest problem with Strike and Fade is you are fading away and you are not taking objectives.
Yes.
It is shooting. That's how you play against Sylvaneth. It's just really good shooting.
Yep.
And Sylvaneth just don't have the gas. It's ironic because they have some like decent recursion, but it's not like
It's
as
so
usable.
weird. Yeah,
It's,
it's
like,
really
not
great
as-
into elite armies. It's really good
Yeah,
into like
it's-
us.
exactly.
But it's not good against like everything else.
everything else just doesn't give a crap. Like
They,
you're just
Yeah.
not recurring enough.
Any army that summons, any army that revives units like Ravagers, any army that revives models like Nighthaunt, just outlasts you. You can't kill them fast enough with Sylvaneth.
Yeah. So I've seen Sylvan players struggle into Gargants. Like they can't kill Gargants fast enough sometimes.
Yeah, that's what.
Like because you can.
Yeah, if you whiff, you're done.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like,
it's
you're done.
Yeah.
it's that meme I made with the Grand Hammer, like the Invincible meme. It's like the planes are flying by and it says like Kurnoths with sights, and then it cuts to an Invincible and his dad. I forget the character's name, but it's like look at and it's just like
Mark
Grand Hammer. It's
Hamill,
like
man.
look at what they have to do to mimic a fraction of our power. It's like Kurnoth Hunters are low damage. 2 damage per attack sucks. 6 damage per model. It's not enough.
Yeah,
And
Ren 3
you know
is
how
great.
Sylvan player loses? They fail that 2-up on their Swites Form Hive, and then
Yeah.
they just.
Oh, that's the other thing. Oh my gosh, that's so tilting, man.
That army is 2+, 2+ in prey, There's so many effects that require 2+ that don't need to require that.
Lady of Vines would be so good if she just brought down Dryads.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap.
Okay, well that's an interesting discussion. Dryads, Spite Revenants. Everybody always says this is the season for Spite Revenants. Is it the season for Spite Revenants?
It's not. It's not enough gas.
It's not. The problem isn't that. The problem is also like, what is the output then? Like Dryads are great, -1 to hit and -1 to
Spite Revenants do a lot of output, and it's decent mortals too.
But it's like that. Sylvaneth is like an elite army that cosplays as a horde army sometimes, or like an infantry army. But they ultimately still want to do a lot of like ambush-based tactics, and it's like you just don't have the rend and output to like deal with things like that. And if something shuts off your magic, like if you have like a Thankful or like a Techless or like anything that can ignore magic and your Mortal Wound bombs from your Wildwoods, you're screwed. Like you're screwed. Like you don't have.
You know who's really good at magic? Skaven, Lumineth, Tzeentch.
Yeah,
even
Seraphon.
now.
You know who's good at anti-magic? Stormcast.
Yeah, and anytime like Sylvaneth pop their head out from the woods, ogres will just shoot them down. Seraphon literally don't care. It's like, oh, you charged me? Here's Fangs of Sotek. Have 1 billion mortal wounds in the face. Like, it's like, okay.
You strike and fade. No, I strike and fade.
But you know,
I strike and fade. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, and then you can't leave.
You can't because you haven't fought. Because you haven't fought. Yeah, you're stuck. You're stuck there.
Yeah.
And then you get shot again, and then you get Oh man, that's hilarious.
I'm gonna take a sec for chat here. I think you should split the top 5 from talking about A tier and push it down. So like top 5 in tier A or top 5, and then the rest get pushed down. The criteria for our tiers are like S tier is you're consistently going 5-0 if you're a good player. You have advantageous matchups. It's like you can call it over.
You're not really bad against anything in the meta. You can handle most things in the meta just fine.
Yeah, A tier is like you're consistently 4-1 if you know what you're doing, and you have a good shot at going 5-0 with the right matchups. Because 5-0 should be luck, right? There's a lot of luck dependent on that. B tier then is like you're consistently 3-2, and then you have a chance at 4-1, and even 5-0. That's not within that's definitely within reach. C tier is like you're gonna really have if you go 5-0, you're gonna be like headlining YouTube videos, be like, "Whoa,
you're
look at
god.
this, look at this Blades of Corn list that went 5-0, right?" It's like a big surprise to everyone. And then D tier is like, "Hey, you showed up, good job."
Yeah. Congrats to you for sticking to your army and not bandwagoning onto another army.
I still think FAC is better than D tier, but separate discussion.
Let's see here. Sylvaneth are going to miss bounty hunters more than a lot of armies. Yes, Sylvaneth are a low damage army. They needed bounty hunters more than a lot of people think they did. Yeah.
I just think of like beetles, and it's like people are like, "Oh, well, beetles are finally good or whatever," but nah, like I don't even know, man. Beetles are just like okay. That's the thing. They at the end of the day, Sylvaneth again have to play, despite their strike and fade nonsense, have to play honest Warhammer. They cannot charge 2 units into you because only 1 can strike and fade away, which means whatever stays behind is going to die the next turn.
Yeah.
And they don't have recursion for those units at all.
Yeah, and this is another problem is that Sylvaneth casting seems good, but it's like there's 2 kinds of casting in Age of Sigmar. There's I have no bonuses and I don't care if I get my spells off, and then there's I have very good bonuses and I need to get them off. And most armies are in that first camp, and then the other armies in the second camp are way better at casting than Sylvaneth, right?
Andrew, you're right. Yeah. Andrew Dussault is asking, do IDK hard counter Sylvaneth? No, they don't, because you run to their trees and you're going to encounter 2-up saves and cover. That's the problem. Because Sylvaneth basically is like a shooting melee army where it like strikes and fades. IDK don't have magic. Okay, let's just put it out there. IDK cannot deny magic reasonably. So Sylvaneth will get their stuff off. They'll hit you. They'll strike and fade away. And when it's your turn to like go balls to the wall with run and charge, high tide, whatever have you, you'll be hitting them with -2 rend. Except they'll be on like a 3-up save with like +3 to their armor or like +2, and you're not getting through that. And once you waste that turn, Sylvaneth will absolutely waste IDK with -2, -3 rend. Yeah. Like I had a Sylvaneth player from my city, John Lindsay. He went 4-1 at LVO, and he basically beat 2 IDK lists back to back. One was Eels, like cavalry iron rack based, and one was I think Morphan, like infantry based. It just absolutely mulched them. Not a problem.
Might be time for Ideneth to ally in a Knight Incantor.
Yeah.
They've done it before.
Already on it.
All you need is Mystic Shield every turn on Thralls, so might as well have a guaranteed unbind.
Yep.
Okay. Stormcast Eternals, the army we are most familiar with and I think most qualified to discuss. Not that we are the most qualified,
let's do this. Let's do this.
For us, we're most qualified.
Let's not, before any discussions, put an exact position where you would put Stormcast Eternals in a row, and then we start the discussions. Yeah, you first,
Oh, like
Paul.
each of us go in a row. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, each of us. So Paul first.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah.
Exact position. Like I want like between who and who.
Well,
Okay.
the stream
It's fine
has
if it
me at
doesn't match
first,
up
you
exactly.
know,
It's
we'll
fine
just-
if it doesn't match up exactly. I just want it for like hilarity. Just
Yeah. It'll be fun.
I think it's top of A.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so in front of ogres then, to the left of ogres.
It's definitely one of these top 5 in A. I can't quantify exact. I think it's better than Lumineth. I think we have the tools to deal with stuff better than Lumineth deals with some things, and we can deal with a lot of these armies. Because like I can think through these matchups, and
No, discussion. No.
Okay.
Discussion comes later.
Yeah,
All right,
discussion
so,
later. Yep.
Sure.
So okay, so we'll say you placed it to the left of ogres. Danny,
All right.
you go.
Okay, I'll go. I will put them at just above Dock, but under Fire Slayers.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yep.
James, go.
Between cities and slaves.
Oof.
Oof. That's a spicy opinion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Well. Oh wait, no, he's the last one, right? Oh no, Morgonk, you have to.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go in between Skaven and Lumineth, actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Ooh. Interesting. Do we want to go in the same order and just like rattle it off?
Yeah.
real quick?
Paul,
Okay.
Give us your
Uninterrupted, just go.
Yeah.
We have big blocks of big armor. We have a 5-up ward on top of it. We have a dispel scroll once per game. We have screens that we can revive and reposition as needed. We have powerful shooting, both accurate long range anti-hero sharpshooting, anti-monster sharpshooting, high volume shooting, and we can fit some combination of 2 or 3 threats in our list, while also playing objectives properly. I think the short, condensed battle plans are super favorable to us because we've never been the high speed army. We've always been the mobility, medium mobility army, let's call it. We're not like high mobility like Sylvaneth. And I think the battle plans really favor this. If we want to go high drops, we are greatly rewarded because we can play first or second. A lot of armies can't do that, right? Stormcast have a very unique position being able to play first or second, no matter the battle plan, depending on how you build your list. And the way I build my list tends to be that. I like a defensive style. I really like this season, and I think it's playing into all of our strengths. And looking at the matchups, I think we're well positioned to do quite well.
Okay. Danny, your explanation for why you put it there?
I put it there.
So sorry, you were
Positioning-wise?
between Dock and
I think it was
Fire Slayers, right?
above Dock, below Fire Slayers.
Yeah, above Dock, below Fire Slayers. I literally put it there because that was the midpoint between above Ogres and above Ideneth. To the left of Ogres and to the left of Ideneth. Reason being that to the left of Ogres is where I think our best builds go. With our, like with decent players, even with like a decent player, I think it's still better than Ogres with our best builds. And then our okay builds, like not like taking a Dominion box and just slapping it on the table builds, but like our, like someone who's done like a little bit into it and such goes above Ideneth. And I put it here because I think it best represents where we sit in the total meta, as far as the competitive goes, right? Because I'm not really talking like, again, slapping a Dominion box onto the battlefield. I'm talking, people that go to tournaments. I think are gonna. This is where we're gonna sit. I think we have the tools to take most of the armies on, but not all of them. It just depends. I think our best lists are going to be the ones that take multiple answers, that can answer high save stack and then high like volume, and not necessarily. I don't think our volume is the best on most of our units. Pretty much it's fulminators that can take care of like high volume, but I don't think we have to be high volume. I don't think we have to have the most damage in the game to win because we can save stack so well. As a dragon player, I'm all about the grind, and I think that we can easily grind out wins like that, especially with the way the battlefields are set up. Crossbows are going to be enough. I think that paladins are going to be a lot better. Retributors are going to be better. I think prots are better than people are going to realize how good prots are. Like the reason why we put them A tier, because they don't have to go as far. And we still have, combos to give them bonus to charge and such. But also, it's just like once they get to that midpoint of the field, they're not leaving. So there's a lot of good stuff there. We have good answers. It's gonna be some variation of like Gardas and a block of like Falms, Protectors, Dragons, something, right? Karazai.
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, so you're saying we can project toughness and grind pretty well. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My rank, James. Actually, I want to hear James. Like, why'd you put them below slaves?
I didn't put them below slaves. I put them above slaves.
Oh, sorry.
He did,
my
yeah,
bad,
above slaves,
between
below
cities and
cities.
slaves. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
So maybe 1% of this is just off the fact that I got burned last season by playing Croncast the whole season and just not
Sure.
doing well. I think that Stormcast is still going to be an army that the average player goes 3-2 with consistently.
Oh, I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
That's
It
a
is-
perfectly valid.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
perfectly
It
valid.
is. It is a finesse army at the end of the day. But my big thing here with our tier list is just the positioning of Cities of Sigmar. While yes, I think that we can beat all the armies we've listed in B tier, and we can beat all the armies that we've listed in A tier, I just think we still have the curse of our units are going to sort of behave better in coalition in cities, I think.
I think that's
That's
true.
valid.
I think our units are better in cities.
I'm gonna push back
How-
against that point in particular because Gardas is so strong that you want to play Stormcast. Gardas, Scions, and Translocation. Those are our allegiance abilities, and they're good enough that I'd rather play Stormcast than cities.
I had a fun discussion with Cody Saltz about that because he was like, "Dude, why not just put all these units in Tempest style?" I'm like, "No, actually, no.
Yeah,
I actually do want my ward, and I do want my my buffs like from my spells. Like I actually like Celestial Blades a lot. I like what we can bring. Like bringing the cities units. You're like, well, the cities units aren't that bad. I'm like, I actually want like my Castellan. I want to be able to bring everything that I can bring.
So,
Yeah, I think the problem is cities just faces the matchups that it's bad in. It's really bad in.
yeah.
You know, if you face like a army that can project range farther than you, it can hide from the board.
I
Or,
think
I don't know.
cities just loses to Tzeentch. I don't see how that matchup goes in their favor.
Oh, it depends. You can actually outshoot them, but the thing is, they'll just put so many spawn in your face and just tie you down
what I'm
again
saying,
and again
yeah.
and again. You're just not going to move anywhere. That's the problem.
Yeah.
However, I mean, yeah, I mean, so like I like, yeah, so I like everyone's picks. I place them, I would say, in between Skaven and Lumineth, is because I think so. The way I see Stormcast is a high A, like Paul said. I think the Annihilators have taken a hit, and I've been playing them for a year, which is sad. But they can project power to below whoever's in A with them, or anyone who's higher in A with them. And I think it puts them firmly in the middle of like top tier A, in my opinion. We're kind of like Skaven. We have like the tools of Skaven. We have the weird sort of eliteness, like hard-hitting hittingness of ogres, but it's like a midway point. My only issue is, as more and more enhancements come out, the weakness of Stormcast really starts to be felt, especially in our really bad support heroes, or actually, I should say, really highly costed support heroes. And that'll keep us from ever really being like good 5-0 like we used to be. I think with a bit of luck, you can do 5-0. I think with skill, you can be 4-1, but like then otherwise, I would agree with what James said. We're firmly 3-2 army. That can go 4-1.
I actually think that it's not that we're falling behind in the enhancements, like you're saying. I think it's that our heroes are overcosted.
Yes.
Like I think it's literally a points issue. Like our hammers are properly costed.
It's a both. It's a both. So it's like well, it's like it's like this, right? If the abilities that our heroes had, like, so every hero when it gets to like 150 points has like a primary ability and a secondary ability. Just in terms of general design, obviously heroes change all the time. When those both are good and you actually want to take that 150 points cost, when it feels good taking that second ability, it matters in the game. Like a good enhancement matters in the game. The problem is we're still a War Scroll army that's playing with Translocate. We're playing with raw stats.
So like hear me out. We had shitty enhancements and crappy stuff that's comparatively like to everything else, even when other stuff was 2.0 books. Like stuff got better, but it didn't get so much better that it's like legit. I'll
let you finish, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do think that we still have a lot of great tools. Does it suck? Yes, it does suck, and we're definitely like feeling the effects of being the first tome in 3.0. Like it's clear to see it's not even close. However, I do think that with some points changes to our heroes, because our hammers are properly costed, right? Like you can't be bringing down dragons to 265 or whatever the heck they were when the book came out. Like that, I agree. That's not okay.
Draconis could go down. The Castellan.
That's a hero.
Yeah.
Right. I think our
hero,
heroes are exactly what's overcosted in the army, and it's just our just the heroes that's there. As far as like an overall balance wise, do I think that our internal balance sucks? Absolutely, our internal balance is
Whoa, hold on.
in
No, it doesn't. It's
It doesn't.
good.
It doesn't.
We have really good internal balance.
Okay.
We have good
Okay, yeah,
internal
that's right. I
balance.
mean, we can
It's
build a whole
just-
bunch of stuff, but our hero internal balance is what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
Yes,
That's what I was trying to get at.
Our
is
hero
that our-
roster is absolute ass, and
Is-
unfortunately, sometimes
yes.
like that's what carries a lot of power.
Yes,
And what I
that's
mean
what I
is
was-
like when as more and more 2.0s get updated to 3.0 and everyone's base stats improve, that's when it becomes a more of a how many tricks can I do contest.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, I think even without our enhancements being better, because like the way you're framing it is that our enhancements are the exact issue. I think it's just the points, and that if we're able to,
I mean, I'm not saying you
take
can't fix
the
it with
heroes
points.
we
I'm
need.
saying our enhancement will always be an issue. I'm saying
Yeah.
you can fix this with points. I'm saying like we said,
Mhm.
every hero that is not already 120 points, and every hero that isn't named Gardas Seal Soul needs to drop. If you're
Yeah.
below, if you're between 120 and 170, you need to drop 10 or 20. If
Yeah.
you're 170 or
more.
higher, you need if you're 120 or higher, you need to drop like 20 or 30 points.
I think you guys are both right, but I think you're both kind of diagnosing the symptom here and not the root cause. And the root cause is that Stormcast feels like it's playing 200 points down because our heroes
Yes.
are so expensive. It's like
Yeah.
And that's what the problem is. It's not that and if we had 200 points, we wouldn't bring more damage, right? Like
No,
we
no.
would bring more
heroes.
screens, we would bring more heroes, we would bring more
Mhm.
tactical
Endless
units.
spells. Sometimes all I want in my
Endless
list is an
spells.
additional Aether Wing and an additional Aether Wing and maybe like I don't know like a Vanquisher or
Yes.
something. It's not even anything like too powerful, but it would be the difference between like that sweet spot
Yeah.
that I want.
So
being able to screen out Iron Jaws or not.
Our heroes are overcosted for what they do, and that's Dan's
Mhm.
point. And they're overcosted because they don't have a lot on their war scrolls. Like if they had more stuff going on, they wouldn't be overcosted.
Well, yeah, because we'd be paying for our price. Yeah.
And if they had more stuff going on, there'd also be better internal balance because it's like, well, we can take this hero for this reason, but also for this reason. Like if there was
Yeah.
two different reasons to take a hero,
Yeah.
you could have, with the amount of heroes we have, you'd have a lot more variety and a lot more stuff going on. But because it's like, well, we need the Lord Relictor because translocation's good, and he's the best one at using it. Therefore, he's almost an auto pick. We need a 5-up board because we have low wounds in this army. Therefore,
Mhm.
Gardas is an auto pick. We need the Lord Castellan because a guaranteed +1 save is necessary to counter all the Rend 1 and Rend 2 in this game. And Rend 3 in some cases too. So, seems like an auto pick. But if these heroes had additional abilities, it's like, well, I could take this guy to do this, but I could also take him to do a different thing, and that opens up the door. So it's a combination of these things, and the end result is that Stormcast just feel like we're playing 10% down.
Yeah,
like we're playing.
It's like I said, our heroes just don't have secondary abilities. We pay 150 points for it to do like one thing. And to give you a quick example of what I mean, most heroes now in that 140 to 160, sometimes even lower actually, they are, like I said, they have a primary ability and a secondary ability. I'll give you the simplest two examples that I can think of. A Hag Queen does a prayer on a 2-up and will also put a Hag Brew on something. A Tidecaster in an Ignite army will give you 2 rituals and is a spellcaster at the same time. A Knight Incanter is, in my opinion, our best hero. A Void Storm Scroll and a spellcaster, that's the kind of hero I want.
Perfect price too.
and
The
it's
right
a price. It's the only price hero.
It is the perfect example of a well-designed scroll and a well-pointed scroll.
Yep.
But when you look at the Arcanum, the Lord Arcanum for 140, it's like, what is this guy doing? He's a 1 caster for 140. Cycle of the Storm is absolute ass. It's not even worth it. And what is the point of this hero? Yeah, a Lord Relictor is great. It's translocate. Our army likes translocate. It's great. Why is it 150 if all it's doing is that 2-up prayer?
Yeah, and that's keeping us from being S tier. If we were able to have another 100 points, 150 points on the table, I think we could actually be an S tier army.
I don't think it's.
And I'm saying potential. Our potential could be that we could be one of the strongest armies.
And it's not even like we said. It wouldn't add power. It would just add that slight sweet spot we need for a utility unit or a screen.
Yeah,
that's all we need.
So here's where I'm at though. Like just to like put that in perspective. Like I don't think that the goal should be to put like Stormcast in S tier, for example.
No.
And I don't think that that's what that would do. Actually, even if we like had good points, I think that's what would put us at the top of A tier rather than being where. That's why I said like we're in the middle. Is I think, and here's the thing, I don't think that armies should honestly be in the S tier by our criteria, if that makes sense. I don't think armies should be extremely good at
everything should be A tier. Yeah, I think ideally
exactly.
everything should be A.
Well, yeah,
and I think
that's why I think that we're in the middle of A instead of being at the top of A. Because if we fix everything, we would be the top of A.
And I think like It's. I mean, we are a Stormcast focused channel, so no kidding. Like we want Stormcast buffs. Like, oh,
Yeah.
surprise! But it's like what I'm saying is like when you open up that utility slots by reducing all the heroes, the utility slot also doesn't just mean like an extra screen of Vanquishers or Aether Wings. It can also mean Vigilors.
Yeah,
If Vigilors were 150
it-
and I had the
Mhm.
utility slot to take Vigilors, I would take them.
we are
If
so
I had
concerned about efficiency and impact because our
Yeah.
points are so tight, because our heroes, partly because our heroes are so expensive.
Right.
But if we had, like, we don't need more damage than, let's say, 6 long strikes, 4 fulminators, and like some Draculines on the side. That's the peak damage. You won't need more than that in a list. So if
Yep.
you were to bring more damage, it would actually be to your detriment because it's inefficient.
Mhm.
You could
But
bring
a Prosecutor, a Vigilor,
units, yeah.
a Gryph-hound, an Aetherwing. There you go. I want to be able to take those units without feeling like I'm handicapping myself in the damage department or efficiency department.
And I don't think, even if these changes were made, I don't think it would drastically improve our win rate because, like James is saying, the average Stormcast player is still probably going to go 3-2, right? Because this is weirdly a finesse army. It doesn't look like a finesse army, but it's an army where you have to master the basics of the game. Master the basics, right? Positioning, application of force, and it doesn't have many tricks. The tricks it does have, when you master them, Stormcast are an excellent army. The problem is that the Age of Sigmar doesn't teach you the basics. It doesn't even teach you what the basics are, because every army is so freaking weird and different and plays in its own unique way. Like Ironjaw has approached the game, and the players who play it learn the game in a very different way than a Lumineth player would learn it, or a KO player would learn it, or a Zinch player would learn it. They all have a different skill set. Stormcast are the one that has, like, our skill set is the core rules.
Yep.
And we and to be somewhat good with this army, you have to master them. And that's a steep learning curve because nothing else in the game teaches you that. And I'm not trying to like pump ourselves up as some masters of the game or anything like that. It's just like
it's just you have to know the core rules properly, and you have to learn other armies properly. Most armies can coast by on like, here's this weird BS tricky thing that I do, and I'm gonna spam this, and it's okay if you do your tricky thing, but my tricky thing will eventually run over. For us, it's like, how do I avoid their tricky thing while also taking out the correct target so that I can eventually win?
Yeah. Chat, what do you guys think about Stormcast in the upcoming season? Leave your thoughts because I kind of want to know what you guys think too. Like I'm always worried that we're kind of in like an ivory tower talking to other competitive players, and I just want to know what regular people think about this sort of thing. So leave your thoughts about that while we keep discussing it.
Don't worry, I'll bring you guys down.
Thank you, James.
I'm always trying to be conservative about Stormcast as well, because like, we're only so good, and if we're talking to just the competitive scene, our average like people are gonna be not like that average players are bad, but like it's definitely harder to optimize a Stormcast list than like an Ogre's list or even a Lumineth list.
Yeah, crafting a Stormcast list is a lot of fine tuning, right? This is why a lot of our unit rankings are based on that, right? Like the fact that Knight Relictor is a B, and he has maybe the worst War Scroll aside from the Relic Maul, obviously, but maybe the worst War Scroll in the game. The fact that he's a B tier unit for us, playable and good, and something we would actively seek out, that's shocking, right? But that's just how important a 30-point difference is between one unit and another.
Yeah, like honest in a game wide scenario, when you look at priests and what they do in this game, a 3-up prayer a guy on a 3-up prayer would be absolute dog shit. Like he does nothing for the army other than a 3-up prayer.
Yeah.
It's just so sad, and it's like, and that's where a lot of our heroes are, and the heroes that are good, the ones that like you're like, ooh, okay, it's a good primary ability, a second ability. If it's not the Knight Incanter, it's just like, why am I bothering? Like, why is the Lord Arcanum on Talaran with a damage cap of like 14 is a 250-point unit? It's like, I was really like, it's like, man, when you were talking about how the Arcanum on Talaran could be like 230, 220 and be fine, I was like, nah, man, you're crazy. And now I look at it at like 12 wounds, 3-up save, and a damage cap of like 16, and it's like, oh, okay. And that's if all your rules go perfectly.
I am very rarely wrong with when I predict how many points things should be.
I know. I remember you saying Indrasa and Bastion should be like 250, 240, and I'm like, no, you're. And now I'm like, yeah, they should be 250.
As soon as I saw the line of Altharion, I was like, yep, all the points are out the window. We're just going. Like, bring them down. Bring them down.
It's just the heroes. That hero roster just needs to.
A
Yep.
few of our hammers and screens and stuff could come down. I think all of our redeemers could come down 10 points just to encourage Stormkeep builds more.
No. I think Vanquishes and Libs should be the same points, and Sequitors and Vindictors should be the same points. I think
I think Libs
Yeah,
could be 100.
Sequitors and Victors can be the same points.
I think Libs could be 100.
no, 110. No, Libs and Vanquishers 110.
Sure.
120 for Libs and Vindictors.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sequitors and Vindictors.
Yeah, drop them all
Yep.
by 10. Drop Liberators another 10, so they're 100. And this, I think, just promotes a completely different style of play where you might spam redeemers, and that's something we haven't done before. And let's see how that goes. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know, but let's see it. I predict it won't be very good. But
bring Karaz. I think Kronda should be more than Karazai, personally. But
I think they should both be 500. I think they're good in their own ways, and you got to treat them differently.
I think Unique really holds them back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Really does, yeah.
Unique really holds them back.
Because like the small point changes here and there and all these units will be like, okay, great, now we can bring another battle mage, or we can bring a second knight incantor, which will really, really help in an external win rate.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that's necessary.
Right.
I honestly don't know if any of this is necessary. So like I said, make these changes and we can be S tier. Maybe we don't need to be. Obviously, nothing should be S tier. But like it would feel a lot better. It feels really constrained whenever you play a game.
No, it would feel like a good point where like a 3-2 player could probably go 4-1 easier, and a 4-1 player wouldn't feel bad going into any of the S tier armies and has a reasonable chance of going 5-0. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like it's still a high skill ceiling army, but it just lets you perform that slightly bit better. It's like it's a bit of a leg up. Because we did let's be real about it. We did receive some healthy nerfs because like I know plus 5 points doesn't seem like much, but when overall in your list it's like a plus 30, plus 40 increase, that's like for us it's a lot.
I had a wacky 4 chariot list that went up 55 points.
Who was running chariots? What's the use percentage on chariots? Like less than 5%? I was running annihilators. Why did they go down? They have a 2% use rate. Yeah. Nobody else is running them.
Let's check out what chat's saying. I think Stormcaster, finesse army, and the average player like myself will probably go 3-2 most of the time from Conste. Conste? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Like that's a fine place for an average player to be with an army.
Mm-hmm. That's a good result. That's not a bad result at all.
Yeah, higher than 50% win rate.
Yeah.
Artorius Rex says, being one of the only armies that can effortlessly bring great sharpshooters is a huge leg up, I think, because this season will teach people to be careless with their characters, and Stormcast will be there to take advantage.
Maybe next season, it'll feel a lot better.
I think definitely we're one of the few sharpshooter armies, because I don't know I think we had this discussion in our last live stream, and I think like who wants to take sharpshooters, and the answer is it's literally just us. I think like
maybe Lumineth.
Maybe Lumineth.
Probably want Battle Regiment more though.
Probably not.
Yeah, Battle Regiment
kind of one. Yeah, Bat Reg is too good. I think it's literally just us, and then maybe like Cities of Sigmar will not take. We'll take sharpshooters.
Yeah.
You think Doc might want to if they go towards?
No.
You don't think they'll bring any bow snakes in the Witch Elf?
They will bring bow snakes. I think people might try Marathi with 10 bow snakes as opposed to 15. And I think like a normal melee non-Marathi list can probably run 10 just to try and delete some screens before the Witch Elves have a chance to engage. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I just don't think they're going to be like the focus. And they're definitely not going to go in sharpshooters. I don't think you do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was like.
Actually,
it's like the only other army.
If you're going multiple drops with like a Warlord or a Command Entourage with the non-Marathi build, because that typically takes 4 heroes, you could go sharpshooters. It's not the worst idea in the world.
Will Seraphon take sharpshooters?
Yeah, skinks can just murder everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seraphon's an efficiency battle. All of their units are below average without buffs. They're above average with buffs, and they want to take good trades, kind of like Stormcast. It's not that dissimilar from a Stormcast playstyle where you just play the basics really well. They just have a ton of tricks on top of the basics.
Yeah.
Chameleon Skinks, I think, can take advantage of sharpshooters pretty well because they're more wind shooters at the end of the day. Yeah.
I wanted to see Fabian said 3-2 for an average player is really good. That's A- tier. That means a good player can 4-1 reliably and top player 5-1 on a regular basis. I actually think it's a little different than you might think. I think that the average player that goes to a tournament going 3-2 is about like where you're putting your 4-1 person. Like I if you watch even our content, you're automatically like more invested in this game than anyone, that's just playing like like for funsies, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like I think like just to put it in a little more perspective, like top player 5 on a regular basis, I think it's actually, where the 4-1's going to be. I think if you move everything down a tier from where you're thinking, I think that puts it more in perspective of where our tier list is, just to kind of help
Yeah,
out
the
with
average player needs a little bit of luck to go 3-2 as well.
that. Mhm.
4-1 is when that average player becomes really good at the game and understanding all the other
Yeah,
armies. and how to
4-1
counter them.
is
And then
really
you
good
need
for
real luck or like really good mechanics and points to get to 5-0.
Good matchups,
Yeah.
good battle plans.
Good match. Yeah, exactly.
5-0 is
terrain.
about taking advantage of opportunities, not like your real it's about your skill, but it's also taking advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves. That's what makes
Yeah, I mean,
the five-
sometimes
like,
it's just
5-0
armies.
happen.
Like it's like Hero Phase Dragons going 5-0. Like everyone knows why they were doing 5-0.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general,
yeah.
as a general concept. But
Nah, you guys
Yeah.
are wrong. This is all just cope. You guys are all bad players coping that you can't get 5-0 all the time.
I just 5-0 recently. Thank you.
Admit I'm a bad player.
Chase says Stormcast A- B+. The game has shifted around us as more people get their books, but for this particular season, I lean towards the A-. Okay,
I
that's a fair
agree.
take.
Yeah,
That's where
that's a
I'm
fair
at
take.
with you, Chase.
Honest and Chase, like, please, everyone, please, write to AOS FAQ to make them drop hero because if they drop hero points. Oh, baby.
Yeah, dude, we'll be set. Yeah,
We'll be A.
I don't think we'll
A
be
minus
broken.
to A. Yeah.
No, I think we'll be A+.
It just feels good. I would feel good about this army because what I'm really getting jealous of is not even the power level of the enhancements, it's the flavor. I feel like Slaves of Darkness just have that flavor in their enhancements that makes me really excited to play them. Somebody
we
gifted
can't
me a
even
set.
take our cool tools.
Yeah, and I just
We
feel like
two.
and I have to like make up stories in my head to feel good about playing a Starcast army. It's like, come on, man, give me like a cool artifact or like command trait or something. I don't know.
Fabian in the chat. That's the reason I think Slaves to Darkness are A tier. I think they're easy to play, so they won't have many bad results. Even if there is a ceiling and they'll struggle to 5-0. Yo, that's totally fair. They're going to have a good win rate because they're going to always go
3-2 pretty consistently.
That's
yeah.
still like
least.
C tier. Like I think we put Gargants at B tier last season for the same reason, though. Is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're still
if
gonna
it's-
have
if you're
like,
a solid 3-2 army and you're putting up
Yeah.
50% win rates because of that, that's your B tier. Idnet is in there for the same reason.
But what that
Yeah, I think-
means is that Slaves to Darkness will never get nerfed or buffed. They will sit exactly as they are.
That's
and
actually
and in competitive scene, Splintered Fang are obnoxious beyond belief. They're
Mhm.
such a broken unit. Just their point cost is too low. Make them like 140, 150. Hopefully that gets fixed, but if it does, their win rate's going to drop a lot because the competitive end of that distribution will just shrink. But all like the people playing Knights and Chosen and no cultists at all, those are going to be the bottom end of the distribution. So yeah, you'll see the win rate just shift, and that's not warranted, right? Like that's a big reason. One of the reasons you make changes in this game is for internal balance reasons, but another one's obviously external. Like if the army is at 50, why would you nerf it? Or
why would
or
you
buff
touch it at all?
Yeah, just leave it. It's fine.
Like Stormcast. Anyways,
yeah, well, that's why we probably won't see the changes that we're lobbying for.
Yeah. Andrew's like tier list of most flavorful books,
You
dude. We'll
could
be here
write
for another
them.
2 hours. Like
We're at the top of the ITC. You could write them. Well, Danny and I are at least.
Okay.
One,
Looking
two.
at this tier list, is there anything last minute we would want to change? Because I kind of want to just pin this in our Discord for discussion.
this is good. I don't think anything has changed from when we put it in. We did a pretty good analysis of where everything stands in relation to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like this. This is a pretty good list. Publish it.
Sorry, James, what'd you say?
Me personally, I just don't agree with where Skaven is, but it's fine where it is.
Can I hear your take on Skaven? Because there's a bunch of Skaven at our store, right? There's at least 2 players. What do you think about them?
I don't know. They have a lot of tricks, and like the first thing that I learned about was a crap ton of mortals on the Doom wheels, but nobody obviously plays Doom wheels nowadays.
The
But
list is kind of memey.
yeah,
I know the one you're talking about, the Master Clan.
yeah.
Wheels. Yeah.
No, I don't think Skaven are particularly oppressive on any front right now. I think while they will have board presence with the clan rats, I still think that they'll be pretty easy to get off the table. I played a game with them with IDNF. I didn't bring bounty hunters. It was a battle reg list, and I was able to finesse around them and win that game. So
I'm totally inclined to agree with you. That's been my experience as well. But I haven't played that much of them lately since they got the new book, pretty much.
I think they're one of those armies that there's a wide gulf between players who play Skaven because they're skilled players who like Skaven, and then there's players who like Skaven because rat men are just cool. as shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll agree with you there.
don't name drop.
Skaven
We're
and
not name
Gitz are
dropping.
2 armies. You've got to
Yeah,
love
yeah,
each other.
so
You
we're
got to
not
love
calling out
No
them.
anyone.
names. No names. And I'm not saying I don't know these people, so like obviously I don't know what your local meta. They might be really good. I have no idea. But what I'm saying is it's one of those armies where you need to be careful because a lot of people pick up the army for its flavor. And Gits will suffer from this too. Their win rate might not just spike up to 65. I mean, all the spikes will pick it up, but it's an army that's beloved by many because of how crazy and like cool looking it is.
Yeah.
And
Players
Skaven has
always
that.
have the best painted armies.
Yes.
do.
So like yes, Gits players have some really cool hobbyists behind them. Skaven is also one of those like collectors armies where like it's just such a cool army to have that a lot of people just have them, but that doesn't mean they necessarily will know how to optimize them. And it's the same reason slaves will see this like weird up and down thing too, because it's such an easy army to collect and people like big dudes in armor.
It's the reason why we got nerfs in the last battle scroll while we have a 48% win rate.
Yeah, we will continue to see points increases because people just have a lot of Stormcast.
We will adapt. We will blot out the sky with Terra wings. We will be fine.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, but Skaven is really strong. Like they can play shooting well, they can play magic well. They can melee actually. They have a good set of melee tools and they have a lot of tricks.
Yeah.
Heroes that can't be shot, Warpfire Flamers that unleash hell. They have a lot of movement tricks too, like Laukon with Thankwol. They can appear through the null holes. That Packmaster can whip the Rat Ogres for plus 6 inch to charge from a deep strike position from a null hole. Like, yeah, it's like you will lose to Skaven if you don't know all their tricks and don't account.
I want to see it, man. I want to play against Skaven. I want to find some good.
No,
Skaven.
Honestly, if you were here, like
I'm not doubting it. I'm genuinely.
Yeah.
You
remember Carl from the Ignite review, right? I think, in my opinion, he's one of the better Skaven players. I think it'd be really interesting to find him.
Dude, out of all the armies that are on here, I'm most scared of Skaven, Gitz, and probably Nighthaunt.
Nighthaunt scares me because when they because I've been playing Annihilator lists all year, and it's like, oh man, if they spike those 4-ups, I'm dead. Like I'm just.
And I think Artorias makes a good point. Skaven have strong plays in every phase of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every phase, even Battle Shock.
Yep. Yeah,
they get right back.
it's
Combined
like
arms
Seraphon in a weird sort of variation on Seraphon, you could say.
They're Chaos Seraphon, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, you're selling me on it.
Yeah, because they're like Seraphon. They can play Elite or they can play Horde. They can mix match that. Like they like to do different things. And there's not even just like one build of Skaven that does that. There's multiple ways to play Skaven that are good. They're actually very similar to us in that sense, where they have packages that they can just insert into their army.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still rather play Skaven than Seraphon though.
I don't know. I was gonna say yes until I saw the new Seraphon models, and now I'm gonna play Seraphon.
Stormkeep is go. We were gonna do a counter Seraphon until it became obvious that their time in the sun was ending, and then a new book was coming. Yeah.
Publish a slide. Kill the Star Priest.
Kill the Star Priest is the big one. Do that, and the army crumbles. Okay, I want to ask you guys. I think the last thing. It's getting pretty late here. Is Feck really that bad? That's on its own tier.
No, dude, there's I'm telling you.
It suffers from the OBR problem, in my opinion. I think like you can get caught off guard if you're not prepared for them, but it's such a poor army because they were made to spam command points and they can't. Everything in that army that is knight level, which is their hammer units, by the way, have a 5-up save. They don't have any like we come in like their flares can deep strike all around the board, but they don't have any pluses to charge. They have recursion, but it's not that great recursion.
It's maybe the worst kind of recursion.
I don't know.
And their Ren sucks. I don't think anything in the army is like -2 Ren. Maybe the one attack on the 3 attacks on the Terrorgeist.
Yeah, it's like a Terrorgeist attack. Sure.
Yeah, that's it. But like,
think of the criteria for a tier list. This would be like a 2-3 army. Does that sound like Feck, or is Feck like a 1-4?
Yeah, it's a 2-3-3-2 with some.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe. I think they're C tier. All right, hot take here. I think that Feck is like the Iron Jaws of C tier, where they will just dominate all of C tier. And they like sit.
I'm not gonna feel bad if you put them in C tier. I think they're D tier because here's the other problem, right? They rely so much on their summoning. If you take out their heroes, if you take turn 1, and I've done this to a Feck player.
Well, this is true. Yeah.
It's just they're dead. They're just
but it's the same. That's the thing. Like you're still like doing a specific action that counters them. That's okay in C tier. Like all these other C tier armies have the similar weakness. And also, here's the other thing. Is that Feck has gotten so many points drops right now. They're 60% of the way, to being beasts. Honestly, like they're like getting there.
I mean,
They're
okay,
already
like,
most of the way there.
but sure, but it's like I don't know. They could get there, but I don't know if I'd rate. Oh, you can just spam the board with 400 wounds as a like. If you have to make an army do that, I'm not saying
I'm
they're not.
just
They won't be good.
no. I'm just saying
That's
like
how
in their
Beast was good.
strength.
No, I
like,
know Beast. Obviously, Beast was good, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if you have to make an army do that, like we still need that change to happen, in my opinion. But if you have to make an army do that, I just don't think that's a good army right now.
No, it's
Beast was
and it's
the
not. But it's like
yeah.
Beasts again. Like it's
I mean,
If
I would
it
say
wins,
I would
it
have said
wins.
Beast was D tier.
Yeah, if
I would
it
have
wins,
said Beast
it wins.
was
That's
D
the
tier.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of
Okay.
the armies in the game right now are 1/4 territory.
Yeah, there's
I
nothing
don't.
that bad. I think this might be the best balance the game has ever been. The
Yes.
S tier is
Yeah,
not
I mean, you
wildly
can
ahead of it.
yeah, you can move. It's fine. You can move them up. I don't
Yeah.
care. But it's like, can they beat Khorne? I don't know. I think Khorne can pretty much match them summoning wise because they'll just like kill
Yeah,
the summon
I
units and
think they're
generate
on
more
equal
blood.
terms though. That's the thing. It's like I think
Yeah.
they're pretty much equal. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
I'll just the reason I'll say that is because what they really want to be doing is all out attack and the
Double
frenzy
fight.
Feeding
feast,
frenzy.
whatever.
Yeah, feeding
Yeah,
frenzy.
at the same time, and they can't do that.
Which
That's
just
what I'm
saying currently in 3.0 doesn't work like it used to because you can't remove models before they fight again, which is hilarious. They can't double
Yeah,
pile
that's true.
past
I hadn't
stuff.
thought about that.
It's really funny, but I try not to mention it because it's like, dude, why am I gonna kick these guys while they're down?
Yeah,
It's just me.
sure.
Yeah, so I don't put it in any of the packs or anything because I'm like, dude, this is just rude.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
Freaking
feeding
3.0.
frenzy needs to just happen instead of for a CP. Like you just do it with one unit. Every
Maybe
turn.
it's not worth considering what needs to happen with Feck.
Yeah.
Sure. They're gonna get a new book in like 3
No,
months.
they're gonna be
It's
great.
fine.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we can analyze other
Yeah.
armies that are more important. Okay.
Yeah, Fabian, that's
I think-
about where we're at. Is S tier is like a
Yeah,
5.
but okay, yeah. Otherwise, I think 3.0 balance is pretty good.
Yeah. There's not this is not second edition poor balance, right? Like this is fine. It's not unplayable. The game's fun, flavorful.
Yeah.
We're
So my
talking
last
minor gripes
question
here.
to you guys, like maybe we can lightning round it, is what does the ideal like our tier list here? Because we keep a pretty objective tier list where we're not like we don't spread the armies from S to F so that like there is always an army in each tier. What does the ideal spread in the game look like to you?
How do you mean?
We'll go Paul. Like what is the ideal spread? Like most units in what tier? Like second most units, like maybe third most units, if even a third tier at all.
What do you mean by most units?
Are you talking about the units in an army or factions?
No, sorry, most units. Sorry. The fact. So like in each tier, what does the ideal tier list look like to you?
I would say ideally everything should be in A tier.
Not everything in A tier.
Yeah,
because B
it's
tier is
kinda
not
where I'm
that far off. I think my ideal would be everything's in A or B. Nothing outside of that.
James.
I'm gonna agree with Paul here.
All right, Murgok, you
I
stick
mean,
with
in
A.
an ideal world, I think everything should be A tier, but I think realistically, shooting for everything in A or B and then player skill accounting for the rest is pretty good. I don't think anything should be in S. I don't think anything should be in C. S is mechanically winning the game with your rules. C is might be a good player, but mechanically you're getting beaten by the rules. So it's like
Or points. Let's say also
Or
points. Yeah.
Sure.
You know, it's funny. I actually agree with Artorias. I was about to bring that up. I think everything should be B tier. I think everything should be like you should have to work pretty hard for a 5.0. I think that would
to
be
me
the best
that means
version of
there's
the game.
too
for
much
me.
randomness in the game.
Is it okay?
But if,
That's fair.
But if everything
That's
is B tier, what?
Well,
Then
like as
nothing
far
is.
as like
You can just
what
say
we're
everything is
talking-
A tier.
Well, that's like saying like everyone. No. Like look at our objective rankings. I'm saying that like ideally the average player should be able to 3-2. The average competitive player
Sure.
Okay.
But
is what I'm going with.
good players, there's more than just average players. There's good players
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's worse players, right? If the
Oh,
good
no,
players
there's going to be.
regularly 4-1 and it's because of their faction, then that's an A tier faction. And they will, because you'll face bad players, you'll beat average players, right?
Yeah.
If
And you'll
everything's
have
B
luck.
tier, you're playing
Yeah.
Hearthstone at that point. There's too much RNG.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, let's close the stream off with that. Thank you all very much for tuning into this extra long live stream, but it's been fun. We'll try to do a realm report sometime later this month, looking at tournaments and
Yep.
seeing how this stuff is
Finally,
gonna
now
evolve.
that we have tournaments.
Yep.
Why am I always here for the long ones?
You make them long, baby. That's what it is. Thanks for sticking around, James. Appreciate you coming. And I'll see you after I get back from Mexico, buddy. Thank you, everybody.
good.
Have a great night. Thank you, Kaiju Gaming. Thank you, our patrons. You guys are great. You guys got Murgok a new mic, which you can almost see on camera there. Thank
And
you
join
all.
our Discord.
Yes, please join the Discord. It's the best community, and I'm biased, but whatever. It's the best.
Yeah,
I
if you
really
like
like
this
our
kind of
community.
talk, we like the subjective, like statistical talk. It's the best. You guys are the bomb.
Thank you, everybody. Have yourselves a great night.
Adios.
Nearly 4 hours.